just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar, and brought to you by our friends over at KO, our friends absolutely over at Sportsbet. We will be going to Vegas.
Yes.
It will be great. Walk us through that, Hammy. Vegas.
As the old saying goes, what happens in Vegas gets filmed and turned into content and published for the wider audience to enjoy. So
They always say that.
looking forward to it.
They always say that.
Very good.
Got the big fella Roo here. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. Vegas 8 days away. Cannot wait.
And I tell you what, look at that hat you're wearing. People might be going, Kempy, your skin's popping. It's just popping. And I tell you why, it's popping. I'm in the CBA gear. That's right. Next Monday, 6 p.m., the CBA gear drops. We got T-shirts, brand new design T-shirts. We got hats this year, brand new design hats. I'm wearing the white and blue shirt, but we've also got, that you would have seen me wearing, the black and white shirt here. The new design, could be anything. And then I'll show you the back of the blue and white shirt. Wowee.
Yep.
Wowee. There it is. There it is. So we've also got a black hat and a blue hat. So that is next Monday at 6 p.m. Extremely limited numbers, guys. These are collector's items, man. So each year, obviously, we'll do a new design. This is year 2. I hope you like the design. I love this shirt. I think we've really landed in regards to like design, unique bloke design of the shirt. Like it's the cut. I think we've landed perfectly where I want to be. Beautiful shirts, guys. That's next Monday at 6 p.m. Later in the show, Roo is going to be announcing his 2025 CBAs for the year. Before we get into it, do not forget, hit that like and subscribe, guys. Matter of fact, last week, the season preview, it is tracking to be our biggest ever episode by far. Matty, is it still on track? Well, I know the YouTube has nearly already passed, and you can confirm this in a second. I think the YouTube has already nearly passed last year's YouTube. That's been around for a whole year.
Yep.
And that's all thanks to you guys. So it has already passed?
Yep.
Boom, on YouTube, we've already passed it. And that's all thanks to you guys liking and subscribing to our YouTube and our Spotify. It genuinely does help our content when you hit that like button and you subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. So please do that. We'd really appreciate it. And as I said, next Monday, 6 p.m., the Could Be Anything merch drops. Set your alarms. Extremely limited numbers this year, guys. Really, really limited numbers. Timmy, how was your weekend, mate?
I thought you were going to brush me there for a second, mate.
Oh, mate, I've been doing this for too long, mate. Just trust the process.
Right. Good save. I'm good. I'm actually states bound mid this week, so get through a bit of work and then I'm taking off and getting in early.
Mid this week?
Yeah.
That's a piss take if I ever saw one, hey?
Well, mate, I'll be working over there. I'm all business.
Oh, yeah, Taxman, don't watch this show. Don't watch this show.
What business are you attending to in the Yosemite National Park?
It's CBA week. I'm looking for a few potential CBAs.
Oh,
A few
my
potential
God.
forest rangers out there that
Mate,
show a bit of toe.
Can't
I tell
argue
you
that.
what, people complain about billionaires not paying their taxes. Complain about Timmy not paying his taxes.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Going to Vegas on the people's dime. Even though he's paying for himself. No, all jokes aside. What is the plan, Timmy, going over there? You can obviously follow both Guru and Timmy on socials to stay up to date. What are you doing when you're heading over there, mate?
Yeah, so get all the regular SC Playbook content, Supercoach stuff, obviously a big period of the year out before we go. It'll all be recorded, so nothing changes in that regard. Heading to, the Yosemite National Park, a couple of mates just for a few nights before Vegas to do a bit of hiking, a bit of a look around.
That will be sick.
Yeah,
That will
so
be
really
actually
looking
sick.
forward to that. And then I'll be in Vegas from Sunday, and that's when we get down to business. And, Rue's the expert, been there and done it, so I'll be, taking his reign a little bit, getting a bit of content over there.
What am I, chopped liver, mate?
Doing some live shows over there, all that, so it's exciting.
Yep. So make sure to stay tuned. You can subscribe to follow the Roo and Timmy on their Instagram, SC Playbook and Rugby League Guru. And hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Let's get into it. It's time to face a bit of music, brought to you by our friends over at Sportsbet. And as Hammy just alluded to earlier, or said earlier, we will be heading over, myself and Hammy, with Sportsbet to try to bring you the best content possible in Vegas.
Yep, can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Been a while, boys, since we've done a sort of Monday show all together. So a few chickens have come home to roost in Face the Music. Now, the last week that we put our tips in, it was literally Face the Music. We had Triple J's Hottest 100. And geez, didn't we show how in tune we are with the kids out there with this one? Because none of us hit the board with our outright Hottest 100 selections, not one.
Yeah, you know what? I actually think as a sports fan, that's actually almost like a badge of honour.
Yep.
Like we don't get music, but we get rugby league to a degree.
How Hammy, didn't you go like $1.20 favourite?
Well, so this is in the outright. None of us hit.
Okay.
But you're quite right, Timmy, that one of us did nail the top Aussie artist. And it was a hard-earned $1.37 win for
Oh,
me.
yeah.
So the only person to pick up a point from Triple J's Hottest 100 was this guy.
Have you taken time to reflect on that disgusting punning going a favourite and something like that?
Well, I just liked what I saw from Royal Lotus this year. I thought they this was their year to be the top Aussie artist,
Oh
and
my
they came
God.
this close to winning the whole thing.
Oh my
So get around me. A point for me there.
Yuck.
I mentioned a few other chickens have come home to roost since last time we got together. So the first
Come
one,
home to Guroost?
well, yeah, I'm going to save the best till last. Maddie had the Sydney Thunder for the. Actually, no, they lost, didn't they?
They lost in the final. Yeah,
Yeah.
to the fucking the Barts.
The Barts, that's right. Well, hard
Jesus,
times, Matty.
mate.
No point for you. You did get pretty close though. They were $8. Not
Yeah,
bad.
well, it doesn't matter.
Not bad. You got close. But Roo, he did nail one. He had Madison Keys at $31 to win the Ladies Australian Open. So why don't you? 1 point for you as well. So 1
Well
point for me
earned
for Royal Lotus. 1 point for you for Madison Keys.
That is actually that is the same as you betting a favourite, I reckon. That is equal points.
Yeah. Well, I've gone away and I've done a bit of thinking about this. And for the season proper, when we kick off, I'm going to rejig the scoring this year, and we're actually going to decipher it on the odds that you get, because I think
And is Guru going to have a team this year that he has to back each time?
Yeah, how are we going to work this out, though? What are we going to do?
I think take the average of our team last year, and you have to pick that team. So whatever our team's finished, we average it,
Yep.
and then he has to pick that team that finished last year. I think it actually lands on the Dragons.
I'll work it out by the end of the episode.
I will happily take the Dragons.
This year?
Actually, give me the Dragons. Red V's part of me. I'll do the
Okay,
Dragons.
that's
do
the
it.
Red V is your team. The
That's
Red
me
V
for
is
the
your
The
team.
Mad Dragon.
Wow, okay.
All right. Well, there
No
you go.
excuses, though.
Hey,
When I go back to back, no excuses. Okay? No, carry on.
Hammy, do I get my point for the Oz Open?
What did you have?
I had Alexander Zverev, who got done in the final,
Oh
but
my
Yannick
God.
I got done in the final.
Yeah, but Yannick Sinner has since been done for a drug. He's got a
Yeah.
drug
oh,
ban.
here we go.
Just
Well,
put it out there.
That is weak. Like, starting the year with that kind of crap
Yeah.
is unbelievable from you,
There's a
Timmy.
bit of
He knocked a bunch of other blokes out before he got into the finals. They could have won it.
There's a bit of stress from Kempy over here. Isn't there? A few early season nerves I'm sensing.
As I've always said, I stand with Wada, so I'm going to impose the ban on him after the tournament.
Yeah. yeah.
So no, unfortunately for you, mate. Even though it was a $9 bet.
Can we walk, like, tell me how it makes sense that the ban is imposed after and he's not stripped of everything?
It makes no sense.
Like, to explain to me how, like, did the drugs only turn up after the time that he was playing in the Oz Open? I just don't get it.
Well, they said it was incidental, wasn't it? It was through some sort of like deep.
But there's
heat
been
style
plenty
cream.
of incidental.
I know.
Trainers gave him too much of something,
In
right?
the
Don't shoot the
same
messenger.
statement, though, in the same statement that they say it's incidental, they say it's his responsibility that he's in
Yeah.
entourage. And hang on a sec, if you're earning $10 to $30 million a year, like, you're not some butler that's a semi-professional athlete that's going to his local supplement store and getting, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're worth tens of millions of dollars. And look, maybe instead of tens of millions, it's just he's worth $10 million. You have enough money to make sure you're getting the proper supplements.
Yeah.
It happened before the Oz Open as well.
Ridiculous. Like, genuinely. And you know what? King Curious, he's right.
He's got a point.
He's right.
Yep.
Like, he's got a point. Look, and he's the only one that's got the fucking kahunas to speak truth to power.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
look, sometimes he might say some things wrong or right. I don't know. But this time, I think he's right.
In conclusion, Nick Kyrgios does have a point. Timmy does not have a point. Sorry, mate.
That's all right.
No
We're
point for
talking
you.
back later.
I tell you what, though, if we are totally wrong off base, if there's any tennis snuffies out there, let us know in the comment section if there is more to this case that we don't know. And we will happily be like, you know what, got that wrong. But just like as a casual observer, seems pretty strange.
It does. Seems very odd. Can't
Happy
argue
to
with
say
that.
I got it wrong, though, next week, but seems very strange.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. Overall, 2025, Matty and Denon, both on 5 points, leading out in front. Timmy and Roo, 4. Myself, 3. But third week of pre-season challenge is where I've always done my best work. So I'll probably claw up a bit this week. And then we've got Vegas. And obviously the first big punishment of the year will be getting spanked at the Heart Attack Grill on the
Yes.
Sunday after the game. So a little bit to play
Is
for
that really
here.
a punishment?
Well, you know. Oh, no, I lost.
Damn, I picked all the
Oh, no. But anyway, that'll be our first punishment of the year. So that's coming up.
Damn, I picked the Tigers 13 plus.
That's a good bet.
No wonder you said you do your best work in the third week of preseason, 'cause that's like Tigers grand final.
Yeah, let's go. Giddy up. Got robbed yesterday.
Standing
We'll get to
O's.
him.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to it, but we got robbed yesterday.
Of course, we'll get to
Riffed
it.
out of it. Again. 2025. So anyway, we'll get to it. But that's the leaderboard at this point. But looking forward to it. Vegas, first proper punishment.
There
Very
you
good.
go. Make sure to give us a follow on the feed, guys. Got plenty of multis going on this year as well.
Yes, and just very quickly, the ladder, the top 8, you can multi-teams together. They've increased it to, you can put up to 4 teams in there to build a bit of a multi out of what teams are going to finish in the 8. It's just gone live this morning. So get on there.
That's juicy.
And get amongst it.
That's good. 4 teams to make the 8.
Yep.
Oh, I like that.
Yep.
I like that. So give us a follow on the feed, guys, because Rugby League is here, and we'll be putting our multis up. You can copy them, and also just shout out to the punter that out of nowhere. So apparently, bloke was the leader of the feed, thanks
Yep.
to you guys, but some just random punter.
Yep.
He created his own feed that you can copy, that you can follow yourself. Anyway, he did 2 crazy multis.
Yes.
So you walk us through it.
Through the basketball.
Yeah.
He was seeing them like basketballs. He hit 2 enormous multis. They were up around the $30, $40 mark.
Yeah.
This bloke's out now on about 30,000 followers. He's gone to the top.
The people have just gone, let's get around the average punter.
They've got around him. I think
Yep.
Snave is the name of the...
Get
the
around
guy.
Snave. Get
Mate,
around Snave.
He went on a bit of a tear there, so he's now the most followed on the feed.
There you go. But we love to hear that.
We do.
Love to. We're men of the people.
Bit of competition for you.
Yeah, and
finally.
look, but it's okay. I want I'm a fan of Sneap.
Yep.
I'm a fan of Sneap. So love that. Love that. So that's the beauty of the feed. You can have situations like that where you can go from just an average punter to the king of the feed in like literally 2 massive multis.
Yep.
Massive thank you to our friends over at Sportsbet. Alrighty, it's time for our hungriest player. Brought to you by our friends over at Menulog. This week's hungriest player is Jesse Arthurs. That's right. Use code Arthurs, ARTHARS, for most likely free delivery. Minimum spend $30. But we will stay tuned for what exactly you get for the code. First of all, let's talk about Jesse Arthurs. I think also it's a bit of a wider discussion about how fit the Broncos players looked. You look at across the trials, they went really well. Granted, it's trials. We all actually just quickly disclaimer.
let's get this out of the way.
Yeah, let's get this out of the way. Let's get it. Rue already knows what I'm about to say. Disclaimer: yes, we understand it is just trials, guys, but we can only go off the information we've got so far. In 2 weeks' time, if a team that was going really well is going really crap, that is a very, very, there's a high chance that could happen. But if we just sat there each week going, oh, well, it's only round 1, it's only round 2, the show would be about 3 minutes long each week until we got to around 20 or so. So we understand that. That's a disclaimer. Yes, we understand they're just trials. Alrighty. Anyway, back into it. I think that Jesse Arthurs, don't get me wrong, individual performance was outstanding, especially with the year. You actually go back to the grand final. He was one of the best on ground for me.
At halftime, I thought he was going to win a Clive. I genuinely thought
He was
gonna win a Clive.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so that year, 2023, he was the one that was really pushing Oatsy and had an incredible season and arguably probably the most unsung hero of the backline. Herbie got a lot of love. Obviously, Reece got a lot of love. Selwyn got a lot of love. Whereas Jesse Arthurs was really getting through his work. Had a bit of a quiet year last year, like the rest of the Brisbane Broncos. Then you look at his performance, you look at Willison's performance, you look at the Broncos in general. They look fit. They look super fit and strong in contact. And Jesse Arthurs, he was unbelievable. Like even just his the try that he scored. Like granted, I know that the person he scored it on is not the biggest winger, but just that strength in contact. It's not easy to do that. And it's outstanding try, outstanding performance from Jesse Arthurs. What did you think, mate?
Is he one of the most underappreciated players in the game?
I'll tell you what he's underappreciated in. Roasty's Hot 100. Jesse Arthur's nowhere to be seen, I don't think, in the top 10.
No.
An absolute outrage. I mean, those blonde tips, they're doing it.
They are. One thing you can't argue with, though, is Herbie going back-to-back. I think well
Can't
deserved.
argue with that. Yeah.
Really well deserved.
Well deserved there. Technically still a Bronco, to my understanding. So Broncos, I think, took 4 out of the top 5. But it is what it is.
Okay.
Anyway, back to it. Jesse Arthurs. Yeah, I mean, he is at his best. He absolutely does go underappreciated, in my opinion.
Yeah, as we said, in the grand final, I thought he was fantastic. Heading into halftime, I genuinely thought he was going to get the Clive. He was amazing. Obviously, that night played out the way it did. But last year was a little bit of a down year. But yeah, the other night, all the Broncos, they just had an extra yard in them.
And I guess, like, if you're going to be glass half empty, you'd be like, are they peaking too early? Like, are they too fit too soon? I don't know. At the very least, they all look super fit and strong. But Jesse Arthurs specifically, what do you think, Timmy?
Yeah, he was awesome in this one. And put it this way, like to win a man of the match from the wing, it happens so rarely in any big game of football. So
Especially a low-scoring game like that as well.
in the conditions as well, like a tough night for wingers, quite wet, quite like very, very tough. Yeah, amazing in 2023. Definitely a down year last season. And in his defence, the entire Broncos outfit had a down year. When that happens, it's tough for a winger to stand out and have a big season. So a big one for them and Jesse Arthurs. The signs are good, as you said, across a number of Broncos players who featured across the weekend in different games. The Madge effect was there to see, wasn't it? They looked fit, they looked sharp, they looked strong. So, positive signs for you.
Absolutely. So I'm really excited to see Jesse Arthurs this year. I think he's still only like 25, 26. I was always a bit surprised when the Broncos were just like, yeah, you can go to the Warriors. And because like he's 26, like at the very least, he's almost similar to Ponga at the Roosters, where you've just got this gun backup ready to go, can play multiple positions. I mean, he could even play fullback at a pinch. He can play centre, wing, potentially fullback at a pinch if you need to put him back there. And so like, he's perfect for a squad. So that's just at him at his, at average. Him at his best, he's a problem on the wing, like a genuine problem. We already spoken about it, but that grand final, he was, some of the carries he took were like some of the bravest you'll see, with guys absolutely flying off the line. What did you think of Jesse Arthur's performance, mate?
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, they did all look really, I got to say, ready to roll. All the Broncos players across the weekend, but unbelievable. Like, what a great accolade for him to kind of have for the rest of his career now. Preston Campbell medal winner. Very special award to kind of win. So, and yeah, to do it from the wing, like pretty remarkable in a low scoring game too. But looks ready to roll. And you're right, probably last year a little bit of a down year, but again, that was a lot of players at the Broncos last year. So, potentially with a little bit better prep under their belt heading into this season. They look real sharp, the Broncos as well. We'll get to their game, but he looks ready to roll because his best is like really, really good. As you mentioned, he was huge at the start of the grand final, but looks like he might be set for, a very, very successful year back to his best.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, use code Arthurs for most likely free delivery, minimum spend $30. If not, it'll be, $7 off this or $7 off that. But use code Arthurs, ARTHARS. Incredible game from Arthurs in such an exciting clash. Now, before we get into the All-Stars game, it is time for Guru to name his CBAs, his could be anythings for 2025. And if there's any new listeners, this is what a could be anything is. It's a young fella, or it doesn't necessarily have to be young, but a person that has played a little bit of NRL. They might have played 2-3 games, maybe even 4 or 5 at the most. They are bound to have a big year and potentially even big career. They are the next big things to watch coming out of either reserve grade or some of the youth competitions. Rube, speak to us who you could be anything this year. So what we'll do is we'll name them and then we won't spend the whole segment going through each one. What we'll do is when we get to that game that they played on the weekend or the team that they're a part of, that's when we'll go in a deeper dive as to, why they are the could be anythings.
Yeah, so I've drawn the line in the sand. 5 games is a CBA. So it has to be sub 5 games. The first one, Owen Paddy didn't play on the weekend, but we'll talk about him when we get to the
Played
Raiders.
last weekend, though.
Yep, did very well. Rob Toyer, who we've been talking about for a few years on here from the Roosters. Tom Duffy from the North Queensland Cowboys. Riley Smith from the Parramatta Eels. And the last one, as you said, they don't have to be someone young. Not that this guy's old, but I'm going to go with Jamie Humphries.
Okay. Humphries from the Rabbitohs, moved from the Manly. So they're your 5 could be anythings. Massive congratulations to those boys. We'll try and get in contact with you. Send you your CBA gear. Now, last year, we have to go over a little bit over last year. So it was Kai Pearce-Paul. It was Dean Mariner.
Killed it.
It was
Yeah, it was Ty
Munro,
Munro.
injured.
Yeah, we had Tallis.
Tallis Duncan as well.
Yeah, and Ito.
Yeah. Not bad.
Not bad. To be fair, I think Hammy actually came up with the best of them all, Galvin, and this is where it gets hard. Now, I find it so hard nowadays to work out the year that guys are going to actually play or not. Like Galvin, I just didn't mention him because I thought he won't play this year. He's 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way, but yeah.
I saved Moser till this year. Did we have Willison as well last year?
Might have been an honourable mention. Maybe.
Honourable mention, maybe?
Tough to get them all in, isn't
But
it?
Moser was the same. Well, like, is he going to be this year,
next
year? Yeah.
Well, I'm going to pick Moser this year.
Yep.
I'm going to pick Moser this year.
Can I give you a little smoky this year?
Yeah.
Cut from the Tigers cloth again. So it was Lockie Galvin last year. I think, and we mentioned his brother Luke Lualili last year. I think Kit Lualili this year. He's played 2 games. He played one at the end of 2023, one last year. He's a lock or a middle forward. Runs the ball really hard. I thought he was pretty good. Yes, we'll obviously get to him a little bit later, but I reckon he might be one who could find his way into a bit of regular first grade this year for the Tigers.
Okay.
Yep.
Halasima, he's probably past the point.
Past it. Just.
There's
a few of those Warriors boys that I love, but I think they're just a little bit.
Oh my God. Him on the weekend. Some of those young Warriors forwards is like,
4 games, Halasima.
Okay, still lands under it. Some of those young Warrior forwards, whoa, like serious problem for our opposition. Alrighty, so stay tuned for that. Massive congratulations to those boys. As we get to their teams, we'll go more into depth as to what they offer, predictions as to how they'll go. But that is your class of 2025 CBA, brought to you by the CBA merch, dropping next Monday, 6 p.m. Get around it. All right, let's get into the game, shall we? The All-Star game. Māori beat the Indigenous side 10-6. And I tell you what, look, I just don't know why, for the last couple of years, every time we get close to this game, there's these like whispers of like, should we have this game? Should we not have this game? Does it need to be moved? It's not. Bro, we have to have this game. Like, tell me that wasn't exciting, that game. Please tell me, look me square in the face and be serious and tell me that wasn't exciting. All the way to the death, even the war cries before the game. It was an absolutely outstanding game to watch. And look, I'd be more than happy to get up here and say, if the quality was poor and it wasn't exciting, to say that wasn't that enjoyable. That was an exciting game for me.
Yeah, and I'll take ownership. I had a brief moment last week where I saw Latrell wasn't playing, Cody wasn't playing, Hughes wasn't playing, and I sort of thought, oh, geez, I don't know. But mate, by the end of that game, I just went, you idiot.
You just can't.
This is fantastic. It is such a special event. Maybe it's the fact that we only see it once a year and it's so long between drinks. I don't know, but mate, I love that game the other day. How on earth those guys put in a performance like that in their first hit out of the year?
Crazy.
Like with unlimited subs, for there to be not a point scored in the first half.
You know what I reckon it is? And I'm guilty of this, and I can't believe I didn't like at least try. Like they could say no, but like next year I want to go in and vlog there. I want to go in and film it. I feel like we just don't get enough content out of the camps. I want to hear the stories. I want to hear the story of a young Indigenous fellow that may not have known his history as well, and then he goes into camp and he finds all about his tribe and his lineage and all that stuff, or a young Māori boy, or whatever it is, or girl. And I think that the content coming out, because no clubs are involved, and because Fox have got so many different things going on, I just don't think there's enough content coming out to engage with it. And I think next year, obviously they can say no, but I would love to go into both camps and vlog the whole week, because I reckon it'd be sick. I reckon it'd be sick.
Yeah, it was unreal game, wasn't it? Like, and those that are a bit cynical about it will look at it and go, no tries by half time, 3 tries in the game, a little bit scrappy. But when you look at the NRL trials, we love them because we're footy nerds. But a lot of people out there will be like, too many chopping and changing, it doesn't mean enough. You saw in the All-Stars game in that final 20 minutes when they were gassed out on their feet in the first proper hit out of the season, the intensity and what it meant to these players and how much they wanted to win. You didn't have that across any of the NRL trials, and you never will because it's pre-season. But the All-Stars game, every person out there was playing that like a grand final. And yeah, sure, the quality might not have been there. Firstly, because they're a bunch of players who a lot haven't played together. But that'll happen to every NRL team in round one. You'll be clunky, it happens.
Yeah.
But, from Brent Naden running down the field to chase down Hiroti, I think it was, a moment there, Dane Gagai with a match-winning, knocking the ball out of the hands. There were so many great moments, and just the intensity that had and the hype around that final 10, 15, 20 minutes, it was brilliant.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I mean, look at when the Māori team did win. Like, you see, when was the last time you saw KP up and about like that? Like, would have been probably not last year, but the year before when they finished 5th or 6th.
Yep.
You see a superstar of our game, like literally probably the biggest superstar of our game, that emotionally invested, then like clearly that is something we want to try and draw more out of entertainment. And as I said, I do think like so you've got the Māori audience, the Indigenous audience, and then you've got wider Australia. I think that the important thing is like, how do you broadcast the meaning of this game to these two sides to the wider audience and go, oh, okay, let's say this is why it means this, or this is why they're so passionate about it. What do you think of the game, Amy?
Yeah, I mean, it was so such an exciting, tight kind of game. And the scoreboard, you probably think, oh, geez, it might have been a bit dour, but like you're on the edge of your seat right till the end, which is exactly what you want. Some high pressure plays. You're spot on though, what you say about getting a bit more content and access to what happens in the camp. And obviously there's probably some parts of the camp which are quite personal and private to the players that are in it, but you hear all of them say after that week, they go, that was probably one of the best weeks of my career. I learned so much more about my culture, about my family, all this sort of stuff. But from us, from the outside, we don't really see so much what they're talking about. And it would be great to kind of get a bit of a sense for that. And that probably would, if we were able to see that, might kind of tone down some of the chat where people go, do we really need this game? Is it playing that much of a role? Because clearly it's something very important to everyone that's involved in it. But the game was unbelievable, very tight, obviously. Good to see Big Shaq get the first try of the game, and the way that he spoke about that after the game as well, like. Such a big night for him, kind of, leading the pre-game ceremony as well. Very exciting, and some of the big moments we had. Good to see Brent Naden, big try saver. Good signs for a big season for Brent.
How good is he looking?
Yeah.
Mate, well, the yarn coming out of last year was basically the Tigers and him were going to part ways.
Yeah.
And then I think, again, the report was that basically they had a very honest conversation. Naden made it extremely clear to them, no, I want to stay. I want to work through this. I want to be the best. Look, Naden, I mean, the whole drama about the grand final at Penrith Panthers, like I know that it ended coming out the bad, like, him stuffing up the night before or whatever. You actually go back and watch that game, he was one of their best players when he came on the field. Like, this is a guy that was coming through Penrith's younger grades with all the guns they've got now. With all that's how highly touted he was. Like, there has always been a super high ceiling in Naden. It's just a matter of finding that consistency. Talent has never been an issue with Naden. And that's what's so good about games like this. It gives opportunities like that to showcase guys that, aren't as big as superstars as you say your KPs or, whoever else, want to talk about in regards to the All-Star game. So, that chase from him, like what I loved about it, on the camera angle, you could only see the other winger initially.
Yeah.
And so you're sitting there going, oh, okay, this is absolutely a try. And then Naden just comes steaming into shot, gets the try saver, unbelievable stuff.
I think media coverage-wise, it's like I think a great comparison is the Anzac round. The way the NRL do that with like the mini docos and the stories and like even all the papers and all that, the articles that they put together and the stories that are told, they do it brilliantly. It doesn't necessarily have to be that full on, but just lean into it like they do Anzac round, because the coverage they put around Anzac round, I get so excited for it every single year, and the stories that come off the back for something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a matter of like, because, as I said, because the clubs aren't in control of it, because Fox have so much going on, they got all these trials at, different venues they're trying to put on, and then so I just think that it's a matter of, and also the NRL now, like they actually don't create as much content internally, they leave it to external companies. And so it's hard to kind of get the word out there. But as I said, for me personally, I'm going to try. And if they might say no next year, but I would love to be able to go in and vlog the week with the Maldives and the Indigenous side, because I reckon it'd be really, really interesting, especially interesting from an outsider's perspective of like what it means to them and, the explanation. All right, in regards to performances of the game, I saw this article after the game saying Kinney completely outshines Ponga. Was I watching the same game? Don't get me wrong, Kinney was great. I thought Ponga was outstanding. He looked a cut above to me. I'm really excited for Ponga's new year. I thought he looked super switched on. He looked really fit. His repeat efforts, he was involved in the game quite a lot. I thought KP looked outstanding. I think Knights fans should be excited.
Yeah, I think both of them looked unreal.
Yeah.
Knights and Titans fans very excited, but yeah, I think putting Kenny above KP is a bit of a stretch.
Like, what?
Yeah, he was. Sometimes with KP, it frustrates me at times, and probably hasn't been for the last year or so, to be fair, that sometimes in that Knights side, it doesn't feel like his team all the time. That team was his team from the kickoff. He was in total control the entire time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, you could one knock on KP maybe 2 or 3 years ago would be, you've got all this talent, you just need to step up and just be like, whatever I want, you need to do it to the rest of the team.
If he didn't have a one on his back there, you could have convinced me he was playing 5'8". That's how involved he was.
For sure.
He was
absolutely
everywhere.
He was absolutely everywhere. And he just looked dangerous every time he touched the ball. What do you think of KP, Timmy?
Yeah, he looked good. He was well contained by the Indigenous side. But again, first hit out of the season in the conditions were not suited for attacking footy at all, especially a bloke of the way, Kalen Ponga plays his footy. quite expansive, throws the ball around, chances his arm at times, but as I said, physically he looks fantastic. He looks quick. He looks sharp. But yeah, from an Indigenous point of view, I thought they contained him really well.
I was super impressed by the standard of actual defence over the weekend. Now, I know there were some blowouts in scores, but there were quite a few games that I was actually quite impressed with the defence of a lot of teams heading into trials. Usually, you're falling off tackles and you slip, the contact isn't that good. But, the Indigenous defence was outstanding.
KP's, the hit he made, the try saver on Ty Munro, I think it was, that was out. And you talk about the importance of the All-Stars clash and what it means to him. He threw everything to stop Ty Munro.
Especially with his history.
Yeah, he's not doing that in a Knights trial, and nor should he. If you're a coach, please don't look after yourself. But that's how much you want to win that game.
Yeah, that's a great point. If you ever need an example, there's no way he's doing a trial. He'd be almost stupid doing a trial, and yet he, with all his history and nearly literally being lost to the game, and then he gets up on a stage that's the biggest to him and does something like that. I mean, that's something that is on highlight reels for years. He genuinely put everything on the line. And also, Munro, he's not a small winger. I know he's going to build out into his frame, but he's still 6'2", big boy, would probably be at least 92, 93 kilos.
And, mate, he has built out a little bit in the offseason. He was going to be my next talking point. 19 runs he took at the footy. That's
so
unreal.
good.
He topped the game for the Indigenous All-Stars.
If you're a Rabbitohs fans, that is exactly what you've been missing.
Well, the top two runs, Tallis Duncan and Ty Munro. Ty Munro had to take 19 runs in, I think it was about 65 minutes. That's my only concern with Ty Munro. He's a freak. He can do it all, but, work out of his own end. I think you need to do it in the modern game, and I think he's really taken that on board.
Especially with the South Sydney Rabbitohs, if there's one knock on their back line at the moment without Graham and without Whiten, it's they just don't have the ball carriers.
Well, you look at Latrell. We know he's not going to have 23 runs a game as a fullback. When Alex Johnston comes back in, he's not a big yardage winger. So their back three, there's not a lot of needs there when it's them three on deck. So you're right, Roo. Ty Munro, he does have to lean into and probably pick up. Not that it was a knock in the past because he was small, he was young, he's still young, but he's grown into his body, so that bit extra size, it wouldn't shock if Wayne said, mate, I need you to go from 13, 14 runs a game to you need to get to that 20 mark for him because our back three needs it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what, if he's still getting around those numbers, and then you've got Campbell Graham, then you've got Whiten as well, that's when you can afford to have a guy like Johnston on the wing just scoring tries because you've got three other guys, Johnson and Latrell, that are more just there for attacking weapons. Now, granted, I do think Johnson's going to have to fight really hard to get back into that squad. But as I said, it's all about backline balance. And if Tyrone Munro was still in the early stages of his career where he's only going to have 10 to 12 runs, then you got to look at Johnston and go, mate, someone's going to have to pick up the slack. Someone has to. But yeah, super. I tell you what, coming out of their own end, a Campbell Graham, Whiten hit up, and then a Tyrone Munro, or a Munro, Campbell Graham, Whiten. That's a great trio coming out of your own end with the worry of Latrell Mitchell sniffing around the ruck with his ball playing. Another guy I want to shout out from the Indigenous side, Puru, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Man, he looked the fact that he is so far from first grade at the Sharkies right now. He's at the Sharkies still, isn't he?
Mate, I can't make any sense of him going to Cronulla. He was at the Canberra Raiders where he couldn't get a spot because their forward pack was so strong, and then he's gone to Cronulla. I'm not sure how he's going to get a spot in that side either. I think he's gone from maybe the second hardest team to get into in his position to maybe the hardest.
Yeah, it's interesting, but geez, he was good.
Mate, what about the intercept he took from Marker? I've never seen that before.
Literally never seen that. Never seen that.
Yeah, and look, he's been a very good player at the Raiders for the last years. He's gone to the Sharkies. That's going to be one hell of a New South Wales Cup team this year with Beryl and him and whatnot. I'd love to see a club reach out and get a hold of him. That needs a 13.
Are they preparing for life without McInnes, maybe?
Maybe. When he signed, I thought, okay, Cam McInnes won't be re-signing here. That was my first thought. And, geez, I think he would be such a nice little fit for the Sharkies if Cam McInnes was to leave.
Yeah, but surely, Cam McInnes, he's almost the heart of that forward pack. So it's and did he just re-sign for another year, I think, Cam McInnes, 26?
Is there a world that if a Hazen or someone leaves, could you shift McInnes just into the middle rotation and maybe play Peru? Could that be their thinking, maybe?
Potentially. He was so good.
Mate, he's been so good for a long time. He just hasn't got the opportunity.
He was yeah, he was outstanding. But it's going to be the Sharkies. Like, we'll get to them, but geez, their depth is like actually insane. Actually insane. What they've built at that club over the last 3 or 4 years, you couldn't ask for much more. You really couldn't. No. But yeah, I thought Purdue was outstanding. I thought Connor Watson looks sharp, looks good to go, looks even more comfortable in that 9 jersey, which is good for the Roosters. Especially watching the Roosters, like, we'll get to it, but geez, I was quite surprised that they actually fielded a pretty strong trial team. Although I did think the 9 for the Roosters had some good moments, I think getting Connor Watson back in that team is vital, which is crazy to think a couple of years ago. He was almost seen as a utility somewhere. Oh, yeah, Connor Watson on the bench, he covers a lot of position. Now he's becoming like a crucial part of a side that could, like, Connor Watson in that side just might be enough to scrape him into the top 8. If they are to scrape in the top 8. That's how important he's become to the Roosters.
If they are to get into the 8 this year, he has to play 25 games, in my opinion.
And
I was
kill it.
about to say, like, who plays 9 if Watson goes down?
Well, yeah, Benaya started last night. He's a young guy coming through the grades. They've got a few other young guys there, but none of them have any experience.
And I thought the 9 on the weekend had some really good moments, really good ball running in that. But, I mean, again, it's what a journey for Connor Watson, going from a guy at the Knights that was getting moved around to different positions and then goes to the Roosters, gets injured, starts in reserve grade. All of a sudden, there's an argument to be made heading into this season, he's behind Teddy. He's probably arguably their most important spine member when it comes to where they're at form-wise in their careers right now.
I think right now he's definitely their most important spine player. Like, without him, like all the other guys, they lose them, it'll suck. But they've got guys that can step into that role.
As in the 6, 7, 9, not Teddy. Obviously, Teddy's the number 1.
Oh, for sure. But I think they've got more coverage for Teddy than they have for Connor, realistically.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's exciting though, isn't it? Because had he been playing 9 in a spine with Sam Walker there and obviously Teddy there, you're probably sitting there going, a lot of it just dish, get them good early ball. That's the plan. Like the Roosters have lent into a fair bit in the past, and we've been a little bit critical of it. But coming into a side with a relative rookie in Sandon Smith, a veteran in Chad Townsend, who he'll have an impact in attack, of course, but there's a lot of opportunity for Trent Robinson to say to Connor Watson, mate, your running game is the best asset for you. Run it, attack, take them on. Like as soon as you get a quick play of the ball, split markers, just take off. It's exciting.
Yeah. Now, in regards to some other boys, I can't believe a couple of weeks ago, even in the trial, we're like, in the pre-season preview, which you can go and watch, guys, if you haven't, we're sitting there going, what's happening with Tallis Duncan? I'll tell you what's happening. He's on track to have easily the best year of his career. He was phenomenal. And you finally saw what all the hype's been about. We've been talking about Tallis Duncan for quite a while. He looked outstanding on the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that when it comes to the conversation around their forward pack, a lot of people seem to be under the impression they're a forward short. I think he's the guy that people are constantly sleeping on, forgetting about. And I think that to start the season, I think the Bunnies are going to have a few injuries to start the season. And I think if he gets an opportunity at the start of the year, it's going to be very hard to get him out of that side.
Yeah.
When all those guys come back, like Ewan Aikens, I'm not sure where Totola's at. But yeah, Duncan, I'm so excited to see him under Wayne.
Well, so 56 minutes, and I think that's accurate because some of the trials, the minutes were all wrong.
I'm pretty sure these ones are accurate.
So 56 minutes, 20 runs, 160 metres, 72 post contact, only 1 tackle breaks, and he's still got those metres, 2 offloads, 28 tackles, only 3 misses. He had 1 or 2 errors, but like it's a trial. These things are bound to happen. But to have run for the most metres of anyone on the field, I'm pretty sure, let me just get that up to confirm it. Yep, ran more than Keon Kinney. As a forward, as a young forward, that's a huge knock.
He's a bit like Cam Murray in that he just gets his body into good spots in contact too. He always puts his nose through. He always sort of gets to his elbows and knees. Yeah, I can't wait to see him with Wayne this year.
I think he's heaps like Cam Murray. Yeah. Like really, I feel like having not seen them stand side by side, but pretty similar builds. They're both like really mobile, lock forward, good late footwork, heaps similar.
Yeah. Also hot, which helps. Both hot.
Very similar.
The only difference would be Cam Murray a little bit more muscular, I'd say. But obviously Tallis Duncan will get that eventually. So yeah, I thought Tallis Duncan was outstanding. Who stood out for you on the Indigenous side, mate?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what you kind of said, like it's going to be good to see him used a little bit more. I think we all agree he was probably like a little bit underused last year for the Rabbitohs, but this just kind of showed like when you let him go, this is the sort of stuff he could do. I was pretty impressed with Josh Kerr as well. I thought he was
The big fella that might be the best I've ever seen him play.
Yeah. And again, it kind of comes back to that, the purpose of the game and obviously having a bit of a leadership role. And I thought he spoke really well, pre-post game, all that sort of stuff as well. But he ripped in.
At 37 minutes, he ran for 154 metres. Wow.
Yeah.
And he had 6 offloads.
Didn't miss a tackle either.
Didn't miss a tackle, 19 tackle. Honestly, it might be the best game of his career.
Yeah.
That's how good he played.
Like, I've always loved Josh Kerr. And just for some reason, it's never quite happened for him to be like a dominant starting front row for clubs. Like, he's had some really good games with the Dolphins. He had a lot of really good games with the Dragons. And
he moved to an edge at one stage and then moved back to the middle.
I've always loved it, Josh Kerr. And especially he's got such an effective offload that he just creates so much good second phase play. He's a damaging runner. He runs a good line, like hitting the try line as well. So he can score a try. Just never sort of seems to get the bigger minutes in that starting front row. So there's something there that coaches are seeing, but he's such a good footballer.
I'm pretty sure if you go back and have a look at the 2020 Origin series, or it was a bit all over the place, I don't think he played a game, but he was in the squad and he ended up winning like their Queensland Spirit Award or something. Wayne Bennett gave him, and he didn't play a game, having him in the squad. Tell you the other one that I thought was really good, and I feel like about 3 or 4 times a year you get this reminder when you see him play, Brian Kelly.
Mate,
just go.
He's in my notes
so
too.
Talented, it's unbelievable.
And you know what he's in my notes for? Is his defence.
Defence, yeah.
Which is his big issue. His defence sometimes can, read wise. Like, he never lacks for aggression. He loves the physical battle. But some of his reads in defence, mate, his defence on the weekend, he was jamming blokes and making the right decision nearly every single time. And then obviously you can go to his attacking stats, and he ran for 153 metres. Which is actually 159 metres. So he had the second most metres of any player on the field behind Tallis Duncan by only a metre. 66 post contact, 4 tackle breaks, a line break assist, 1 offload, 13 tackles, 3 misses. Brian Kelly has always been a bit of an enigma because there is so much. Remember, he was at the Manly Seagulls and he was just like the next big thing. He was so talented. Goes to the Titans. 1 year, he'll be unbelievable. The next year, just a bit up and down. If he can just find a way to just close the distance between his best and worst, like he is put it this way, he's taken it to some of the best centres in the game and matched it with them. Whereas like there are certain centres who are more consistent than Brian Kelly, but they don't actually have the ability to match it with the best centres in the game, go toe to toe. Like his battle with, I think it was Katoni Staggs when they played the Broncos is always good.
Yep.
He's a bloody good centre.
How many games do you reckon he's played for the Titans?
100?
Yeah, 122.
122, wow.
Good knock.
Like, and that's in regards to durability.
Yeah.
Like, that's a bloody good knock.
Yeah, for sure.
So if he can just sort that defence out, and it looks like he's taken some steps, because I thought his defence was outstanding. Okay, in regards to any other boys, Curran. Well, one thing I was worried about with Curran heading into this year, he had such a big year last year, and all this praise, and the Doggies fans love him, and he's a cult hero, and very easy to head into this year and go, you know what, because his game is literally built on hard work. He's not the biggest, he's not the strongest, he's the hardest worker. Even if you become, let's say, last year he was working at 100%. If you head into this year and you're working at 90%, that drop off is actually way bigger than 10% because that's all you've got. You don't have the luxury of relying on the fact that you're 6'3", you're stronger than everyone else. And so I was really worried heading into this year with Curran that he would kind of be like, oh, you know what, great year last year, got a good contract, everything's good. Mate, he is not resting on his laurels. He was fantastic on the weekend.
It's one of the main reasons I can't wait for Leo Thompson to get to Canterbury, just to allow him just to put his feet up a little bit. Because what he put his body through last year, there was a period of time, I think there was a 6-week period where they lost Max King, and I just went, Canterbury's middle's going to fall through the arse here. Curran just went to another level again.
Yep. He is one of those guys that you have to protect them from themselves because he may work himself to into the ground. But yeah, so I thought it was a great showing from the Indigenous side. Anyone else, boys?
Just one more that he never seems to get game time up at the Titans, and I can't work out why. Jacob Arlek.
Yeah.
I think he's great. He can play edge, he can play middle. The Titans he sort of seems to be in and out of that side a little bit, but every time I see him, I'm really impressed with him.
Another guy just quickly as well, Sykes from Manly. I thought he looked good, really good in contact. Just had there was something about him when he had the ball. Now, onto the multi side. We've already spoken about KP. I just quickly, Dan Gagai. Talk about a fine wine. I know, there's some errors and, a bit of a messy game for Dan Gagai. But tell me a game when you've ever watched Dan Gagai and gone, you know what, he's not having a crack. Every game is like his last game. Every single game's like a grand final for him. And as I said, he might have a few errors and he's a bit sloppy defensively, he might miss a few tackles. But when you need him to make a big play, he makes big plays. Like that last play was just pure desperation. Just pure desperation. Somehow, some way, saves the try. I think earlier on it was Warbrick as well that had another try saver as well. But Dan Gagai is just, the fact that he's still doing it at this level as well as he has, it's so impressive.
He's got a bit of the Benjamin Buttons about him, Dane Gagai. I remember he must be a hard guy for Newcastle to plan for the future. Right?
Yeah.
Because he, you look at a guy his age, you go, okay, we've got to start to prepare. But I think he's played his best footy in the last 3 years.
Man, I swear to God, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was sitting there going, I think it might be Super League time.
Mate,
Then he just went, boom.
When he left South Sydney and went back to Newcastle, sort of went, yeah, I don't know if this is the right time for this signing for Newcastle. He was great when he was there previously, but if you had an argument that he was, would you have him in your top 5 in the game as far as centres over the last few years? I think he'd be right up there with them.
Statistically, he's absolutely up there. We'll put it this way. If from the Rabbitohs he went to Super League, I would have said, yeah, it's pretty good timing. Pretty good timing. Had a great career. Seriously, one of the greatest origin careers you could ask for. And then he's just gone, nah, I'm still a top-tier centre.
And you have a look at the last 2 years, like last year at the Knights, breakout player, Fletcher Sharp for me, outside Gagai. The year before that, Dom Young was the top try scorer in the NRL.
Yep.
Both sitting outside Dane Gagai.
Yeah.
I feel like you've had one proper sort of down year, probably coincided with getting dropped from Origin and that scene and all that. And then he just took it on board and said, nah, I'm not done. And it was literally, I feel like it was one down year. And then since then, he's honestly got better every year just about.
Crazy. And you're right, there was one day, and again, it wasn't from effort. He'd always rip in. It was just bad reads in defence.
Defence went a bit haywire for about one season there.
But he just competes and competes and competes. Who stood out for you guys in the multi side?
Mate, I know we sort of mentioned him before, but Keano Keeney, I know second year syndrome is a thing, I get it. I just think the kid is too talented. And you watch the impact he had the other night, obviously set up the try in the second half for them, but he ran for 150 odd metres. He only played 55 minutes.
No. He just seems to, he's so small stature. And every time he runs the ball, I'm like, yeah, there's nothing on. And then just things happen. It's like a pinball, just fall around him and he just makes space for himself. His repeat efforts. And at the moment, and granted, we've still got plenty of footy ahead of us, but at the moment, he doesn't seem to be overcalling things yet. Now, granted, he could start falling into that territory of ruining structure because he wants the ball too often. However, at the moment, it doesn't seem to be happening.
Well, yeah, and with all due respect, I don't know how much structure there's going to be at the Titans. I think they're going to play like that. I think they're going to lean into it.
Yeah. What do you think about Kenny, Timmy?
He's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for the Titans. And I don't want to go down the same rabbit holes that we have in the past with them in their spine, but if Desi Hasler can somehow put this together, it's going to be a thing of beauty, isn't it? Because there are so many points and so many attacking weapons in there. And yeah, Keano Keeney, as you said, I'm with you, Roo. I don't think there'll be second year syndrome with him. The people he's beaten out to lock down this fullback spot, it's a hot field, and now there's no doubt that he's their fullback all year. So good position to be in.
I thought Fish was good.
Yeah.
I thought Fisher Harris was really good. I was a bit, another guy, big contract, goes to the Warriors, 4 premierships in a row. Is he going to hit the ground running immediately? Or is it going to be a slow burn, gets to mid-year, and that's when we kind of see him because he's had such a big, almost half a decade, literally. Think about how crazy it is. They've been in 5 grand finals, 4 premierships.
It's not almost. It's half a decade.
Half a decade of the main man that everyone's targeting. And so I was like, it might take a little bit of time for his body to kind of warm into this season. Nah. Goes out, runs 140 plus metres, works his backside off. So that was in 53 minutes. He had 15 carries, 146 metres, 59 post-contact, 4 tackle breaks, 31 tackles, 3 misses. I just can't stress enough how hard it is in the front row to do what he's doing year on, year out. It is so damaging on the body. The fact that he is still doing this in game 1, it's crazy.
Yeah. Insane. Mate, another one that I think is going to be a really nice little value signing for Manly, Just Tavanga.
The Jazz Tavanga.
He got through a heap of work the other night, made almost 40 tackles. He's got a few errors in his game.
Just the errors that
it's just the errors, I get it, but like I think a change of scenery is going to be really good for him.
In Manly's match sim, I think it was with the Dragons, the little hit out they did, he started at 9 for them. Not saying he'll do that from round 1, but it does suggest, and I know, Roo, you're not sort of big on him at 9, and I'd never start him at 9, but I think as a foil to whether it's like Lockie Croker's missing the first month or so of action, whoever it is, Jake Simpkin, they're obviously leaning into, rather than going the out-and-out 2-hooker setup, whether it's Gordon Chan come Tong, Jake Simpkin in the year, they obviously want to spend him a bit of time at number 9.
It's just the errors. Like I don't think he can afford to go another year with brain explosions each week. And not each week, that's too harsh, but like every second week or whatever. Because I agree with you. If you can sort that out, his utility in the modern game, because a kind of similar-ish player to him, it's Aaron Clark from the Titans that gone to Warriors. They chucked him at 13, and he's killing it at the Warriors right now. And I think Tavanga could be a similar-ish kind of player because he does get through a bunch of work. He's got fast leg speed. He's quite fit. He's got good leg speed. He's never taken a backward step. He's good in defence. just the errors that I think he's just got to clean up a little bit. But I think that like those kind of body shapes, like Aaron Clark and Tawanga, they're like perfect in today's game.
They're more important than they've ever been.
100%.
He can literally play every position in the pack quite well, like not just filling in. Like if he had to fill in on the edge due to injury during the game, he could do that. We know he can play 9. He is a middle forward. We know he can jump into the front row. And then if a half goes down and he has to go in and just ball play in the halves to get through a game alongside a dominant half, he can do that as well. So that's so valuable to them.
Just the errors though. Like there were a couple that were just like, oh shit. But he can definitely suit the modern game at Manly. Statistically, wasn't that crazy? And, but just seeing Laban go across the way he did with the ball in one big hand, the try that he scored, just his physicality.
I get a lot of Eli Katoa sort of early days where he was with the Warriors and couldn't quite start, didn't earn that many minutes, wasn't even getting picked in the squad that often in the 17, but you just sat there and went, every time you watched him, you go, this bloke's talented. He's an absolute handful. And you went, when he did play, his output was pretty limited, but he was young, as is Jacob Laban, who's 20 years old. There's something about him that he's going to be absolutely devastating. I think you're right, Kempy. Statistically speaking, he never really runs for the... And granted, we've only had very limited sample size, but even in New South Wales Cup, never those big 180, 200-metre games. He ran like 50 metres in this, but every time he did, it was devastating.
Yeah,
do we think he starts on the edge? Because it was interesting to note that Jackson Ford's played in the middle rotation for the Warriors on the weekend. So it's going to be one of these young blokes there. Vormega, Laban, Halasima, probably more of a middle, but exciting for the Warriors, which way they go.
Like it's so many options there. Yeah. Like even if you don't include Fort, they've got so many options. I think Capewell has one side unlocked. I loved, just like the thing with Capewell, and we'll get it to the trial, but just like the little things he does, his line speed, his communication, his ability to never stop working. So I think he'll lock one spot down. But I do think Webby is opening that spot up for someone to take. We'll get to the Warriors, but there were a few blokes who put their hand up for the Warriors. That's for sure. They're not short for numbers on that edge. I think it'll just be a who's the best defensive edge. I think that's probably what's going to select.
Because all the blokes we've mentioned can attack.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like who can hold up defensively.
Exactly. I think that'll be just attack wise. Like, oh man, like I just cannot wait to see these guys in action. But yeah, outside of that, like I just love the fight the multi-side showed. I really did. I thought they were so gutsy to hang in there, get the job done. I mean, both sides, like literally both sides. I was a bit surprised that they started with Docker Clay over Nikorima. I wonder what the reasoning for that was. Did they think bringing Nikorima on late with the tired opposition would help? But I mean, I guess maybe I'm reading too much into it, but like, that's worrying if I'm a Dolphins fan.
I wonder if maybe conditions played into it. Like defensively, Nikorima not overly sound. Attacking, he's lethal. They probably just sat there and went, you know what? There's probably not going to be a lot of points in this game. We can't afford to concede on a line, a soft try. Maybe it wasn't that, but that's possibly one avenue. Because if it was dry, conditions, good conditions for using the footy, throwing it around, Nikorima has to start, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm just a bit surprised at, because I think that heading into it, if we were all the coach here and we said, it's going to be a bit wet weather, we'd all probably still lean towards Nikorima over us.
I still would, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
so and look, maybe it was tactical genius because they did end up scoring and winning towards the end. But I was quite surprised at that selection.
Isn't Zach Docker-Clay, like, he just hangs around. He just hangs in and hangs in. Like, he didn't, I don't think, does he have an NRL contract at the moment? I'm not convinced he does. I don't think he...
Is he with the Roosters at all?
He was last year. I don't think he is this year. They might have signed him like a week or two ago, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
But, yeah, he just... Yeah, and I think he's a good player.
I mean, in today's game, with the utility value that he's got, it's plenty to offer.
I just said with Cody Nikorima, we'll get to it soon, but I'm not sure if he's going to be in that Dolphins.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think he is.
I'm getting like, and then you've got Donahue who's playing fullback at the moment, which it could be one of two things. It could be that Wolf is like just trying to find backup for Hammer, or he's trying to find a way for him to get into that side round one. Not round one. Get into that side more often than he would if he was, behind 3 or 4 sixes. But anyway, we'll get to the Dolphins. But yeah, it's just weird. It's weird. A guy like Cody Nikorima compared to Docker-Clay, in respect to Docker-Clay, but their career's not even close at the moment. So I was a bit surprised at that. And granted, it could have been purely tactical. And at the end of the day, they won the game 10-6, so it worked. Like, whether you agree or disagree with it, they won the game. That's all that matters. But it was quite surprising for me that they put essentially a number 9 in the 7 jersey.
Yep.
And I think the most likely answer is probably yours, Timmy, is like they've just gone, Docker-Clay, probably a better defender. It's going to be a tough game. Nikorima, we know he's a smaller body. He does get targeted a bit.
Well, those wet conditions, it leans into just short balls off the ruck. Let's isolate Cody Nikorima, a small half, a small hooker, whoever it might be, and just try and get the crash over tries.
Yeah.
And maybe that is why they did it.
Warbrick, another great game from him. Geez, hasn't he just... I'll never forget that first year or so that he came into first grade, and it looked like, okay, maybe he's just not going to get the flow of the game that he needs to get defensively. And like Storm always do, as soon as you start doubting their processes, doubting their systems, he just evens out his game. He rounds out this part of his game, rounds out that part of his game. And before you know it, Warbrick is one of the better wingers in the competition. Like, at the very least, he's not better than Bizzer or whatever, but on his day, he can hang with the best wingers in the competition.
Yeah, during his first season, there was a number of weeks where I'd come here on a Monday going, I don't know if he gets named on Tuesday. But Craig Bellamy just persevered, had a plan for him, and look how well it's turned out. Like, fuck, he's a good player.
You can just each year you just see him round everything out a little bit more. And as I said, you would still have guys like Bizzer and Lomax form-wise that have just played better the last couple of years. However, Warbrick at his best hangs with the best wingers in the game, and also he's probably got more room for improvement than most other wingers because he has come from Union, not long ago. So if in 2 years' time he is challenging for the form centre, the Dally M Centre of the Year, I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't.
They've also got this other kid that's come over from Rugby Union.
Hearing big things from him.
Yeah, apparently he's doing well.
Yeah.
Interesting watch.
They have the depth in centres is a little bit questionable, the Storm. But yeah, anyone else stand out for you guys?
Pretty sore, I think.
Pretty much it.
I thought Willison looked really fit.
I was going to say he had a couple of errors, but was pretty good. Got through a lot of work. Only played 40 minutes, but still had 11 runs, 118 metres and 58 post contact. That's pretty good, but just a couple of little hands.
It's just the errors.
A fit Willison under Madge Maguire is mouth-watering.
Oh yeah, it's just the errors though, because one thing we know, it does seem anyway, is that Madge is not going to cop errors. Like, he's just not going to. You go back to their first trial, they kept Burley to 0. And then their second trial, they completed 88% in a trial, the Broncos did. And so if Wilson can just round those, and granted, it's the first game. Like, if you're going to make it, especially a game that big.
They were rank conditions too.
Terrible. Hot, wet conditions. It's just the worst it's dewy, it's the worst for rugby league. But I thought he looked super fit. Just got to round out those errors in his game. But what a game. What an exciting game to watch. Just trying to look through. Ricky, 6 mixed tackles. Didn't like that, but again, not all missed tackles are equal. It could have been line speed, it could have been, all those things. He ended up running for only 29 metres though.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up when we got to the Broncos, but
And with how well the edge back rowers played in the trials, there's pressure.
There's huge pressure on him because this was not a great outing for him. And this Broncos side that's promising a fair bit this year under Madge and Benny Hunt there, those edges who went well on the weekend. We'll get to that game later, but it's such an area of concern for you.
Yeah, especially a guy like Ricky. We know how good Ricky is. We know. And look, maybe the game didn't go to him, I'm not sure, but he's better than that, in my opinion. He's better than that.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Look, I thought Hiroti, for a guy that's not really a first grader, I actually had on my feed, I had Brian Kelly 2 or more.
Yeah, same.
Because I thought he'd give Hiroti a bit of a bath.
Same.
Hiroti was pretty good.
Good. Kelly didn't get, he got through a lot of work as you mentioned earlier, but he wasn't able to score even one try. I was hot on him as well to maybe get a couple, but credit to Hiroti there, able to keep a pretty good player quiet.
Yep. So massive game to watch. Loved it. I can't wait for next year. And the Māori, they get up. So just makes it even more intriguing heading into next year. Can the Indigenous get that trophy back? I absolutely enjoyed it. I loved it. Thanks to the boys for just showing so much passion. Those war cries before it, man, like the history and the tradition. Think of 50,000 years ago, they're probably doing something similar. And just the connection to that, I think it's so cool to see stuff like that. I love history. So, alrighty, this week's grumpy person is the fans. That's right, the fans of teams that got absolutely pumped. They're grumpy. They're thinking the whole bloody season's over. I'll tell you what will turn your frown upside down. 2 things. Grumpy Coffee, head to grumpycoffee.com.au. But also, it's a trial. We have seen so many times, guys, that first trial, the team comes out, looks terrible. What's going on? We are going to have the worst year ever. And then they turn it around. So that'll turn your frown upside down. Head to grumpycoffee.com.au. Grab your coffee. We've got multiple blends. We've got the everyday. We've got the very, absolutely beautiful. Got beans from PNG, from Guatemala, Brazil, the best coffee in all the land. And looks pretty good if you don't mind me saying myself. Looks pretty cool too. So it's grumpycoffee.com.au. That'll turn your frown upside down. If not, hopefully us letting you know that it's just trials, guys. This could completely change within 1 week. I mean, who was it that we're looking at? The Raiders. The Raiders killed at the first trial. The second trial didn't go as well. Granted, that was probably because of the sides matched up against each other. So don't be too stressed out. Head to grumpycoffee.com.au. Turn that frown upside down. Let's get straight into it. I tell you what, the KO can't miss this week is KO Weeks. The first trial, yes, the Sharkies did win 40-10, but KO Weeks, not related to KO, the actual business. Although there might be some blood relations.
Do we need to draw your diagram?
Yeah, come on.
The opportunities. The opportunities exist.
KO Weeks, that trial. You can't miss that. Brought to you by KO, the best in the business when it comes to rugby league. You get to watch every single game, every weekend, and you got content for days on KO in any sport. You can't miss it. But what else you can't miss is KO's try. I mean, I tell you what, the fullback position, if you had told me last year KO was going to come and become that fullback, I would have said you're crazy. He's more of a utility. Mate, he is rapid. He is so quick, so underrated quick. What do you think, Timmy? KO's try.
Oh, that was exciting. The try assist for Ethan Strange.
Yep, apologies.
The big runaway off the kick return. The only annoying thing about it was that we didn't get long with him. Again, it's hard to tell with the exact minutes going back. But I think
felt like he literally came straight off.
He played 20 minutes or something very short. But as soon as that happened, you just went, awesome. I want to see him in this system with another year, a full preseason at fullback under his belt, because obviously last year, I don't think he even started the year from memory, but then he
didn't start the year.
Chopped and changed positions between halves and fullback and that. So a full season of KO Weeks, who was one of our best last year, certainly in attack. I was when he went off, just give us 10 more minutes.
I tell you what, the only thing I think he needs to round his game out is if he can just get through 20 runs a game. Got the ball playing, got the X factor. Now, if he can just get you your 150 to 200 metres a game, that's all he needs.
Are you confident the ball playing is where it needs to be? It's I know he played a fair bit of fullback last season, but it's just still quite a small sample size for him.
I am. Compared to other fullbacks? Yeah. Absolutely. I think so. I think that, is he the best? Is he Scott Drinkwater or Reece Walsh? No, I don't think he's that. Does he have good enough ball playing to be a fullback in the NRL? I think so. What do you reckon, Roo?
Yeah, good enough.
Yeah.
I still think there's improvement there.
Sure. He's a rookie.
Yeah, but not only is he a rookie, he's a guy that he was playing hooker at Manly a few years ago. It's only now I'm actually convinced that fullback is his spot. So yeah, I think that you've obviously got Chevy Stewart at the club and a few other guys that can play fullback, but I think KO is the absolute must there.
Yeah, Chevy Stewart's a really interesting one because he's got so much talent, gets through a bunch of work, can make a bunch of meters, good tackle breaker. It's just the errors. Just every now and then he'll just have an unforced error here. And look, he's still, 20 years old?
Yeah, he's young.
Young as anything. So he's got plenty of time to... And I think that's actually... I know he's probably not sitting there thinking this, but I think KO Weeks coming along might actually be the best thing for his career because it gives him time to develop what he needs to be an NRL player. Whereas if KO Weeks wasn't there, the Raiders are probably forced to play...
But it's probably Chevy Stewart.
Yeah. And again, I know Chevy Stewart's probably sitting there going, bro, as if I want to be playing reserve grade, but just gives him a little bit extra time to develop. He'll be better for it, in my opinion. What do you reckon?
He's bulked up. Chevy
Looks
Stewart.
much bigger.
He's put on a lot of weight. And
he actually runs, doesn't run like him. Actually reminds me a little bit of Teddy sometimes, the way he runs, but sorry.
Yeah, on KO Weeks, I was a little bit sceptical last season coming, especially because I think the chat was that they wanted him to play in the halves. I was like, I always just saw him as a fullback, but he had enough opportunities at Manly and couldn't really lock anything down. Granted, he's only just turned 22. He's young. 12 months on, you just sit there and go, there is such a high ceiling on this bloke because of how quick he is. As I said, his ball playing is coming along. He's versatile across positions, but he has the potential to be a star fullback. Whether or not he hits that, I have no idea. I don't have strong feelings, but the signs with him are very good. That try set up was electric.
Yeah. And when you're right when you say he has potential because, look at how fast he is. Look how good his footwork is. That is top-tier speed at fullback and top-tier footwork. And so it's just the other parts of his game, does he have the physical durability to make 20 runs a game, to, go for 200 metres? Because it's one of Teddy's most unsung attributes is his physical durability, his ability to take heavy contact regularly every week, run for 200 metres, break 8 tackles, rock up the next week, do it again. Not do that for 4 weeks, not do it for 6 weeks. Every game, every season, every time he plays.
Especially a bloke who, I think people forget, but early on in his career, he had so many injuries.
So many.
Honestly, couple ACLs or serious knee injuries.
I think it was 3.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You would have written him off. You would have 100% written him off. But yeah, KO Weeks has got everything. So he's the KO can't miss this week. The only way to watch all the preseason challenge games, plus All-Stars games when they are played, is on KO, live and exclusive. You've got the second full week of preseason fixtures, and you can expect the Stars to play. Sign up to KO to watch all the games this week. We are now less than 2 weeks away from the regular season kicking off. We'll stick on Raiders, and then we'll probably move on to the Sharkies. Look, I just think that the positive for the scorecard doesn't look great. You actually go back and you look at when were both sides relatively even with first graders. I'm sure you could pick one or two that were stronger. I think it was 12-10 to the Sharkies. It actually started 10-0. And then once the Raiders brought on some of their younger fellas, that's when it kind of blown out a little bit. But I think the positive for the Raiders is these younger guys are getting more experience. They look good. They're key players in key positions that in both trials have had some really big moments. I think the Raiders are in a good spot. I really do.
I thought the Raiders were unreal the other night. And I know 40-10, I think it's one of the more misleading score lines I've ever seen. I thought the first 20 minutes, the Raiders were all over them.
It was 10-0.
Yeah, and that's a team without Tarpanay. It's a team without Corey Horsburgh, who I think are going to be their most important forwards this year. I thought the Raiders were great. I thought that they completed high. Fogarty, I thought his kicking game, he didn't have any kicks that you'll find on a highlight reel, but he just landed every kick in the exact right spot, and he had the Sharkies under so much pressure coming out of their own end. And as I said, the Raiders without 2 of their best forwards. But I was actually really disappointed with the Sharks in the first 20 minutes. I thought the Raiders were sensational.
Well, again, you don't need to look into scorelines too much in trials, if at all, but I don't know the exact minute Weeks went off, but the Raiders were up 10-0, 2 early tries. Nicho Hynes scored the Sharks first in the 24th minute. I reckon Weeks, for one, was probably off by that time. If not by then, he was definitely off by their second try in the 36th minute. Players started coming off. The Sharkies kept a stronger squad for probably a longer period of time, including someone like Adam Fanua-Blake. He scored his try in the second half. So the Raiders, when they were a stronger side out there, they were winning the game. The signs are really good. And as you said, Kempy, they're just a year on where blokes like Chevy Stewart, KO Weeks, so many of them have had a bit extra time to develop. So, they're going in the right direction.
Yeah, and some of those young forwards they've got going, like the Martin brothers, Sanders at 7, Like,
Our boy, I should say your boy, actually. You boys love him, but Trey Mooney, he was terrific in this.
Mate, terrific. And so you got all these young guys now that have an extra year of experience, and I don't even think the Raiders are sitting there internally. You know, I granted Ricky, he's probably always wanting to win a premiership, but I think if you like had a really honest, private conversation, it's like, are we trying to win a comp this year, or are we trying to win a comp in 2 years' time? I think they would be sitting there going, look, we're trying to win a comp in 2 years' time. I think right now, you couldn't ask for much more from a club that has openly said we are banking on the next generation of stars to take us to a premiership. Like, you know, yes, I know in a perfect world, every single year a team rocks up and they're, you know, challenging for a premiership. It's just not how the world works. And I think the Raiders, everything points to so far it's going to plan, and so far they should be commended that it's going to plan, because very easily can it not go to plan. Very easily could you get a little bit tempted and go, you know what, like, let's go and sign this big dog and bring him in. And like, granted, I still, with the whole Reece Robson thing, I still probably would have signed him if I was the Raiders. However, at the end of the day, they've got this plan, and like, I wouldn't go and sign another forward, but it is what it is. They got this plan and they're sticking to it. That's a positive for me. I think that, and it looks like it's working.
Did you not listen to the CBA section? Owen Paddy, mate.
Mate, look, I love a CBA as much as the next bloke, but if you got a current New South Wales hooker that's willing to come to the club, I'm getting him 100%.
I hear they're very high on Owen Paddy at the Raiders as well. Like, they're, you know, to Rue's point, they've also identified him as a very strong CBA. I found even when they were on top in that first 20 minutes, one thing they were a little bit clunky with was potentially the service from their hooker to their halves. There was a few times where the ball just went to not a 6 or a 7 on the last tackle, and I just thought, I don't know, that was something that was a little bit clunky even when they were on top of the game early on. So be interesting to see what they do and whether Owen Paddy
Owen Paddy didn't play.
Yeah, he did play this week.
And so who'd they have in?
Starling.
Starling and
Levi.
Yep.
Do we think Paddy comes off the bench in Vegas or not?
I don't think so.
That's what I was going to say.
I think they've shown that they're sticking to that plan no matter what. Because like we spoke about it in the season preview, I think the biggest challenge for the Raiders this year, it's not young talent, it's not a good plan. I think we all agree that the plan is good. Because like a year ago, we were having this conversation like, what do the Raiders do? Do they throw a bunch of money at some big players and try and pay a little bit overs and get some big dogs down there now? This is when Jackie Whiten left. And I think at that time, we all agreed, let's throw a little bit extra at the younger guys coming through, get them down, build them into the system in a few years, win a comp. And they've gone and done that. I think the biggest challenge for the Raiders this year is knowing the right time to bring those guys in. So, for example, if Fogarty gets injured, do you get Sanders in there straight away? Or do you go, hang on a sec, let's not rush him?
And that's the thing. Ricky Stewart, he's very patient with his rookies and he doesn't want to burn them early. And even at stages last season where he's sort of thinking, give Chevy another run, he goes, no, just like shifted Jordan Rapana to become our fullback, the veteran winger who was in his last year at the club. He's very patient with him. So I'm with you. I think he'll stick to probably Starling and Levi to start the season. At some point, potentially early on, Owen Paddy will get a run off the bench in limited minutes. He'll ease him through, see how he goes. If he sets the world alight, sure, he could be a starting hooker or play bigger minutes off the bench, but there are coaches out there who are under pressure and would throw a young bloke in because of the potential, but I don't think Ricky's going to do it with Owen Paddy this early on.
Especially when they've worked so hard to have this plan. Like, again, to get some of the best young talent in key positions with your Paddy, with your Sanders, with your Chevy Stewart to the club at such a young age, it's so difficult.
We've said it for about 2 years, and with no disrespect to Tom Starling and Danny Levi, who are good quality first grade footballers, if Owen Paddy can be anything what he looks like early on, and the hype around him, and he can be a crafty number 9, big work rate, big minutes, it just changes the outlook of this side so much.
Oh man, this forward pack. I mean, we looked with Hodgson at his best. We looked how good they were. This forward pack, if Owen Paddy can be that, I do think from watching Paddy last week, definitely needs work on his service. But that's like any rookie. Like very rarely, like for example, if you're a young rookie 9 that service is really good, then usually maybe your defense needs work or your running game needs, like no rookie is perfect. And so once he does sort that, like once he does work on that, which I think that this next 12 months, it'll be about just getting physically ready for first grade. Put it this way, I do think 2026, he will most likely start.
I've got him as my starting hooker round 1.
I think he'll start. And that's where, like, again, like, look, if we didn't find out they went after Leo Thompson, I would be like, look, I get it. They've got this young 9 there. It's part of the program, blah, blah, blah. So their salary cap is spent elsewhere. What surprised me the most was when I found out that they did go after Leo Thompson with a fair big offer. I was like, surely you'd rather get Reece Robson down there to help guide Paddy over the next couple of years, and then eventually you could move Reece Robson to 13 in that last year of his contract, because I think he could be a good 13. But
maybe the Robson stuff was a bit of a beat up as well. Like,
potentially.
Was that article not bizarre? Like, if Reece Robson's willing to go to Canberra, surely he was willing to go to other teams, right? Like, why were the Canberra Raiders the
It was
one
very
that were in that
bizarre.
article? That made no sense to me.
Well, who the only thing I can think of is, like, does it get released from Canberra's side to kind of almost let the younger fellas know, like, we're backing you all the way in, which would, you'd understand. Look, as I said, at the end of the day, there's a plan in place, and Ricky has always shown a propensity to sign forwards. He loves forwards. So, like, that's Ricky. You know, like, we can sit here and argue it all day, but he loves forward packs. He loves having a lot of depth. And they're trying to win a premiership in probably 2027. I reckon that's internally their goal is to win a premiership in 2027. By then, he'd be in his second year of first grade. Sanders will also be in his second or third year. And so they're just going to stick to the plan, which is understandable. We always have a crack at clubs whenever they're willy-nilly, like, some other clubs we've spoken about where it's like, one year it's this player and then they go out and recruit a different one and they're swapping constantly and they're always hitting the reset button. The thing that you can't knock the Raiders for is they've had this plan for at least 3 or 4 years now and they're sticking to it.
And that's the beauty of having a coach like Ricky Stewart that's like, all right, basically no matter what happens with the results, his job's not under pressure, he's staying there, he's a club legend, he's had, without a premiership, plenty of success at the Raiders, and if they have a poor season this year, any coach is basically under pressure. And then they'll rush Paddy and they'll play in big minutes, but they go, no, build towards this plan for a few years' time.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can't knock that. In regards to other performances for the Raiders, I actually thought Hopper Whitey had a bloody good game. I thought...
Mate, he's really interesting. He's obviously not going to Vegas. I believe he's got a trial due in the next week or so, but his 2 trials have been lights out.
Yeah.
He's been fantastic.
He's been so good. And, I mean, you can talk more about it, but, like, coming through the grades, he was special.
Yeah.
Special.
Yeah.
Been a little bit unlucky with injuries at the Raiders to a degree, and also, like, just timing as well sometimes, like with his getting selected. But he's a bloody good player. I don't think he gets enough appreciation for what he does at the Raiders. If I'm
I
honest.
agree. I think it's going to be interesting. I think the kid that played on the left edge came from the Dragons last year, Tamale. I think he'll start in Vegas. I really like him as well. So that'll be a good little duel between those two for that spot.
Yep, absolutely. It's funny. I was like with Chevy Stewart, I'm like, he just, needs to round his game out a little bit. Got errors here or there. On the stats, it says he has no errors. So, like, what do I know?
Yeah.
What do I know?
I think he got out jumped twice though.
Yeah, I thought. Anyway,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
I just actually had a look at the highlights, and just at the moment where Nico Hines scored that try in about the 25th minute, just having a look at the Raiders line when they turned to chase the kick, and there was about 4 jerseys that were sort of 20 plus numbers. So I think at about that 20-minute mark, that's when a lot of them came off, and the game completely turned at that point. I think Ricky had seen enough to go to Vegas at the 20-minute mark.
Yeah,
and was
they
happy.
were coming off quick.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Fogarty definitely didn't play any of the second half. Pretty sure.
No, he was off second half.
Yeah. So, and like he's a key man. So yeah, I think we all kind of agree. Like, don't let the score fool you into thinking this is a bad trial. This was truly one of those situations where when first grade was on, it was a close game, and then when first grade came off, that's when things kind of changed. Anyone else for the Raiders for you boys?
All good, mate.
Just quickly again on the Martin brothers. I like them. I really think that they got something going there.
Some nice mullets too.
Nice mullets.
Yeah.
And one of the boys, I think, was it Jordan Martin's try the week before?
Yeah.
That was mad. So good. And it's good to see a guy like Trey Mooney. Seems like he's really stepping up into that role, really developing nicely. But we'll see. We'll see next week. Now, onto the Sharkies. Started a bit slow, but I think probably what would have been like after the first 15 minutes, clicked into gear. What I'm really pumped about for the Sharks is just looking at their depth, like far out. I'm also excited, like the fact that Nico Hines' timing is already this good. He actually should have had 3 try assists. He had 2. I mean, in his first trial, to be throwing those balls and hitting blokes on the chest from like 20 metres away or 15 metres away, they have clear. Like he personally has had a big preseason. That takes time to get his nail in it.
And I love that he was getting the ball too wide off the ruck. He wasn't just at first receiver doing it. He sort of allowed other guys inside him to do that job. And Yeah, he looks sensational. Poor old Stone Street, that he won't get an easier try than that one.
My God. And so, like, with Nico, I just so see him confident again. He's just not hesitating, backing himself. I'm still, obviously last year, the back end of the year was a down year for Nico, for sure. And I'm sure he'd admit it as well. I still reckon in those finals games he was carrying a calf injury.
He 100% was, and like there's been a heap of chat sort of, particularly around Supercoach circles, Kempy with, before and after the calf injury that he sustained, and NRL physio's been all around it, and how it's like coincided when he first did the calf to a downward performance from after that. And of course, Origin coincided with all that as well, and there was questions asked, but it does make you wonder. Yes, he was a bit low on confidence off the back of Origin, a few other different things, but maybe the calf was playing him a lot, and that's what we saw, the sudden drop off, because he wasn't bad in the back end of the year, but he wasn't anywhere near what we know he can be.
He took a back seat. He just let Trindle run the team.
And maybe it was because of it, and they're looking at workload, and I don't know what sort of case he was covering in that, but if that was as a result of the calf and he's back to his best this year, it's another, tick in the book of the Cronulla Sharks.
And I will say, like, people go, you're making excuses. No, he still didn't play his best. Like, I'm not sitting here saying, hand wave his form because he had a bad calf. Not at all. Like, he still wasn't playing as well as we know Nico can. But it's still, you can't not pretend that there's a chance that was the case. Now, once you can ask any footy player, once you cross that line, it doesn't matter whether you have a bad calf, a bad shoulder, you're going to be judged just as harshly as if you were fresh. Coaches always say this, like, if you're going to get across that white line, you can't go, I've got a bad shoulder, therefore I'm not going to have a great game. So we're not all sitting here going, because he had a bad calf, then you're not allowed to critique his game and didn't say, no, he was not playing as well as we know he can. But at the same time, I do think he was most likely carrying that calf injury. And I think that heading into this year, he looks fresh. He looks ready to go. The timing looks impeccable. I'm really excited to see. What are you going to say, Roo?
I was just going to say, like, I've been critical of this halves pairing in the last year that, I just don't think they've found their right spot as far as how they gel together. I thought the other night, and granted, the Raiders took their players off, I know that, but I just thought as a side and how these two were gelling together, I thought they looked really good.
Yeah.
I feel like they found their balance potential. I know it's only a trial, and I've been more critical than anyone on them, but I thought they looked good the other night.
I think, honestly, the only question I have for the Sharkies heading into this year is obviously, can they live up to these huge expectations? But in their spine, it really just is Will Kennedy needs to have a big year. And I'm still unsure whether he will have that big year. Now, I think the younger guys underneath him are actually currently injured. You might know a bit more. Ion.
I'm not sure, to be honest. They haven't featured,
Ison?
so I'd say so. Yeah, and you've got Dykes as well.
Dykes as well. I think they're currently both injured. Now, you can tell by the way Kennedy's playing. He's playing with a bit more pep in his step, get a bit more energetic. So, like, he's probably a little bit aware that his positions are good, because he was named in the first trial, which would suggest to me that Fitzgibbons probably had the hard word with him and said, mate, like, we'll put it this way. With how many games he's played over the last few years, there's no way he should be playing in that first trial. But I do think that the hard word has been put on him. It's like, mate, we need you to have a big year. And that still is my big question. If you're about to head into a grand final and you compare all the top four sides and you look at their fullback, where does Kennedy rate compared to them? At the moment, he's not in the same tier as them. He's probably even two tiers below them. At his best, he would be just one tier below them, which I think you can afford to have with the other strengths that the Sharks do. But he needs to step up in my opinion.
He needs to be at his best.
I think so. Yeah. I really do. I said this to Hammy. At the moment, when I look at the Sharks, they've got everything. The only thing I don't know whether they have is another gear. That's it. And what I mean by that is that they can give you an 8 out of 10 every single week, get you in the top 4, maybe get into week 2 of the finals. The question I have with the Sharks now is they've got their A game plan. Can they beat you with a B game plan? Do they have that extra game in them that the Penrith Panthers have where, they'll give you 8 out of 10 every week and then they take that final step up again?
Yeah, the thing is, though, and I don't disagree with you, Campy, but you look at it and that was a question mark in recent years. But a bigger part of it was, all right, their forward pack's good and they've got depth, but do they have that extra grunt to match a Penrith Panthers or, the better packs in the competition? And the answer was probably not. For Noah Blake in there now, Nico Hines playing off the back of the ruck speed that AFB is going to create for the Sharks. Backpedaling defences because of how quick the ruck speed is going to be off the back of AFB. Nico could have a field day off the back of that.
His try assists, I reckon, are going to be through the roof.
That's it. Like, so where you go, all right, have they got more X factor? Not necessarily, but just what AFB is going to do, the platform he'll set for the back line and for Nico Hines in particular, maybe that's that X factor, and that's the next gear that we're going to get.
For sure. And to be clear, I'm not saying whether they do or they don't. I just think that's the biggest question.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone sitting here, like, we could go through all these other rosters and be like, their question is the defense, their question is their attack. Their question's the depth, their question's the star power. I think the Sharks have everything they need to win a premiership, except when I close my eyes, I don't know whether I imagine them having that big game in a grand final. I don't know the answer to that question yet. When I ask that question, I can't close my eyes. For example, the Brisbane Broncos in 2023, I can imagine them having that incredible game where they just blow someone off the park. It's a grand final. Obviously, that didn't end up happening. It happened for like 20 minutes. And so with the Sharkies, I'm like, okay, the next question is like, everything is prepared. It's like at the Broncos, there used to be a sign that said, we provide everything except a good attitude. It's like really at the Sharks now, everything has been provided to those players to win a premiership. Now it is, can you take that next step? That really, in my opinion, is the only question I have with the Sharkies. And to be clear, that's not to say they don't or they do. I just don't know.
I mentioned AFB, another bloke we've spoken about plenty, like leading into the season thus far, but Tapua as well, who in this was just like, he's a beast of a human being. And then you sit there and go, all right, we know he can be effective in attack, but because he's so big, how's he going to go defensively speaking? And I haven't seen enough of him to know enough just yet, but like 14 tackles on the weekend, didn't have a missed tackle. Like, the signs are good. So you have a 1-2 punch if Tapua can reach sort of anywhere near the height, his potential. You know, AFB starting, Tapua coming onto the field. He doesn't have to play big minutes. It can be shorter stints. It's very exciting.
It's super, like, honestly, watching AFB get those quick play the balls, it was almost weird for me to watch a Sharks game and see that. Like, because usually they're just all toilets, like tough, get through their work. But a forward that was like constantly getting quick play the balls and them just going boom. And I actually, watching the game, I felt they were far more willing to play eyes up footy than maybe like last year, where sometimes they would get a quick play the ball last year and they would just go, nah, we're sticking to the structure. Everyone's, everything's set up over here. Whereas I felt like on the weekend they were way more willing to go quick play the ball, eyes up footy, let's go. And so, like, I just think the Sharkies are it's such a strong position. They really are. Yeah, two questions is, like, Kennedy needs to play to his best. If he does, that's sorted. And then it's that next gear. And I think that, like, that's the one thing Penrith have shown above all else is they have that next gear. They've got two gears where they just go, we're like coasting during the season, getting through it. Okay, now it's finals for you. Let's go.
Yeah, like they've got gears in games.
It's crazy.
Not only finals. Obviously, Dan Atkinson's leaving at the end of the season. He'll leave a big hole, but geez, 22, Riley Pollard came on late in that game. Some of his ball playing was fantastic. It was unreal on that right edge.
The way they've built it, like I can't express enough the depth these guys have. It's actually insane. Because they've also got the other Purdue, don't they?
No, they're both at... Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, no, they're both at the Sharkies now. They've got the halfback too.
And did he just recently sign for somewhere else, though, maybe?
No, the halfback, he's definitely with the
He's
Sharkies.
still there, and the lock's just arrived.
Yeah, I think the halfback might have maybe rumours that he was signing somewhere else. Could you check, Matty? But at the very least, he's still there. Like, so their depth is
He
like
played last
insane.
week. Yeah.
Insane. But I think he may have signed for somewhere 26. Maybe. I think I remember reading at the very least rumours for it. But yeah, this Sharky side looking good. Geez, I feel sorry for Beryl because like he's not going to get a crack because Brayley is so. You just have to wonder, like, is there a world where you carry him as a 14 and you play Brayley less minutes because he is so good? I know they don't like to do that, but
I think if you're going to carry at 14, I don't think I could look past Dan Atkinson.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah, just asking the question because Beryl's just was so good in the trials.
For sure, yeah.
I would have.
That's where you
as well.
find this squad. You got Jaden Beryl and Putter, who I think they're both ready for first grade now. They just can't even get a look in.
I will say, was interesting to see Atkinson go put on at fullback for a period.
I'd be open to seeing it.
I've been calling for a little bit like that. At least should just see how it would go.
Yeah.
No, I think it might have been. I think it might have been he actually re-signed with the Sharks at the back end of last year for 1 extra year.
Okay, so wow, an extra year. I mean,
he's off contract, but
the ability to, like, the fact that Puru, who is like so far away from the starting at the moment, is still re-signing in that. It just shows you what how good the shape the club's in. So look, yeah, good stuff from pretty much both teams, aside from that first 10 minutes for the Sharkies, where I was a bit like, oh, what's going on here? But other than that, bloody good.
Just very quickly, I was going to say Chris Vieira.
Yeah.
Right at the end, I thought he looked pretty good as well. Almost scored that try with about 4 blokes hanging off him.
He did score.
Well, I think they didn't.
Oh, they disallowed
award that
one of them?
but then 2 minutes later, he did score anyway.
It's like a short ball like Hazelton scored the week before, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but I thought he looked pretty impressive too. And again, great depth for their outside backs, which are already so stacked. But he looked like a guy who could come in and do a job for him.
He did very well in the Jets grand final last year.
Okay.
He was one of the better ones on the field for me.
Yeah.
Wow. Exciting times. Alrighty, on to the next game. Don't forget, guys, head to begoodhealth.com.au to get your multivitamin. Use code DMP for 10% off. That's right, the best multivitamin in the game. We all use it. Super convenient. Tastes nice. Has all the vitamins you need. Head to begoodhealth.com.au. Eels defeat the Knights 44-18. This was a story of the halves. Like, I thought Brown and Volkmans, like, if you ever needed an example of, like, needing 2 high-quality halves, this was the game to watch. Yep, it's a trial for sure. But the difference between the two sides in that first 20 minutes, at the very least, maybe even first 40 minutes, was the halves. It really was for me. I thought Volkman and Brown's ability to square defence up, they completely stripped them of numbers multiple times. And then you look at the Knights, struggling to score points. I think Hastings gets brought in, Gamble gets brought on. All of a sudden, they start squaring the defence up and getting some points under their belt. So the Knights question still lingers as to who is going to be their starting pairing. I thought Fletcher Sharp was okay. I didn't think he was bad, but it's like you're going to have to stick with him if you put him there. You can't afford to just bring him in and then brush him. And I thought the Eels looked outstanding. I really thought they looked good. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in regards to the Knights head in with those key selections.
Yes, with the Eels, as I'm going to just echo what you said, mate, the halves, just how straight and direct Volkman played, just created so much opportunity. And like I think it's the best we've seen Dill Brown since he was sitting next to Mitch Moses, essentially. He just looks so confident in this one.
Big and strong too. Jesus.
Yeah, for sure. And Volkman, mate, like I know they've got Hawkins at the club that's arrived from South Sydney, but if anything happens to Mitch Moses, this is Volkman's team in a heartbeat for me.
He's, I think, the story of the weekend.
Yeah,
Ronald
agreed.
Volkman. Like, for what he's gone through in the last 12 or so months and the saga with the Dragons and his injuries, coming out of the Warriors and all of that, gee, it must have been a tough 12 to 18 months for him. He was exceptional in this game, and you boys both said it, but he was playing so direct and so deep into the line. I think he put Kelmer Tuilagi through for his try. He just looked brilliant. And Parramatta, who probably had a little bit of a question mark around, all right, what if one of the halves goes down? You know, there was question marks around sort of depth at fullback as well. Joash Papali'i, who came over from the Dogs, he came on, you know, big raps around him. He'd been great in New South Wales Cup, but he was terrific. They ticked a lot of boxes.
Yeah, a lot of their recruitment. I'd argue that this squad is far more balanced than their squad's been for at least 2 years. At least 2 years.
Like, you got Iongi at fullback, who had a really good moment as well, a double pump for a try assist there. Yeah, cool. Like, there's good early signs for him, but he's still a rookie. Is he going to last? What if he goes down? And then Papali'i came on and killed it. So, yeah, great signs.
Great signs. And I will say, a lot of people just been like, oh, yeah, Iongi's the fullback. I disagree. Like, Iongi and Papali'i are almost, like, I understand Iongi has been with Penrith and winning, you know, reserve grade comms, so I get that. But, like, I don't feel like Iongi is so far ahead of Papali'i that he's just an automatic selection. Like, I actually think that Papali'i might have a chance to edge him out in this last trial. I really do.
Do you think Dogs are low-key spewing a little bit? Did they let him go, given that that's potentially an area that they have been missing or been chasing a fullback?
It's strange, isn't it? Yeah. I was shocked when they did.
Yeah.
I was shocked when they did. But the Dogs, they must have some sort of plan.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, he looked outstanding. He looked so good.
He looked good, yeah. I think Iongi is just about a lock to be the fullback for the first game, though. I get what you're saying, but I mean, when Iongi was on against the real first graders, I thought he did really well. I think Iongi could have done what Papali'i did in the second half, realistically. Iongi's definitely the guy for me.
Yeah, I think it's still a challenge for it. I wouldn't. Very rarely does a reserve grader come to a club and it's just like, no matter what, you're the first grade fullback. I still think it's up for grabs. Not to suggest Iongi played bad. I don't think that at all. I'm just a bit surprised that people just automatically locked him in there immediately because, like, they're both reserve. At the end of the day, they're both coming from reserve grade. It's going to be interesting to see how many minutes Papali'i gets, though. Because I agree with you. I don't actually think Papali'i was even better than Iongi. I actually think they were probably about the same. But I still think it's a challenge for that one jersey. I don't think it's just going to be, definitely. Like, for example, if Iongi comes out and has a Barry and Papali'i kills it, I think he could just jag that jersey potentially.
I do think I got a lot of messages after this game from people saying Papali'i has to be the fullback.
That's silly.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
That's
let's
outrageous.
relax on that. Again, they're both reserve graders. Like, and I don't say reserve graders in an insulting way. What I'm saying is like they're both essentially. I think the only edge that Iongi has is because he's come from Penrith, and that reserve grade side I think has been doing better than the Bulldogs side. That's the only really edge that I would see him having in regards to like experience, because they're about the same age as well. For sure.
The name that came up before, Kelma Tuolungi, I think he's going to explode this year. I think this is the year we've been waiting for.
I hope so.
If he's on the right edge outside Moses, if you noticed in that game too, like Moses and Dill Brown, he was a real kick target throughout that game. Can you imagine when Zach Lomax is next to him as well? They dropped about 5 kicks just sort of on the head of the halfback there, trying to get to Kelma. Once Lomax is there, I think it's going to be a gold mine of points there.
What's interesting as well, like that line he ran for that try was unreal, and I feel like for the large majority of his time last season, he was on the left edge. Some back rows for sure, like they run a better line on a certain edge, so it does look like they're leaning into him a bit more this year as they're starting 80, not necessarily 80-minute man, 60 to 80-minute edge man to start the year. And if he said, no, I want the right edge, I'm better on the right, good early signs, because that line was a ripper off.
So I wonder whether, Cartwright, he's had a really resurgence of his career, but I wonder, does he suit Ryle's style of footy that might be quite direct and explosive? Because Cartwright isn't really, he can run a good line, but that's not really what he's known for.
Especially when you've got halves that play so direct, and I know like Dylan Brown probably more so than Mitch Moses, but Mitch Moses can do it as well. You want a hard line running back row, and not someone like Cardi who can hop around a bit. And Cardi's been fantastic in recent years, but I know what you mean, Kempy. Like, does he suit necessarily the halves that he's playing with, and not necessarily?
Because you look at the way Rolls is recruited, it's explosive, fast players. Like, he moved Gutho on, and what's the one knock on Gutho is he's not that fast, and he brings in young fullbacks that's literally like their main weapon is explosiveness, speed, and so it's good. I mean, you even look at Williams, like he is explosive, kind of forward through the middle. So it's going to be. I wonder where they'll land, because you've got Madison, who can run a really good line. However, does like to ball play at times. Probably isn't that fast. So I wonder whether he does move him into the middle and sees him more as a front rower potentially.
They've got like so many edge options. So I think Madison into the middle rotation makes sense, right? And then if at all there's injuries and they need to put him out, they can. But between like Bryce Cartwright, Sean Lane, I'm intrigued to see him. Oh, he's in doubt for the start of the season, but what they're doing with him, because he made that transition into that sort of middle role in the back end of last year, whether they stick with that or if he goes back to the edge, don't know.
Mate, is there a world where we were looking at their edges on the weekend? I thought Katoga was unreal on that left edge too. Offload was
maybe.
Good defence. Like, I think they have got other options there that could come in, but mate, I thought those two were really good.
I mean, they do suit what it seems like Riles likes, is like explosive ball runners that are, still relatively young.
And Cardi off the bench is a little bit telling, just because, when you have certainly Dylan Brown's one there, looks like they want to play Kelmer on the right edge. If they wanted Cardi on an edge and starting, you would have started him this outside Dill Brown. So it's he probably is coming off the bench, I'd imagine.
I read into that trial the other night as Cardi might be in a little bit of trouble to make that side.
That's what I was alluding to.
Yeah.
I just wonder whether Cartwright is his style of player.
Yeah.
Like, I think that there are some coaches that like his style with the offload and with the kind of can jink across the field.
Well, he suits certain systems, doesn't he?
Yeah, and my question is like, does he, like, it seems to me, just outside looking in with Riles, he loves explosive, he wants an explosive young roster.
Yep.
youngish roster.
What do you think when you have a look at the squad they put out the other night? Like Joe Offengow, he'll be in the squad somewhere. Whittemore Greg, I'm not sure if he will be. So Junior will come in and take that spot. You've then still got to fit Jack Williams. You've got to fit Hopgood, Lane, Madison. Like you're running out of spots for where Cara could be, and you know they're going to run with a 14. Oh, I think they'll run with a 14. So there's only X amount of spots in the footy side.
Could Joash Papali'i get the 14 jersey?
I think there's a potentially he could. I think they'll go with another hooker, but I wouldn't rule it out.
He got named at 14. You know, I just find that interesting that he was named at actual 14 and not just like 23 or whatever, you know, or whatever it was. Again, just a tiny detail. It's probably wrong because I wouldn't run two small fullbacks. I'd keep just one. But it just was interesting they named it at 14. Just quickly back on Joash Papali'i. He actually had a better knock than I even gave him credit for. And granted, I'm with you. He came on against a.
What was in front of him? He carved up.
He had a
100%.
He had a try, 2 try assists, 11 runs, 123 metres, 3 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, a line break assist. Whereas Ayongi, I agree with you though, as well as Ayongi, if he had stayed on, he probably could have got similar stats. He had a try assist, 5 runs, 53 metres. Yeah. And also, I think Ayongi only got maybe what? Did he even get a half? I don't
think he made it to half.
I don't
time.
know. He made it a half.
don't
He
think
said
he got
mine
there.
got like 30 minutes, which is it's very hard to kind of put those stats up, especially when you're playing against a much stronger side that ended up coming off.
Well, Papali'i scored, just before halftime.
Yep. Okay. So you really that's tough for a fullback to get into a game. 30 minutes at the opening, and also with Eels dominating the early game so much and scoring, it's like you didn't actually reach him that often, and so. That's like it's just a good thing to have for the Eels. Like the biggest knock on them, especially last 2 years, is their depth and the fact they got 2 guns battling it out for the jersey. Like to think that they might get through mid-year if they lose their fullback, they may be able to replace it with another fullback that's arguably just as good. Whereas back in the day, if they lost Gutho, it's literally like they don't even know who to put there.
Yeah.
Which is a great signs for their squad.
Mate, I just went through their whole forward pack, mentioned all the guys they're missing. I love this Charlie Geimer in jersey 13. He came on and played the back end of last season. Came through Parramatta grades as an edge, I believe. He was like captain of their SG ball and stuff. Moved into the middle every time I've seen him over the last year. He's another one that it wouldn't shock me at all if we get to round 1 and Jason Rolls goes, no, he's been one of the hardest workers in the room. I'm going to reward him.
You get the idea out of the club that they love him as well.
Yep.
Like even he debuted last year, got a couple of games and then got injured. He was really good in those clashes as well.
Yeah.
I wonder whether, after watching that trial, and maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but I do think there might be quite a few shocks with this Eels round 1 side. Because, like, if you're Riles, have you been tasked with winning a premiership this year or have you been tasked with rebuilding the club?
Rebuild.
If it's a rebuild, do you put an aging guy on a big contract on the bench or do you get a couple of young guys? Now, I don't think the whole bench, but I actually think there's probably maybe even 2 big names that might miss this squad.
Yeah, for sure. And I as you said, like he's coming to make some changes. I don't know if we spoke about it here. Jack Williams being
The leadership group.
in the leadership group,
Crazy.
gets out of his car and he arrives he jumps in front of Sean Lane, Ryan Madison, all these guys. I know that we all know Jack Williams is a good player. There's just so many errors in his game over the last few years that have held him back from that. But for him to arrive and impress that much so early. I'm assuming he's going to be in the starting side somewhere.
No, you'd have to. I mean, leadership
to,
group.
right?
You'd have to be surely.
Yeah.
You'd have to assume it's probably Junior Polo and him in the front row to start.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't buy into that, especially because it's not like he's been named straight captain or anything. So I don't he could start in the front row with Junior Bolo, but you mean the leadership group and come off the bench and play 40 or 50 minutes? Like, I don't see why that matters at all.
Yeah,
Leadership group doesn't have to be a starting player.
it doesn't. Of course, not saying that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. When you sit there and you go, okay, we're already unsure of who is partnering Junior Polo, and you look at trying to reinvent everything, and then he gets brought into that leadership group. I don't think even Ruth's saying that's definitely he's going to be starting, but I do think it makes you question much more. Put it this way, I probably wouldn't have had him even close to starting before all this. Now that he's been put into a senior playing group, I go, okay, maybe off because he didn't play this game. Is he injured? Do we know if he's injured?
I don't believe he's
I don't
injured.
think he's injured. I think
Whereas
they're just
Offengow did. And the only
Yeah.
one competing for that front would be Offengow. Wouldn't be Whittemore, would it?
I don't think so.
I highly doubt you'd start with Whittemore and Bowlaw.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And so really it's just, I think it's a competition between Offengow, and I think that's a big tell that Offengow did play in this trial and he didn't.
And I don't disagree with what Tim said. I think, even if he's not a starter player, I think it locks him into 40 or 50 minutes though. Jack Williams, which once again, more to your point, Kempy, not everyone can be in this side. There's going to be.
I think there's going to be
at
least two big misses, and I think it's going to be along the lines of style of play these big guys offer, big names, but also Riles going, I'm trying to rebuild here. Like, unfortunately, and so that's where I think they will start with Williams, Junior Polo on the front row. I really do. And there might be even a shock at 13. Hopgood's at 13, apologies. And maybe Guy Meir gets a bench spot. And then even the forward from the Bulldogs, got his name again? Katonga. I don't know whether Katonga will start. Just, he's still rough a little bit around the edges.
I wouldn't start him, but I mean, the more you talk about it and you look at the options, if he did land there,
it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way. The more I'm looking at the Eels, the more I'm thinking we may all, our predicted 17 might be quite off. And we might actually be looking at Riles going, no, this is a full-on rebuild. This isn't like halfway kind of stuff. This is, I want to rebuild this squad and then have a squad that in 2 years' time, they're not aging out of the game. They're not about to retire. They're literally about to hit their peak. And then you sit back and you go, well, I probably should have already thought that. Because, if you're Riles, why go in and play with an aging roster when you've been told to rebuild this side?
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. You don't see it very often. Like when they flashed up to Jason Riles sitting in the coach's chair up there, his assistant coach was Nathan Brown. Nathan Brown coached Jason Riles 20 years ago.
No way.
Yeah.
Far out. Just quickly on the Volkman situation, I've got to admit, the fact that the Dragons just refused to even let him rehab and stay at the club blows my mind.
Yep.
Blows my mind. You see him play as well as he did. And look, I understand from a Dragons perspective, he did his shoulder, but players do their shoulders all the time. Surely you re-sign him and let him, if put it this way, he would have signed it on minimum because he would have been thanks for the opportunity. But I don't think that the Dragons have that much depth in the halves they can afford to just be nah, not interested in Volkman.
Yeah, I think the further we get away from that, the more poorly that's going to age, that whole thing. And it aged poorly. A second after it happened, but it's going to get worse and worse.
He's 22.
He's so young. I mean, there's a reason why the Roosters had him in their grades for so long. This guy's a gun.
Yeah, and that game that he played on, I've been talking about him for years. That game he played on the weekend, that was no fluke. That's the sort of player he is. He just needs some time.
There was a bit of I know, listening to the preview, you guys kind of were mentioning, if Mitch Moses had an injury, obviously touch wood, but that would be basically it for the Eels. But I yes, it's a small sample size, but it feels like what we saw from Volkman on the weekend. They're if he had to go and play 6-8 games or something through the year, I don't think it is bottom 4 doomsday kind of scenario. He looked like he's got all the ingredients right there.
Well, it's much better than what they had initially.
Last year.
It was a disaster last year.
Last year was a shambles.
Yeah.
And they last year was a shambles because they had Sanders sitting there and didn't want to play him.
Yep.
Yes.
It's just God, anyway. So look, everything that we've seen from the Eels, I love it. I love their new style. If anything, they're almost similar to the Broncos in how they've come out. Super fit, super aggressive, different style of play. I think it's a big win for Riles. Now, granted, it's the first trial. We get it, guys. We had the disclaimer at the start of the show. Things could change rapidly, but from what we saw, I thought they played quite well.
Yeah. The other guy I want to talk about is Riley Smith, one of my CBAs this year. He's popped up on this show a few times over the last few seasons. A few weeks ago, he broke one of Gutho's fitness records of training. He'd held since 2017, so a pretty good knock there. I would be elevating him to top 30 now, and he would be my 14 for round 1.
Wow.
I think he offers exactly what Parramatta need. I think Lussick and Hands are very close to the same footballer. I think Riley Smith can offer so much more, and I think he'll be the long-term 9 at Parramatta.
So Lussick had a good moment towards the end where he went down a short side. They got some points. Biggest concern still for me is that 9 jersey. No one's jumped out and said, I'm the man to take it. And I don't mind that shout. I get it. He's young. But at the same time, just the Hands and Lussick, they've had quite a while to go, I'm the guy for this. And don't get me wrong, they haven't been bad or terrible. But at the same time, I don't think they've been so good where they can say, I'm the 9 at the Para Eels.
Yeah, I've seen enough of Hands that I think he'd be a good choice to start the season at 9. But
I'd
I
be
want
starting
Riley
with
coming
hands.
off and play last 30 minutes or
Yeah.
so and just give them something.
I'd be starting with hands, and I think that you're already kind of alluding to this, but I just don't know if he's got 80 minutes in him
Yeah.
each week.
Yeah, same as 80% of hookers in rugby
Yeah,
league. And
especially
the
at that age as
Yeah.
well. But outside of that, I thought that they showed bloody good signs for a first trial. Now, onto the Knights. Look, it is a trial, guys, so very hard to kind of take too much away from it. My biggest concern is that when Hastings and Campbell came on, they killed it. They literally, so Hastings comes on, boom, immediately. I think it was a line break and a try or something like that. It was a try assist or whatever. Gamble comes on, kicks a bloody 40-20 and then sets up a try.
Yeah, and Hastings was playing lock.
And so it's like, yeah, it's just like the fact that Cogger and Fletcher Sharp just really looked quite lost together. And granted, I'm not blaming the young fella at all. It's not Fletcher Sharp's fault. He's new to this. You've got to give him time. But it's just like, I think that this is going to be a cloud that hangs over the Knights for at least the first half of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I actually didn't mind the way the Knights played. I thought that they played a little bit more expansive than what they had previously. I think they've been one of the more, considering Callum Ponga's in their side, I think they were one of the most boring sides to watch in the comp last year. I think they were scared to make mistakes. There's a few offloads that were being thrown and whatnot, a little bit of second phase footy, and I agree with you, Cogger and Sharp didn't look fantastic, but in their first hit out, I didn't expect them to. I thought Sharp looked better than what I expected. If the Knights are working towards starting to move the ball around a little bit, I'm happy to be patient with them, but they've got to stick with the guys they've picked.
Well, the Fletcher Sharp selection in the halves, moving him from wing to halves, that probably reflects that maybe they are trying to play a bit more expansive this year, right? And why the hell wouldn't they? They've got the arguably best attacking ball playing just about fullback in the competition in Kalen Ponga, who can create points out of anywhere. Their backline, their strike all across it. So I think they were way too conservative last year. Like I think I'll double check this, but I think they're like the second worst attacking record in the comp last year.
Yeah.
16, there you go.
And with guys like Best and Gagai, who are top tier.
And the way they played, like
Marshall.
it's no surprise that's the way it happened. They made the 8, they played finals footy, but it's kind of like what could have been if they did lean into a bit more attacking. But I think Fletcher Sharp at 5'8", if they do go that way, suggests, no, we're going to play a bit more footy this year.
Do you kind of have to go that way, though? Like,
Bloody oath you do.
as in, you can't bring him in for that first trial and then because he probably would have started on one of the wings if he didn't.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't go, I'm going to bring you in for that trial and then we're going to drop you back to New South Wales Cup to play 6. I think you kind of locked in, support the young fella, go all the way with him. I guess I just didn't see a 7 jump out at me in this trial and go and play well.
Yeah.
That they're going to stick with, because they're probably going to have Gamble at 6 no matter what. You'd have to assume.
This year,
As in, what I'm saying is if he plays first grade, it'll be at 6.
yeah. Well, we assume Phoenix will be the 14, right?
I'd assume so.
I would,
but if,
yeah.
for example, if they bring him on, he'll probably be playing 6. What I'm saying is like they see if he is in a first grade squad, like let's say Fletcher Sharp gets injured or whatever, it would be at 6.
6, yeah. Okay.
Not a 7.
Who are their halves round 1, do you think?
Well, I think it's going to be Cogger Fletcher. And I just felt like I agree with you, Roo. I thought Fletcher looked much better than Cogger. I'm a little bit concerned. Like Cogger in those games, with how much experience he's got now, should at the very least look. Well, Volkman shouldn't look much better than Cogger did in those games.
When you have a look, and we'll talk about it soon, when you have a look compared to, say, Sean O'Sullivan, how good he looked in his trial.
Yeah.
He was in total control. He's not an elite halfback, but at that level, he was in total control. Cogger did not feel that way.
I actually agree with you. I thought Fletcher Sharp didn't set the world alight, but I actually thought at least he offered danger.
Yeah.
But as a combo, Cogger Sharp, I'm worried that like Cogger for me, at the very least, and then granted I get it's one game, but I just go, since even arriving at the club, have we seen Cogger reach his potential? Probably not.
No.
And so I'm a little bit worried that, okay, so they back Sharp in, they back Cogger in, we get to round 6 or 7, and they go, oh, Cogger's not working. They've told Hastings that you're not playing anything other than 13 because they obviously want to move him on.
Obviously, yep.
Then where do you go?
Where do you go? Exactly right. And, yeah.
And so now you're hurting Fletcher Sharp, who actually played pretty well on the weekend, at least solidly. I give him a good solid pass mark. That's my worry. I do agree with you boys, though, in regards to I like the fact that they have identified we need to be more willing to throw the ball around in attack. And with this side getting Best back in, Gagai back in, Marju I thought was outstanding on the weekend, especially in attack. KP back at the back. I think it actually will change quite a lot.
It is the one thing I do want to give Cogger until I see him with KP.
Yeah.
That's it. They're just, it's so different because they're so structured around KP and attack. It's like, all right, let's see them all together and see how they go there. And I mean, the other one there as well is like Dave Ricky, I think, was reporting Jaden Brayley to be let go by the Knights as well, which is not shocking news, but it does just make you question that guy into round one as well.
Well, it sounds like a full reset.
Yeah.
It really sounds like Fletcher Sharp being brought into 6. Like, that's a big gamble to just bring in no pun intended. You're almost going in a whole new direction to bring in a young guy into 6 from the wing when you've got so many halves at the club that can play that.
It's a huge gamble, especially when you've shown you have no faith in the decisions you've made previous to that. It's a huge punt. And that Jaden Brayley stuff, I thought he looked unreal on the weekend.
What I'm not getting is so initially he was going to let go, and then it was like, no, we're going to keep you, we want you, and now it's like
Now you let him go, and okay, because Phoenix Crossan was so impressive at hooker, I get that. He was your halfback at the back end of last season. You're not even giving him the best opportunity to become the best hooker he can.
Yeah. Positives though, positives. Tyson Frizzell moved into the middle, most likely.
Yep.
Most likely.
Do we think he stays there?
Yes.
I think he stays there.
I think it's locked in. I think Ponga said in an interview the other day that he'll be in the middle, and then I don't think he said, quote, the edges will be Pierce, Paul and Lucas, but they will be. So Frizz is in the middle.
I like
think
that.
It's a no-brainer.
I really like that. And again, I think it leans towards having this kind of a more attacking focus. You've got an explosive guy like Frizzell in the middle who is a gun. Then you've got Kai Pierce, Paul, and it seems like he'll have a bit of more license to play. And then you got Dylan Lucas on the other side. I like that.
That was the other big positive I took out of this. Kai Pierce Paul, we said it a few times last year, being a right-hand carry, came out, all of his highlights from the Super League were on the right edge. They move him out there, and I copped a heap of stick for it last year, but you saw him at one point go around the back of someone and throw that offload. He didn't have the confidence to do that last year. I think Adam O'Brien has 100% just loosened the leash a little bit. Let's play some footy.
Confidence partially, but he was clearly told not to.
Clearly told not to. There was times where he had his hand free and he just put it in. He was scared to make a mistake, I think.
Yeah. And so that's really good for the Knights to see that they're gearing up towards being a much more attacking side. Now, all reports have also been released that Adam Elliott and Hetherington apparently won't be offered a deal and told to look elsewhere. So it does look like, and for Knights fans, there is a new recruitment officer in charge, one of the best in the business, if not the best in the business. So maybe there's going to be a little bit of pain before.
Sebastian Sewer, who came off the bench, I think he's about to sign with, or has signed with the Dolphins as well. So if they lose Adam Elliott too, I'm stoked they've moved Frizzell in there, but very short. Leo Thompson going too.
I think they're hitting a bit of the reset button with their roster.
Yeah.
I think that they've looked at their roster, it's so out of whack, salary cap wise, that they're trying to clean it all up. Which, funnily enough, they're one of the few clubs that have strong enough, like Best, Gagai, Marju, Tyson Frizzell being moved in, KP still at the club, where they might still be able to fight for a top 8 position, which is there's very few clubs that are around that top 8 to 10 that have the luxury of being able to almost rebuild whilst staying in the top 8. I think once you bring Best in, Gagai in, KP in, I just can't wait to see him this week. This week is going to give me a really good indicator as to the style of rugby league they're going to play.
Well, no matter what happens with their entire roster this season, availabilities, fitness, etc., if Kalen Ponga's fit and firing at the back, they can just about beat any team in the competition, or at least be playing finals footy. Best case, maybe competing for a top 4 because he's a freak.
He's so good. And Best as well. I think Best and Gagai are really important. They almost balance it out a little bit. If you keep those 3 guys on the field, they're just so good at their best. They're just they can lift you off the canvas. So the way I look into this is I still have the same questions around the Knights as I did heading into this trial. However, I do like the indications that we are looking at a side that is trying to improve their attack. So that's a good thing.
We'll say this for the Knights, just have a look at their early draw. They go Tigers, Dolphins, Titans, bye. Couldn't get much better for a team that's got things to work out, realistically.
Absolutely. Alrighty, before we get into the Dolphins, bloke undies. Don't forget to grab some bloke undies. Grab some Grab Life by the balls. And I'll tell you who grabbed Life by the balls. It was our boy, Oblix Tower. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Against the Cowboys, he scored a try, he had a line break, 5 tackle breaks, ran for 204 metres, and made 23 tackles without missing any. Use code TAWHA, TAWHA, for 10% off your bloke undies this week. I tell you what, All Blacks Tawa, beast. Didn't he come out of nowhere, Roo? Have you seen any whispers on this guy? I've not seen anything of this guy before.
I haven't seen him before, but I know that talking to people over the Dolphins, mate, they're very confident in their tier 2 players.
Which is understandable because they had the Dolphins. So they got the Capras, the Dolphins and Norse.
Yeah.
Capras, I think, made the prelim, got knocked out by one of Norse Dolphins, and the grand final was Norse versus Dolphins. And I think that's what you saw on the weekend. A top-tier reserve grade.
Well, there was him. There was the centre, the young guy, Nafahu. I thought he looked really good. And James Walsh. I thought he looked great as well.
He was good.
They're
Is that the front rower?
The second rower.
second row.
What about the front rower? He was outstanding. What's his name? I'll get me notes up
Josh
here.
Allen?
There, the big boy.
Yeah, mate, they're sitting in a, I think he...
Josh Allen, he looked good.
Yep.
I think Walters might have mentioned that was Gavin Allen's son during the calling. He looked the goods. Mate, there's a few of them. Ryan Jackson went well.
Yep.
But yeah, Tower for me, absolutely outstanding. He absolutely grabbed life by the balls. Use code TOWER for 10% off your bloke undies order at bloke.shop. And it is quality, high quality undies, guys. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. Let's get into the game. Dolphins defeat Cowboys 50-8. So I wouldn't be too concerned if I was the Cowboys because this was definitely a reserve grade side. The concern I would have, though, is clearly the Dolphins' depth is much stronger at scale than the Cowboys' depth. So, for example, there might be some key young players at the Cowboys that are just as good, if not better, than the Dolphins guys coming through. But the power the Dolphins have is because they've been, obviously, the Redcliffe Dolphins, they've been a Q Cup side for so long. Their ability to pull together a side that's one of the best in the competition, reserve grade wise, is literally second to none. Because as we just said, the Dolphins and the North Devils, who are both feeder clubs to the Dolphins NRL side, were in the grand final last year. And so, as I said, there might be, let's say you got 5 of the best of that team, that's the next best thing for the Dolphins, and then you got 5 of the best next big things for the Cowboys up. You could argue that the Cowboys have better in those 5. However, if you took 20 of the next best things, the Dolphins are probably, they might even be the best in the competition, nearly. And so that's what's so interesting about the Dolphins is that their depth is so good. There's a makings of a powerhouse club there. They just got to manage to keep it all together. That's really going to be their biggest challenge over the next few years.
There's even more names there. I thought Rasmussen looked very good as well. Zach Garton, who played 19s last year, very impressive. So the Dolphins, they find themselves in a very good spot into the future.
They got the backing. They got a good system, good club. It truly is about keeping that group together somehow, some way. That's going to be the biggest challenge for the Dolphins because their depth is crazy. You could even argue that they've got more depth numbers-wise than Penrith because both of their feeder sides were in the grand final, whereas obviously Penrith only had one feeder side. And so, look, maybe that, I don't know if that is true. I'm just saying you could argue the point. That's how much depth this Dolphins side had. So when I look at it and I go, Cowboys fans may be a bit concerned or whatever. I don't know whether there's not reason to be concerned, but it was a super young side against a group of the best talent, arguably, in the Queensland Cup.
Yeah, I wouldn't be concerned one bit if I was a Cowboys fan. Great signs for the Finns and what they've got coming through. Plenty of talent there, very exciting. And I think as well, you look at a lot of the, obviously, Sydney-based clubs as well. They have a New South Wales Cup team that is their direct next in line to play in the NRL. With a lot of these Queensland clubs, as you said, with the Dolphins, Kempy, but the Cowboys too, the Broncos, they scatter a lot of their players across different clubs. So when they're coming together as basically a reserve grade squad for a trial game, a lot of these players wouldn't have played together, and they've been at different Q Cup clubs and all that. So combinations aren't there. Whereas even you'd see a few of these Sydney teams, or the Raiders are another one, they've played a lot of time together. The blokes who are the fringies, very different for the Cowboys. So I wouldn't be concerned one bit if I'm a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, as I said, it's actually when you compare the next best 5, because they're usually what you're going to use in the years, 5 players. Just a unique thing the Dolphins find themselves in. They've just got literally 20 gun players coming through. We'll go to the Dolphins and then we'll get to the Cowboys. I will say, just quickly with the Cowboys before I am concerned with the one, and I had it in my notes as well, their biggest issue heading into both seasons, or essentially any season over the last couple of seasons, is their defence. The fact that their defence looks so flimsy is a little bit of a concern, even though it is their Q Cup side. That is a bit worrying, but it's just a trial. It could change quite dramatically. But that did jump out at me as like, for example, you look at like the Broncos, and like the biggest concern was like their completion rate and not many errors. They went into this trial and the trial before, and it looks like that's been filtered all the way through down to their lower tier sides, like of a culture change to a degree. The Cowboys, the big question I have is like the fact that this Q Cup side defense didn't look great has me a little bit worried for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I do like...
Small thing. It's not...
It's a small thing, but it's even like the first graders that I was keen to watch in this Cowboys game, I thought they were all very poor. Robert Derby scored a try and ran for 150 metres, which if you just go on stats,
but he
say
didn't
good
play
game.
well.
I think he played himself out of that side completely. Jackson Paulo, I thought he was pretty average. It's Cohen Hess's first game back, so I won't go too over there, but I thought he wasn't fantastic either. So, obviously... This is not what their first grade side will look like in any way, shape or form, but I think it's just that attitude that I thought. Here's 20 guys that have an opportunity to show Todd Payton what they're about, and just defensively it was just so poor. But we'll wait until we see their proper side.
Another factor as well is you don't know what loading is happening at clubs. So for example, Todd Payton could be still tallying them up in preseason. So it could have been a really heavy week for them. They get to the weekend, they're fatigued still because it's a preseason week still. Whereas other coaches, their preseason ends like a week ago, and they get into the normal training program of almost like a season. So that's another factor to factor in for trials. But yeah, that in regards to the Cowboys, that was where I was just a little bit like, geez, like you would have hoped their defense was at least looked like it had improved, and it hadn't. But we'll go to the Dolphins and we'll get to the Cowboys. Actually, you know what? We'll stick on the Cowboys because they're on it. Unfortunately, there's like not that much positive to take out of, and that might sound like I'm trying to say, well, then it's a disaster. But again, you just don't know because it was basically a reserve grade side, peppered in, sprinkled in with some guys coming back from injuries or whatever. What do you think, Timmy?
I'd feel very unfair picking them apart for like the squad that ran out there for being towed up. Like 2 tries on the board. It's easy to be negative when it's 50-8, but new combinations, new players, genuine Queensland Cup. Mate, I don't have a lot to add, around...
What about defensively? Is that a little bit worrying that a club that's main issue is defence is...
I mean, it is, but, and again, I don't know enough about a lot of these players to say how much they've played together, but you put a centre and a 5'8" who have never played together and then a back row who's never played together. They might be under different defensive systems from one Q Cup team to like a fringe Cowboys player. It's just so difficult. So, mate, it's not good signs. Of course it's not. You want to see him better than this. And individually, as you said, there are a lot of players here playing to impress Todd Payton and the coaching staff to say, no, like get me in the top squad or get me, on the bench for round one, whatever that might be. And very few players put their hand up, but I feel very harsh being critical on them.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think we all kind of agree, like, it's when we say, it's a little bit worrying about defence, it doesn't come with the same weight as if we just watched a round one game. It's more just like looking at it and going, okay, like, you would have just hoped it was a little bit better than it was.
And like, again, state the obvious, but like, it's a trial game. But if it was their 75% of what will be their round one squad, I'd say, like massive concerns around the defence and the structures and the fact that, they've trained together all pre-season and they were that clunky, but it's not even close to it.
I will say, and I'm as I said, I'm not being super harsh, but they did start, I'm pretty sure, with McKaylee, Lawton, Hess, O'Donnell, that have all played a little bit of first grade. You would have thought that they, I guess, would have been in the match even from
well,
start.
I've had sort of throughout the preseason had concerns about, I think, the Cowboys' depth, in particular in the forward pack, and you've got someone like Cohen Hess coming back from an ACL, one of the more veteran players in the squad, how he's going to return, how they're going to go if a few injuries hit, and the early signs aren't great because, as you said, Kempy, there are some NRL players there who could be there in round one. Cohen Hess will be around, whether he's starting off the bench. Carl Lawton's probably off the bench. Thomas McKaylee maybe nabs a bench spot, so it's not good in that regard.
But I think broad strokes wise, I'm with you, Timmy. You can't be too harsh on this because you just don't know. Like they could be all from different clubs, different defensive systems. You just don't know. And but I would have thought even the fact that we don't know, I still would have just hoped to have seen like almost a little bit of a culture shift on defence because that's their biggest concern. But again,
even like looking at the attack and all of that, there are a lot of different players who could start in the halves for the Cowboys round one. Duffy, Purdue, Clifford, who I think might be out of action, but all of these players, none of them are even near this lineup. So
for sure. Root?
Yeah, look, like between the back five, 12 errors.
Yeah.
Like it was just
Tough
a
night.
sloppy game. And that's, I do have my concerns about the Cowboys and their attitude, but I want to see their full side come out. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised this is the side they sent out. This side needs a new winger, a new centre, potentially a new halfback. I'm a little bit surprised they haven't taken the opportunity to get 2 games under their belts or even just a half under their belt with more of their players, but each to their own.
I think I'm surprised that they're at least not playing the half 20 minutes that they were thinking of putting in whoever is leading the race in the halves. Just a 20-minute stint to get the cobwebs out. Like the difference between the concern with the Knights and the Cowboys for me is like they've got Dearden in the halves and Scotty Drinkwater, who are both like, and Reece Robson. So like very established 3 pairing of the spine. Whereas I look at the Knights and obviously you've got KP Brayley, we think, but you don't have a 6 and a 7 that are like 100% locked in. The reason why with the Cowboys I'm not as worried with the halves is just because I got Dearden in there and we know how good he is and he'll be able to pick up a lot of slack. But I do agree with you. I am a little bit surprised that, let's say Clifford was the next up. I don't think he's done enough to say, I'm a lock in that third trial just yet.
Well, from the understanding we have, there's 3 guys, Clifford, Purdue, Tom Duffy. None of them played in this game, which I
surprising.
can't really wrap my head around that. What?
I mean, that would suggest to me that he's already got his half locked in. Surely not waiting till the last trial match to decide who your half is.
Oh, no, for sure. But, like, okay, if you've got one of them locked in, play the other one.
the other
See
ones,
what they can do. Play the one you've got locked in. Who
Maybe they're injured.
If it's not Clifford, well, I think Clifford is injured.
Okay.
But you got the other 2 who are available, I believe. Like, the word is that Tom Duffy is going to be the halfback for round 1. Like, I would have thrown him in this game to see what he does.
Yeah, that is surprising. That is, I mean, you would absolutely throw him in this game.
That's what I do find it strange. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I would have played some of them.
Side note, playing a game in Cairns in February.
Ooh.
Oh,
Tough.
God.
Yeah. On top of
Pass.
that, now the Cowboys trial next week is Sunday afternoon against the Melbourne Storm, who just had 40 points put on them.
Oof. Yuck.
Yeah, it's going to be
But
tough.
yeah, I think we all agree. There's too many rookies here to cast too harsh a judgment.
Yeah, can't glean too much out
You
of
can't
it.
be too harsh. Now onto the Dolphins. You can be positive because it's like, geez Louise, these guys, yes, it is their reserve grade side. I mean, what's crazy is he's probably going to be their reserve grade 7, but I thought Sean O'Sullivan was unbelievable in this game. Looked like bloody Joey Johns out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we mentioned this before. Like, he's at his 5th club. I think he's 25 years old, Sean O'Sullivan, and he's always just going to hang around and just be a very good, I think, band-aid halfback throughout his career. We'll see what happens over the next few years as he gets to that 26, 27 years old age. But like, when we compare him to a lot of other halves this weekend, I thought he really excelled in this game. And granted, it was a big win and all that, but he just did everything he needed to do.
Well, he showed you what, even he's not like a full-on, first grade every week, but he showed you like that's what you would hope a guy that's a tier above Queensland Cup would play like, where it looks like they're a little bit out of water.
Yep.
There's the fish out of water going, like, I'm not really supposed to be at this level of rugby league, because that's what it looked like. It really did. He looked outstanding. Is it looking, we're going to speak about O'Sullivan?
No. I was going to go elsewhere.
Averillo, looking like
I think he's the 6.
he might be the 6. I
I
mean,
mean, I don't think there's that much of a question. I think he's the 6.
yeah, okay. I think that, look, if they can sort his defence out, I think he could be a bloody good 6. If his attack, I've always rated his attack. It's bloody good. Him around the ruck more often, I don't mind. I think it's just defensively. If he sorts that out, he'll be fine.
He's a bloody good something.
Yeah.
I've just got to work out what that is with Jake Averillo. And mate, they, from what I've gathered, they seem confident 5'8's going to be the spot. We said it before, like, I don't think Cody Nicarima is going to make this side.
Yeah.
Which I thought he was really good for them last year, Nicarima.
So intrigued to see Averillo defensively. Because attack, he's sublime. Gun. Just defensively, it's never been his strong suit. And like, granted, a lot of that's been at centre. He's had like issues with defensive reads and jamming in and out and that sort of thing. maybe being one in tighter, there'll be a few less decisions in terms of jamming. The contact might be all right, but that's the concern for Averillo. But look, the fact they've thrown him there, they're showing confidence in him. So
Well, the good thing about defending at 3, usually, like your 4 has a very specific job where it's just like put pressure on the ball player. And so usually your 3 defender, your half defender, has more, autonomy to make the call. Whereas like centre is usually reacting off your 3.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, your 3 is reacting off your 4 for sure, but you've definitely got more autonomy than your centre position. And so maybe that's just going to help him quite a lot where he gets to make the call to go in or stay out.
He'll make more tackles. He'll get a lot of back rows steaming onto him one-on-one and that sort of thing, which will be tough and a big test of him. But if physically he holds up, the decision-making, whilst tough, it's not going to be as intense as the ones he's had to make at centre where he's been caught out a bit.
Yeah, because centre is just like, I know people like to joke about centres and wingers jamming in, but the defensive reads are so hard. And, often we watch these defensive reads in slow-mos after they've happened. When you're out there and they're coming at you a million miles an hour, it is so hard to make the right call. And as I said, it's easy for the audience when they're watching the try that's just happened in slow-mo 6 times to go, bro, why are you jamming? It's like, yeah, but you're watching it in slow motion. Plus, you're watching it from an angle that's above or at least where you can see more. A winger's got far less of an angle to view.
I played playing footy growing up and even seniors as a bit older, and you'd sit there and I'd play centre a fair bit and have to make some of these reads, and I'm like, geez, that's hard, like split-second decisions. Then I'm like, that's with some like park footballer in reserve grade who's done his ACL 4 times, he's 44 years old. Imagine if that's Kalen Ponga coming at you instead of it's so hard.
It's tough. So maybe he just needs more autonomy to be the guy making the calls.
I showed up to the charity match yesterday and I sort of came in a back door and there was like an under-14s game of footy going on at the time. And that was uncalled for. And I arrived there and the first thing I heard from one of the coaches just looked at his clipboard and then screamed, "Stay on your fucking wing." I thought, footy's back.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
good.
Oh, yeah. Stay on your fucking wing. Jeez. Okay, in regards to some other players. But yeah, in regards to Averillo, I thought he played quite well. I thought, mate, I know he actually ended up playing fullback. I'm such a fan of Donahue. I really am, and I think he deserves a shot at 6.
Yeah, I was going to say, I found that really interesting. It sounds like Averillo is going to be playing 6, so that's basically case closed. But I've always thought that Donahue looks like a guy that could be a good option there. I found it very, what's he going to be, 3rd or 4th, probably string fullback. At least he was out there, but I wouldn't have mind having a bit of a look at him at 6 as well, just to see how he kind of would have slotted in.
Completely agree. He would be my 6.
He'd be my
I would
6.
have him over Cody Nicarima as well.
Mate, he looks silky.
He's off contract right now.
We got a guy with Donahue. We got a guy that's played in the middle, like at 9, tackle his ass off. Might have even come on at 13 at some stages in games, maybe. Willing to play fullback, 6, probably centre. I just think I'm surprised that they're putting him at fullback, but the only reason I can think that they are is to give him trial match time.
No, they're genuinely looking at him during Origin to play fullback.
So he's going to be behind 2, and I know he said in the post-match press conference because the injury to Fuller, but he's better than 3rd string winger to me.
Yeah,
at that club.
Going from spending time at hooker to fullback is ridiculous.
Crazy.
yeah. But he had he didn't arrive there as a hooker. He just
I know.
He's just arrived there as a footy player.
I don't even say that as a negative.
Yeah.
I'm like the fact that he can do that.
Yeah.
And if he can do it, good on him and good luck to the club because they've got just an invaluable weapon to have in the team. And the Doggies get a lot of credit for having this really versatile team and players with a bunch of utilities. And it was almost a bit of a running joke last year about the way they did it. The Dolphins, though, they've got Kurt Donahue, who can play freaking anywhere. Nicarima can go play. He's similar. Fullback, halves, can play hooker. Averillo, he's similar. Max Plath can play about 4 different positions. The Dolphins can cover anything that is thrown at them with the versatility of their players.
We interviewed Donahoe last year at Magic Round. He was sort of just like a fringy still at that point, and mate, he is just a very blasé character, very just rat's ass about whatever he's doing. But then just seeing the other night, he looked like a real leader in that side.
Yeah.
I think he's really sort of starting to come of age.
I think he might jag the 14 jersey. I think he
will,
might.
yeah.
He's perfect for it.
He's perfect for 14. And as I said, I think there's a world, if the Averillo situation doesn't work out, we want it to, but if it doesn't, mate, him and Katoa at 7 and 6, I like that. I don't know what his defense is like in the line, but look, if he's playing 9, it must be pretty good. You don't put a bloke that can't tackle in at 9, usually. And so, yeah, I thought Donaghy just looked slick, something about him. I think he did spend some time at 6 towards the end of the game, if I recall correctly. I could be wrong with that. Looks super slick. I think he might. The Nicorimas situation is going to be interesting, but especially when you got a young buck like this coming through, it might put a lot of pressure on that 14 jersey. Because I thought he was quite good. I thought Allen, the front row, the big fella, I thought all of their forwards were outstanding. Really good. But Allen, for me, really stood out. Really good. 153 metres, 18 runs, 40 post contact, 22 tackles, 0 misses. And then their other front row, Ryan Jackson, 16 runs, 150 metres, 53 post contact, 16 tackles, 0 misses, 0 errors. Bloody good knock from the big fellas up the middle.
Obviously, Nono, he scored 3 tries on the wing. I thought the man inside him, Fangai, he was good. He sort of, I haven't really considered him in my Dolphins starting 17 at any point throughout the preseason. And once again, it's just a trial. See how they go next week. They've got some quality out there, but geez, you could do much worse than to have an injury and bring him in.
He was a real handful, wasn't he? Every time he kind of had it, he got a nice offload away and just looked dangerous. And yes, basically, obviously, Nono got the 3 tries, but a lot of it was because of Finai inside. Thought he was great.
Anyone else, boys, with the Dolphins? Unfortunately, Dolphins fans are probably going to have to move on because otherwise...
Just, like, all their back row was great. We touched on Toa, Walsh, Mason Teague, I thought was pretty good as well. They just showed that they got a lot of great depth and a lot of people who were ready to roll, just get out there and do their job.
As far as the 14-6 and everything goes, big watch this weekend incoming.
Big watch. I will say, when you're talking about game specifics, I thought they were super aggressive in contact and wrestle. I thought that Christian Wolf, it seems like... Now, I don't know, is Ben Teo still... No, he's at the Broncos now. It seems like Christian Wolf has spent a lot of time in the preseason with contact and wrestle, because they look like, even when they got their hands on blokes, they look super aggressive in the wrestle. Like, forearms in faces and whipping blokes around, crabbing them around so that they're north-south or south-north and not the right way playing the ball. And that's not just, like, it wasn't dirty or anything. It was just very aggressive. Yeah. And so it seems like, and like that's something actually Wayne has never been a big proponent of. Like wrestle, don't get me wrong, his squads do it, but he doesn't lean into it a lot. Like it's not, he's just never been like video, and wrestle has never been something that Wayne has enjoyed. Matter of fact, I reckon if you ask Wayne, if you could delete the wrestle tomorrow, he would. I don't think he actually likes it. Whereas Christian Wolf, I reckon you're going to find a super aggressive side that's quite strong in the wrestle, because that's what just watching them, the style they played, they seem quite aggressive compared to the Dolphins that seemed last year more like, let's just make our tackle, get through our systems, grind them out kind of stuff. So that's a little bit of difference. Alrighty, the Warriors v the Storm. Warriors defeat the Storm 36-10. Looks like the Schnack, Roger, he is going to be on the wing. But, look, Hello Sema stood out for me. I thought he was great. But the one that's really, really stood out to me is Ali Latawa. Mate, he is going to be an absolute nightmare. He is so friggin' big. His hands are so soft. He's got footwork. He's almost like if you could design a center in a lab, that's him. Defensively, he looked pretty good too. He is going to be a problem this year, Ali Lawatawa. I think I'm saying that correctly. Apologies if I'm not. I cannot wait to see this bloke develop.
Yeah, and when we got our opportunities to see him last year, most of it was at left centre, and the first thing that stood out to me was the soft hands. Were just incredible last season. They switched him over to the right.
It's like he got better.
The same thing, yeah, if not better.
2 tries, 2 try assists.
I think it was the second pass he threw. Like he barely touched that ball.
7 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, 2 line break assists. Unbelievable game.
Yeah.
Like, think about him with another 2 years under his belt. And, like, what's insane is if you were just to look at him as a centre physically, the one part of his game you would say he probably needs to work on is his hands. We didn't even see the physical side of his game, and which is probably the strength of his game. Like, he is probably better at ball running than soft hands, and yet we saw him tear them apart with his soft hands.
He's like if you put Will Hopoate's soft hands on Solomon Okata's body.
Yeah, he's so big.
Just an absolute beast. Like,
he's scary.
He's one of the most exciting players in the NRL in terms of upside. probably going a little bit rogue, but he's a genuine smoky for like a Dally M Centre of the Year. As you said, Kempy, he has every attribute to be an absolute star of our game. And the sample size that we've seen from him thus far, he's been nothing short of brilliant. Like, to be as damaging a runner as he is with those hands, you
don't see it often.
I don't know a centre, and it's a different skill set, but with that skill set in the NRL at the moment, that good. It's like when Talakai was playing centre because he had the soft hands, he was a beast runner, but he's, quicker than Sifa was there, more agile. He's such an exciting prospect.
Well, he's 188 centimetres, so probably 6'2".
Wow.
102 kilos, and he's 22.
Wow.
Like a man mountain. And so you just more training into him, It's interesting. Maybe he missed a year because of injury or whatever, because I'm interested that he's 22 and he hasn't been snapped up by another NRL club. I'd love to get his stats in New South Wales Cup. But he is just one of the many very, very exciting prospects coming through the grades. He actually debuted 2023. I just can't wait to see him getting even better. From Auckland, born there in Auckland. And so, I think we might have, as long as he stays dedicated and make sure he's in the best shape he can possibly be, we might have a star in our hands. Again, long road to go. I get it. Again, it was against a Storm side that are like reserve grade players. You got to understand though, Lauataua, he is also a New South Wales Cup player. He hasn't played much first grade. Matter of fact, I think he's only played one or two games. At most he's played, 5 games. So we're not talking about a veteran here, but he looked unbelievable.
So New South Wales Cup last year, 10 games, 3 tries, 6 try assists, 38 tackle breaks, 4 line breaks. Probably a little underwhelming for how he looks now.
Yeah. And he only played, 10 games, did you say?
Yeah, 10 games last year.
So he's probably injured for the other ones, I'd assume. So maybe that's
why. How many games of first grade he played last year?
I think max 5, would it be? Could you get it up, please,
mate? He might have played a little bit more than that.
Maybe? You reckon? Let me look.
I would have had him maybe close to the 10 mark, but...
Yeah, mate, you could be right. All I know is he's a beast.
Yeah,
absolute beast. Can't wait to see him develop, especially if he plays, more regularly in that position on the right there, builds up his combinations. What do you got there, Matty?
Yeah, 7 games last year.
7 games.
Yeah.
In regards to some other guys, or Halasima, if you're on our socials, you would have seen us talk about it, but he either gets a burner or he gets hit in the nuts. I'm not sure which one. If he gets hit in the nuts, it's even more impressive. If you go and watch it on Instagram, you can see so he gets hit. Halasima would have been the best player in his age group and would have been so used to, let's say something like that happens where he gets hit in the nuts or gets hit in the shoulder. He stays down. Who's going to say anything because he's the best player on the field? So you say, oh, hang on a sec. Who are you to tell me to do whatever? I'm the best player on the field. Immediately gets up, immediately runs back to the line. Storm identify it straight away. They try to isolate him literally the next tackle after he's one, and he makes the tackle again whilst being injured. And so if you mix that with his incredible ball running, you saw his ball running on the weekend, he is another scary prospect. It's such a delicate time in their development. He's 19 years old. They can just get it right. Holy, it is just so exciting. And then you've even got Dimitri Valmonga. Now, he is formerly known... Sifakula, but he's Valmonga at the moment. I hope I'm saying that correctly. He's another guy that, 10 runs, 100 metres, 31 post contact, 21 tackles, 0 misses. So these young guys coming through, they are primed and ready to be the next big group of dominant forwards and backs that group of 4 players that can really be destructive in the NRL. It's just a matter of making sure the development is handled correctly.
How about Halasima's just stats from New South Wales Cup last year? Just his tackle breaks alone. So he was essentially an 80-minute edge player. Tackle bust 2, 9, 11, 2, 11, 13, 6. And not just running for 100 metres, regularly running 150 plus, 170 plus.
Right. If all 3 of these Lauataua, Valmonga, and Halasima can hit the ground, and Laban as well, you can build squads around these 4 guys. They were outstanding. Already spoken about a little bit last week, but geez, their whole season hinges on Metcalf staying injury free. If he plays 20 plus games, they probably make the 8. They really do. It hinges on him being there because he reminds me of Jerome Hughes. plays the ball at speed, makes sure the defenders have not much time to make decisions. And he was just tearing teams apart. Kicked another 40-20, kicked one last week. Now, granted, yes, don't get me wrong, it is good to see a good kicker at the club that's going to take care of it. But, you know, trials pressure is obviously very different to NRL pressure. And, you know, you might get that 140-20 here or there, but it's actually about all the little kicks in between that matter, the field position kicks, the finding grass. However, you can't ask for much more from Luke Metcalf in these trials. He has been absolutely phenomenal. Matter of fact, you could even argue he's probably been the player of the preseason challenge so far. That's how good he's been. Just a matter of staying fit in the field.
Yeah, he's got rid of all my concerns I had a few weeks ago about the kicking game and whatnot. I think they'll be okay with Luke Metcalf. And you know what, mate? Like, even if he does get injured, like it'll suck. But you know, they have got Tomato Martin there, who they won more games than they lost with him last year. So yeah, I don't have them in my top 8 with Metcalf, without Metcalf as it stands right now, but he's going to be very important. I also thought Chanel Harris-Tavita, sort of the forgotten man. I thought he was very good on the weekend too.
Doesn't he always just pop his head up every now and then and just kill it? And then you've still got Tanner Boyd that's going to be available in a few weeks, so they have got depth there. But I agree with you. I think Metcalf is by far and away the best option there. Aaron Clark, finally a coach. How long have we been calling? Put him at 13. He literally couldn't be more perfect for the modern game's 13. Gets put there, he's killing it. He's been outstanding. So another big win for the Warriors. You had 13 runs, 134 metres, 50 post contact, 1 tackle break, 22 tackles, 0 misses. Give him an opportunity to 13, let him rip and tear. I love the fact that Webby's gone on that route.
The other thing on that, it also allows, if Aaron Clark can evolve into the starting 13, playing his 50, 60 minutes, whatever it might be, it just allows Dylan Walker to remain that X factor off the bench. Like, I think he's made that role his own so much, and I think because he's so quick in and around the ruck, Dylan Walker, that you know, there's such good effect him coming on at the 25, 30 minute mark. Rather than starting him, you don't need Dylan Walker starting as such as your 13 and getting through that hard part of the match where it's a bit of a slugfest and an arm wrestle. You want him coming on with tied forwards around the ruck. So if they can get a 13 like Aaron Clark who can lock down that spot, it's perfect for him. When
they're fully fit and you've got Barnett, you got Fish, do you have Clark and Walker on the field at the same time?
Depends how many minutes you want out of Clark, because Dylan Walker's still probably going to get anywhere from 50 to 60 minutes.
Yep.
So it just depends if they think Aaron Clark can play in the middle rotation and stay on when Walker comes on. So like Barnett or it'll probably Fisher Harris goes off. You know, can they keep Aaron Clark on through the middle for longer? Probably can.
Probably can, yeah.
Who else stood out for you boys?
And I think you've sort of covered all those young blokes. All looked very impressive. Metcalf was good. Tane Topiki jumping out on the wing. I mean, geez, you could do much worse than have him out there.
Yeah.
He was great.
Hammy, what about you, mate?
Yeah, I think those two wingers obviously went berserk at the start of the game. Obviously, RTS, you know what you're going to get. But, yeah, it was interesting to see Tuapiki not at fullback. Yeah, he just looked like he carved it up and did really well. So maybe with DWZ out for the first couple of weeks, maybe he slips in there. Obviously, he's a different style of player, but still very very dangerous with the ball in hand and had those 2 tries in the first half.
So look, great win for the Warriors. Look, yes, was it against a Storm side that was very under strength, but so far so good for the Warriors. The biggest key for them, I think, is just not getting ahead of themselves. Not just going, oh, we've had these great trials and we're looking great, all this good stuff. We're just going to be able to play NRL round 1 or in Vegas, and it's just all going to happen. It's not. It's going to be a massive step up. And so I think that's going to be their biggest challenge, just to make sure to keep everything grounded, keep everything calm. Now, onto the Storm. I have to be honest, it's a bit similar to the Cowboy situation. There's not really much to say about the Storm. It's a trial. It's a very, very young side. Yes, I will say, you don't expect Storm sides to leak that many points, but in typical Storm fashion, they were getting absolutely towed up, and then Storm somehow in the second half actually won the second half. So, like, you look at it and you go, okay, so when the Warriors had much stronger side on, they, did really well and won like 36-0 or whatever. Once the sides were relatively even-ish, the Storm actually won it. So, I don't think, as a Storm fan, I don't think there's any Storm fan worried at all, but that's just something to notice in regards. Don't look really at the score. Look at the score, but when the teams were equal and Storm actually won it. Boys?
Yeah, sure. I Yeah, I for the Melbourne Storm coming out of this one, I've just looked at a few individuals that I was interested in. Stefano was one of them.
I thought he looked fit.
Pretty good in his first hit out.
I thought he looked much fitter and faster than he's looked ever.
Yeah, I agree. So I think there was positives there, and honestly, if it comes to this Melbourne Storm side, we all know what their 1 to 17 is going to look like. We probably know what their 1 to 20 is going to look like. Stefano was just about the only one I was watching from Melbourne.
12 runs, 110 metres, 46 post contact, 4 tackle breaks, an offload, 24 tackles, 0 misses, 0 errors.
For a side that got spanked, that's a pretty solid outing for a first hit out at a new club. Like, he was playing with the Queensland Cup squad. The Warriors were, that was an NRL squad.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad effort for a front rower.
Mate, he looked faster. He legit looked faster than he's looked in a very long time. So far, good signs for Stefano. I'm just trying to think of any other guys that may have stood out. Again, I thought Wishart was a little bit underwhelming, but it's very hard to get into the groove of things when you're playing a first grade side and you've essentially got a reserve grade side, especially as a half.
Far logo, I thought there was a couple of errors at the back there. It's a missed tackle.
Defensively.
Yeah, I thought he got found out maybe a little bit there, and
Got to work on that.
yeah, that was there's some people who are kind of going, oh, he's ready to take over now from Pappy, but I think like that sort of showed that still a fair bit to learn.
It told two things, didn't it? Firstly, that you can't start him on the wing, I don't think, because he's just too small defensively until he sorts that out. And secondly, if he's the long-term solution to Pappy and whether Pappy moves to the halves, whatever that looks like, wherever Farlongo ends up in the NRL, whether it's at the Storms, the fullback, another club, whatever, defensively everywhere, but especially on the line, that last man D, he's going to have to improve it because it's a long way from where it needs to be.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where he's so good in attack. Like, it's so amazing watching him with ball in hand. But unfortunately in defence, I just felt like even there was like a bit of a lack of commitment at times. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, I was of the mind of, as a fan of footy, if a fullback gets in his body in front and gets bumped, I'm actually okay with it. Like, I know people actually, there are some people that don't like that. They're like, no, you need to be good enough to be able to make the tackle. Like, when I see fullbacks get isolated on the line, as long as they put their body in front and have a fair crack and get in a bit smaller, get bumped, I'm actually okay with that, because I'm like, that's just part of rugby league. If you want to go and put a bunch of muscle mass on that fullback, you're going to lose what's good about him. It's when they kind of just go, you know what, I can't make that tackle, so I'm not going to. So that's where I felt with Farlongo. The RTS one, I can understand because his footwork is so good, you just kind of get left in the blocks. But the other one, I felt like he probably could have committed a little bit more. And I think that's, out of all of his game, where he's like a 10 out of 10 in attack, I think in defence, that's just going to be his, every single player coming into the NRL has things to work on. And for Farlongo, it's easy defence.
Yeah, for sure. Completely agree.
And I mean, Pappy would have done the same thing. I guarantee you, Pappy, when he came into first grade, that would have been the question about him. Work on his defence. That's what he did. I'm trying to think of some other guys. Like Reece Walsh probably still needs to work on his defence, but the second year I think he really did work on his defence and got better. Scott Drinkwater.
Drinkwater's another one.
Yeah. He had first year not so good in defence. Second year he was much better. Third year fell off a little bit. So we're talking about some of the best fullbacks in the competition. It's only natural that as a smaller player, you're going to need to work on these things, and I think that's Farlongo is going to be his biggest challenge over the next few years.
Yep.
In regards to other performances, boys, anyone else sitting out for you?
Nah,
not really from Melbourne.
Just trying to look here quickly. Lazarus it's okay. It's okay. Solid. I was hoping for a little bit more, but when you're getting douched up like that, very hard for a front rower to get momentum. And outside of that, very young side.
I imagine too, when this Warriors side's running downhill like they were, fucking be exhausting just with those bodies coming at you.
Yep. Katoa came on. He got through did his thing, which was good. Just trying to think here, but yeah. Anyway, nothing to worry about, Storm fans. I don't think any Storm fans would be worried, to be honest. Alrighty, Rabbitohs versus the Seagulls. I'll tell you what, this one, you're sitting there and you're going, just South, show a bit of fight. Not too scared, not too worried about it going, oh my God, it's disasters. But there were periods where I was like, oh man, surely you don't want to walk away from this trial going, you've just got nothing out of it. I thought it was really good that in the end that they did show that fight. And it was such a Wayne Bennett-esque thing to do. Is like any club he goes to, they may not be the best defensive side or even attacking side, but very rarely do you see a Wayne Bennett's coach side. Granted, I know he wasn't coach there, but I mean, in off season, and they just give up. Very rarely see it. And I thought that was really good for the South, that They were getting towed up, but they hung in there, and they ended up making it look like a relatively respectable score.
Yeah, I thought Lehigh Opawade, he was just. I wrote in my notes the other day during this game that, like, in a few years' time, he could be one of the better players in the competition. He is a freak at everything that he does. The hands he's got are unbelievable. He always seems to be in the right spot. His body always seems to end up in the right spot after contact as well. There was times during last year I thought, are you too small? And then other times I watch him go, oh no, like you're kind of monstering guys despite your size.
Yeah.
And I know, like there's every chance he's not in the round one side, but you would assume by playing in this game he's not going to be in the round one side. Someone, a good player has to miss. I think it's probably him or Tommy Talau. We'll see which direction they go, but mate, he's just too good not to be in first grade every single week.
Yeah, from first time I did my predicted teams from like start of January, and I just had Lehigh on the wing, and I was like, not because I thought he was definitely going to get it, just my preferences. You've got, as you said, Guru, Hopai's a freak.
Yeah.
Like, he has to be playing NRL, and I think their backline is set in my eyes, or should be set, and unfortunately Tommy Talau misses out, and that's no knock on Tommy. He was great last season, but it's a little him v Hopawade, who, as you said, like, he could be a superstar in a few years' time, whereas Tommy Talau's been there for a fair while. And just the style of footy Manly play, we know they're going to be expansive. They're going to go from side to side. They're going to rely on speed on the wing, and Hopawade has that, and I just think they need to lean into that. But I also think you're right. The fact that he played fullback in this trial in a more understrength, or a very understrength backline in particular for Manly, it suggests that it'll probably be Talau round one.
I think that, unfortunately for Manly, he's going to be in the side eventually because otherwise you'll lose him. It's that simple.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, it's really that simple. You can choose not to play him, but there's going to be a club that's going to go, here's 600 grand to play fullback for us.
There might be 15 clubs.
You know, so it's just like, you know, make your mind up. Do you lose it? Because this guy is so special, in my opinion, that there are a lot of clubs right now. I think it's still 26. Can you please check for me, Matty? Right now, if they said, if he went to the open market, he'd probably get 600 grand to be a fullback.
I think he could get more. I think he's got that sort of potential that clubs, like if he went to the open market, it wouldn't be one club throwing money.
I think
It'd
get
be
more.
several. I reckon he'd get heaps
Okay,
more.
fair enough.
Just off potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Minimum
Agreed.
600K.
Yeah.
Which is a scary prospect. That's a scary weight to have behind someone in a negotiation room, where it's like, you keep playing me in reserve grade, I'm not a reserve grader. Like, I'm going somewhere else.
I think he's got so much potential that he could get stupid money on the open market
Just make
for
this-
what he's achieved.
Yeah. What do you got there, Matty?
The NRL website's wrong, so it's hard to see exactly what it is, to be honest, because it just says 2026 NRL, so I assume that's it.
Okay, so it looks like 2026. And so that's the tough spot that the Manly find themselves in. And that's why I feel like you probably need to lean heavy into getting Tommy Talau to be your 14. And I think he'd be a good 14. I really do. I rate that call. But yeah, Hopawade, he is a step above. And what's mental is, like, what is he, 19 now?
Yeah, he wouldn't be
20.
much older.
He's just turned 20. Like, imagine him at 25 when he's just fully filled out, got all the skill set. He's going to be unstoppable. So, yeah, I don't know what you do. I mean, yeah, so he's 20 years old, but his birthday is the 26th of January. So, like, he's 20 for the whole year, you know?
Yeah.
He's not turning 21 this year or anything like that. So, mate, I just think it's amazing. I think it's amazing. There. So he is still, I've just got his play contract up here. 2025, 2026. So November 1 this year, Manly have got a big headache because not only are they going to have to say, yeah, we'll play you, but they've got to compete with, you're going to play him out of position. And also, there's no way they're going to have the salary cap space to be able to pay him what he's probably worth. So he's going to have to take a pay cut to stay, I'd assume.
And I mean, you even just have a look at the other guys that played in the back line in that game. Like, Vega's a first grader for me. Aaron Schultz played first grade. Clayton
Willett was outstanding. Is it Willett?
Navram Willett.
Willett, sorry. He was
drink of water.
outstanding.
Yep. So like you got so much depth here that it's going to take a lot of injuries for any of these guys not named Lehigh to get an opportunity. Really,
Yeah.
they all look ready.
I just in my notes, Navran Willett.
Yep.
Mate, I think he looks the goods.
Yeah, I believe he played in the SG Ball comp last year and blew it away there. He's a big boy.
Big, athletic. Clayton Falaulau as well.
He's good.
really good. And, there's a reason for at least 2 or 3 years he's been tearing New South Wales Cup apart, but he looked outstanding. Absolutely outstanding.
Ella's favourite.
Oh, really? Okay.
Got
Okay.
taste NRL last year. One game was full game scored. Played a 40-minute game scored. He was very impressive.
Yeah.
Who else
I thought Takiaho, boys, his first game back, I thought he looked great in this one. He's a guy that I'm probably expecting to play 30 minutes off the bench, maybe. I sat there and watched him the other day and thought, okay, maybe he has got more to offer than that. I thought he looked really good.
He's intriguing, isn't he?
So intriguing, yeah. Like he could become
Could
a
be
lot
the
more
difference.
relevant than I thought he was going to be, yeah.
Well, he could be exactly what they needed, like the missing link to take that next step. Now, we don't know that, but the style of footy he plays, you just never know.
Like I always assumed he'd come off the bench, but watching him the other day, I wouldn't mind him as a starter. I reckon he could handle it.
Yeah, I need another look at him and just see second hit out. But like for the amount, how long was he gone for? 2 years or 1 year?
No, it's been more than that. I reckon it's been like 3 years, hasn't
3
it?
years.
He left after the Roosters. What would that have been? 2
years?
2025 now. Like I reckon he's been gone for a few years.
Oh, no. Guys.
Just 2 years,
2
hasn't
years.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, was it?
So we all agree that Navran Willett went really well.
Yeah.
Just found an Instagram post. West Tigers signed Navran Willett.
Great sign.
2022.
Yeah, sorry, that's where he was. He was at the Tigers at SG Ball, yeah.
We're stacked. We've got Taruva and Skelton.
So he would be like 20. I'd say he'd be about 20 years old now.
Yeah.
21. Just,
Oh, no.
I didn't mean to do that. I just Googled it and it came up first thing that he signed with the Tigers.
Well, we wouldn't be getting a start now. Simple as that.
You are the feeder club for the NRL.
We are. Where would you be without us? NRL? Really?
Oh,
You're welcome.
God. Oh, God. Yeah, look, Manly looking bloody good. Bloody good. Similar-ish to the Sharkies, if I'm being honest, when it comes to depth. I guess the only difference would be Sharkies' forward depth is probably a bit stronger.
Yes.
Definitely.
But their back depth is outstanding. Like probably, there's no argument made Manly have the most depth in their backs of any team in the competition.
Did Paseka get injured in this one as well?
He did. I think he's been cleared of serious though. I think.
I found it weird he played in this one when you look at the rest of the side.
Yeah, I found it a little bit weird too. The only thing I can think of is fitness. He's such a big
bit of
boy.
match fitness.
Yeah, just get as many minutes in as you can to just get him ready for the season. Because he's like Payne Haas to them, in my opinion. Now, is he on the Payne Haas level? I don't think so. But in regards to importance to the side, I think he's nearly just as important. Because if they lose him, I just don't know how they go forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
He needs, and also not only if they lose him, like he needs to play an 8.5, 9 out of 10 this year for them to push for a premiership. And I think he can. I think he's improved year on year. Yeah, outside of that, boys, anyone else stand out for you guys?
No.
No, covers it.
Really? The Rabbitohs. I thought, I just think Jai Gray is a really interesting shout. I think, like, where do you fit him? Like, he's got so much to offer, but at the same time, you're probably not going to fit him into first grade squad. But he's just electric, absolutely electric.
I don't think you can fit him, unfortunately. I love him. I love watching him play, but I just don't know where you can fit him in. Unless you want to move Latrell to play centre, I don't think you can fit him in at the moment. I think he's going to have to. I think he's going to be a very similar situation to Pete Mamazelis, where he's probably the next in line, maybe to play in the halves. But with Humphreys and stuff, I'm not sure if he is realistically. Personally, if I was a young guy at the start of my career, I wouldn't want to punt on when Cody Walker retires.
No, you just never know with Cody because he's debuted at such a late age.
Yeah.
You could be sweet for quite a long time.
I suppose that's the question though. Like, it's probably being a little bit optimistic in terms of Gray's future at the club, but Lewis Dodd, not overly impressive in this one. First hit out in Australia in a weaker side.
I will say, I was about to get to Dodd. I agree with you. Just okay. It wasn't bad. But the key that I did like, 12 kicks, 421 metres. I did like that compared to Sea Eagles, 17 kicks, 489 metres.
Yeah, and this isn't to say Dodd can't make a fist in the NRL. I'm not going to judge him and write him off after one game in the NRL in a weaker team. But just staying on Jai Gray, there's a long way from set on Cody Walker's halves partner. That's not knowing how long Cody goes for as it stands, who's also in doubt for the record, like for round one.
Yep.
And then there's Jamie Humphries as well, who didn't play in this. But like, could you run Jai Gray, who's played a lot in the halves in lower grades, with Cody Walker, or are they just like we saw Cody play as a half last year? Is that viable or not?
I think you could, but if I was going to do that, I think I'd rather play Jack White in there.
Yeah.
But I think you could. Yeah, I've said for a while. I think 5'8" actually is a better spot.
Yeah.
The only thing is in the kicking game. You know,
Yeah.
Cody has an okay kicking game. With the Rabbitohs, I just need a 7 that can make his tackles and kick well. I really do.
And for that reason, I actually thought Dobb was all right the other night. Like,
I thought he was okay.
I'm not saying you guys are bagging him, but I didn't expect him to come in and have great stats or anything, and I don't need him to. I just need to make your tackles. I thought he defended well and just put your kicks in the right spot.
In a team with Cody Walker and Latrell Mitchell and Campbell Graham and Jack White and all these stars, you said he doesn't need to be scoring a try every game and setting tries up every game. Just get him around the park.
Yeah.
And 20 tackles, 0 misses for a half. That's outstanding. And also, towards the end of the game, I think he did have a bit of a slick touch.
Yep.
Again, like, didn't set the world alight at all, but at the same time, first time over here, kicked well, tackled well. That's all I need at the moment.
Especially, like I said, in a weak team. If it's in the full-strength Bunnies team and he struggles to sort of threaten at all in attack kind of thing, or he has an off game, maybe a few more questions. But in this side, like it's a bit hard to judge.
I think round 1 you'll find Humphries will be 14 if he's not injured. Like everyone not injured. Humphries 14, Mamazelis 9, Dodd 7, Walker 6. I reckon.
Yeah, I agree.
It's interesting. I think it'll be that as well. Charity Shield next week. If Humphries comes in and kills it and Dodd doesn't go well, Wayne's not going to hold back.
Yeah.
Like that's a big game for both those blokes.
Wayne notoriously though known for just backing a bloke before a ball's been kicked.
Yeah,
And so I wonder whether to get the best out of Dodd, he's just said off the bat, mate, you're the man. You're the man no matter what.
I think Dodd's got that advantage.
Yeah.
I reckon he's locked in for round 1 to
Because I
be
reckon
halfback.
Wayne knows if you go in this half-ass like, oh, everyone's fighting for a jersey, it just rattles their confidence.
Yeah.
And I reckon he's going, no. I'm going to make this guy as confident as possible and just cross my fingers and hope that it works. If not, round 10 comes around and obviously.
But to Timmy's point, and as you just said, I think by round 10 or 11, it could get interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll take that long. I think if you get 6 rounds in, the Bunnies start slow and Dodd's going no good. I
Yep.
don't think Wayne's going to wait till round 10.
Sean Kepi.
And I thought both front rowers were really good.
Yeah,
Kepi and
Wiley as
Wiley.
well.
Both look great.
Mate,
Kepi in particular, though.
they were outstanding.
I wonder if he just had a bit of fire in his belly against his old team.
Yeah.
Got
Is
him
it the
going.
Wayne factor? Are we seeing
He's
Wayne
got
drawing
such a
something out?
history of just, and like with all due respect to Sean Kepi, turning average front rowers into above that.
Look at Marky Nichols. Like he was on the chopping block essentially. Then he turned into a bloody good front rower.
Yeah, he's been doing it, when he was at the Dragons years ago, like Mick Wayman played for the Kangaroos out of nowhere. He's just got an ability to be able to turn, with all due respect, average front rowers into very good front rowers. And, mate, when Kepi signed with South Sydney last year, I was so excited, but then I was so disappointed with his actual season. He's always had ability, just didn't put it together last year.
Yeah, I was excited too. I thought it was a great signing. And he came out, round 1, he killed it. And then just
He
errors
did too in
and
Vegas,
errors.
didn't
and
he?
errors.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look, some good – I actually think it's a relatively good signs. The fact that, biggest question heading into this year is obviously their halves, but also it's their front row. The fact that Kepi and Moali had such good games, I think that's a bit of a win.
The 14 that played 5'8" gave me early Luke Keary vibes. Ashton Ward, he looked. I've never seen him before. I haven't heard the name before. He looks good.
Yeah. Yep. Quick off the mark, that's for sure. Okay, on to the next game. Broncos defeat the Titans. If I'm being honest, yep, just a trial. I get that. However, Titans probably fielded a little bit stronger side on paper. I thought that the Broncos would have a good trial. I didn't think they'd look this good. And they're almost looking so good, I'm actually worried that they're peaking too early. I thought they actually couldn't look much better, if I'm being honest. They played outstanding.
Yeah, and I think you're understating how much of a good Titans team they put out as well. It was essentially a full strength.
They had
forward
about
pack
12
on this
first
team.
graders in their team. The
Yeah,
Titans.
it wasn't far off their side.
Look, I know that people, as soon as I start talking about the Broncos, they immediately just go, oh, you're carrying on this and the next thing. So it's whatever. But as I said, I honestly, they probably played the best out of any team in the trial over the weekend, in my opinion. I thought they were outstanding. And again, it's just a trial. Things change. Disclaimer out the way, guys. We know it's just a trial. But you could not have asked for any more if you're Michael Maguire. What's the things him heading into this preseason? He wants to instill his culture on the side, instill his style of footy, and have them in the best shape possible to play footy. And they did all three of those things. That Broncos side couldn't have played more differently than the side last year at the same time. Like super conservative. I was actually quite surprised at the amount of offloads that they were starting to throw, but they chose their times correctly. I mean, I think it's a massive tick for Michael Maguire. He's already instilled his culture. Now, it's against this Titan side that didn't play very well at all, but I don't think you can ask for much more.
Had you been under a rock for the last 6 months and were showing that trial game and said, who did the Broncos name as their coach this off-season, I reckon you could have guessed it.
You could have picked it.
They just looked fit.
Like fit, and they played relatively conservative. 88% completion in a trial match. And also, a lot of those players, they're from different clubs. Like, they're from different feeder clubs. Yeah, I was really, really impressed with them. And I think that, it's just a matter of the Q Cup level player has done it, like really bought into Michael Maguire. Now it's the bigger challenge of does the superstar side with the Ben Hunt, with your Renault, with your Walsh, with your Payne Haas, with your Paddy Carrigan, have they bought in to this Michael Maguire? Because it seems like the Q Cup side has.
Yeah, and just to so emphatically towel up the Titans, and they put out a very strong side. I think the Broncos can take a lot out of this. Like we've skimmed over a few clubs who have had big wins, like the Dolphins against weaker sides, but the Broncos have done it as the weaker team on paper in this game in terms of like NRL players. So looked awesome, didn't you? Corey Pax,
Mate,
we know
looked
Blake
outstanding.
Mosley, he'll miss the start of the season. Pax came in, killed it. Billy Walters, I thought was excellent at
Yep.
6.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, as I said, like what more could you ask for? In regards to, I felt like, I'm trying to think, it's probably the teams that really impressed me were the Warriors, the Dolphins, the Broncos,
Para?
and Para. They're the ones that really, really stood out. In regards to individual performances, as I said, so last year, the Broncos, the biggest takeaway for me, last year the Broncos averaged 77% completion rate, and they averaged more than 30 missed tackles a game. Yesterday, they had an 88% completion rate, and they averaged 17 missed tackles. Matter of fact, at the 60-minute mark, the Broncos had only missed 3 tackles.
Jeez.
That's unheard of in a trial.
It felt like the Titans didn't touch the ball in the first half. Like the Broncos just had it the whole
Never
time,
had
just
it.
rolling through them. And then every time the Titans would get it, they'd turn it over, or they just gave piggyback after tries. Like the Titans were abysmal. But granted, like credit when due, the Broncos, they put the pressure on. They were there to play.
Well, to be honest, it was like very similar to the way New South Wales played, where it was just like high percentage, hard ball running, complete your sets, and just build pressure and build pressure and build pressure. Almost a little bit similar, not exactly the same way Penrith played, but similar-ish to them, where you just choke them out of the competition. Again, the only question I have is like, so it's easy-ish to get the fringe players and the Q Cup players to buy into it because there's no egos, whereas if the superstars are bought into this, it's a scary prospect in my opinion. Again, just a trial, but if the superstars are bought into this, I'm excited.
Thought it was really interesting. Obviously, a lot of rumours around Jack Goz, Percura, that Goz lined up on the left, Percura on the right.
Yeah.
Sort of like we heard him, I sort of didn't want to believe it, if I'm honest. But
I still think there's a kick up the bum because Piacora was so good. There's no way.
Well,
There's no way.
I read into that team list that the rumours are true and Goz starts. Like, because Ricky's going to come back on the right. So why would they play Piacura on the right if they weren't going to play him in round 1, which would be on the left?
I just refuse to believe it. Piacora was so good yesterday as well. He was one of our best players.
I think this weekend will be very telling.
I reckon there's a kick up the bum.
To get Jordan Ricky back in and he has to make a decision who's on the left.
I reckon round 1 it'll be Ricky Piacora, and this was more just of a really mind games to get the best out of Piacora because we all know what the potential is with Piacora. Put it this way: how could you watch that game and say Piacora's not going to make the
You
side?
don't need to convince us, mate. You got to Madge.
It wouldn't surprise me if Madge does do it for the first round or two just to really get a rocket up him.
Yeah, I see you're saying the message is even deeper. Like,
I reckon it could be, yeah.
Okay,
Because
that's
I
fair.
tend to agree with Tim. I don't know why you'd waste your opportunity with a new ball player on that edge to not give Piacura as much opportunity as you can.
In saying that, it was Walters was there, which is not going to be there round 1.
Isn't it? I think there's a good chance it.
Well, you reckon Hunt will go 9 and it'll be Reynolds.
Is Adam Reynolds locked in to start the season? I thought he was in a bit of doubt.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Maybe that's just a rumour.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Could you check?
Yeah, there's been
He's
a little
definitely
bit
in
floating
doubt,
around.
yeah.
He's definitely in doubt. I thought he'd be good for round 1. But if that's the case, that is a great point.
Yeah.
Great point. I just refuse to believe it. I just
So
mate,
do I, yeah.
There's no far out. Like, especially, I'd get it if we watched Piacora play and he didn't play that well. I'd be like, yeah, for sure. He doesn't just get that spot because of potential. Mate, he was outstanding. He was one of our best players. Oh, man.
So does Jordan Ricky 100% walk into it?
Well, that's what we got to talk about because I actually thought Hunt, when he come on, was outstanding.
Yeah.
And I know that, he's probably more of a middle, and I get all that, but I thought Hunt played phenomenal.
Well, I mean, I keep saying he's more of a middle. They seem to love him as an edge, so maybe, yeah.
I thought Piacora was solid. I didn't think he was more than that. Like,
really? I thought he was good.
this is a team who had all the momentum, were dominating. He ran for like 45 metres. I thought it was all right.
I thought defence, so he caused an error defensively on, what's his name?
Put it this way, if we're right in saying that Gajewski is set to potentially start on the edge, Piacora in that game...
So he had a try saver. So Piacora had a one-on-one try saver after Gajewski had just dropped the ball. Then he also forced a error from... Piacora shot at Fodawaker, forced an error, and then he had the run before the try that
was on that right,
on the right edge.
Yeah.
I thought he was pretty bloody good, to be honest, but fair enough.
Sorry, mate, you go.
Oh no, just with Reynolds, it seems like he'll be right, but there's been no confirmation
locked in.
either way.
Okay.
If the naming of the team with Gajewski on the left edge and Piacora on the right was telling, that game wouldn't have changed my mind enough if I was mad. Oh no, I've got to pick Piacora there now.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I reckon he was substantially better than Gajewski.
Well, I
on the
think
other
he
side.
is substantially better than Gajewski, but I'm not picking the team.
No. Yeah, fair. What I'm saying is I think that he even played substantially better on the weekend than Gajewski. Matter of fact, out of all three of the back rowers, I actually thought Gajewski had, even though he didn't play terribly, I thought that it went Piacora, Hunt, Gajewski. However, in saying that, maybe I'm just looking too far into it, and it's absolutely, he just wants a very standard guy to get through his work on the edge with Billy Walters there for round one potentially. Look, Wayne, like he has dropped players early in the year to put a fire up on because he's worried about the end of the year. And what I will say is Piacora is the type of player that you would risk something like that for because he is so good. Like his potential is so high that you will play these kind of games or whatever because if you get this right, if you get this guy's development right, he could be the best back row in the competition. And so maybe that's where Madge is coming from because for the life of me, just from a pure looking at the best players in that squad, I don't see any other explanation other than trying to get the best out of Piacora that this would kind of happen. But we'll see. Yeah, jeez, could you imagine?
I think we're getting closer and closer to imagine.
Yeah. Look, and the thing is if it works, if the Broncos go well this year, you can't knock it. You got to back the coach, and if he makes that call, it's just like, oh man. In regards to some other performances, the Corey Pakes one's the most interesting one for me because there's been all this talk. He was nearly actually let go, and then in the off season, there started to be some rumours and some rumblings about Corey Pakes actually having a fair shot at the 9 jersey. Came out and played bloody good. I thought he was outstanding. And all of a sudden, you're heading into this year and you're going, he actually might jag that starting 9 jersey with Moser injured.
Sounds like he will,
Yeah.
from what I've heard. Yeah,
Even jumped leapfrogging Smoothie, who reportedly is signed with Super League, reportedly.
And I mean, if Billy Walters was going to start 9, because I think it's between Billy Walters and Corey Pakes with Moser out, Billy started at 5'8". So if Billy was starting hooker round 1, surely he starts it in this game.
You put
right?
Rogers in 6, surely.
Yeah, they'd have options,
Yeah.
for sure.
But yeah, I thought the edges played well. I thought Tapu'ua, when he came on, bro.
Takura?
Tapu'ua.
Oh, Tapu,
Marty.
sorry.
Yeah. He was phenomenal. Killed it.
Yeah.
Literally killed it.
35 years old.
Yeah.
Jeez.
He was so good. And, under Madge, he might just be that good depth that they need.
Yeah.
Takora looks like a little bit of a step better.
I thought Takura was very good.
Yeah. I think he just you can see that progress. He looks fitter, way fitter than he did last year.
Yeah, 19 tackles without a miss as well. I
Yep.
spoke about
Takura.
I've got myself confused now. Tapua from the Sharks before, came off the bench, a big boy. Takura the same, 19 tackles without a miss because he's enormous.
So big.
I think it was really damaging.
Wow. Their completion rate went up to 89%. Jesus.
What about old faithful Corey Jensen? Just as he always does, did his job. But how about his offload?
Little offload.
Had to
So
pay-
good.
To pay another little dimension he's potentially added to his game. in the off season. But that was pretty impressive. And
I thought Hetherington was good as 13.
yeah, yep.
He was really good.
Got through his work. Just trying to just look here in regards to.
I'm not going to break any news to anyone here, but is Dean Mariner one of the best movers in the league? Or
Mate.
what? He is
is.
liquid.
He is so like that footwork. It is just special, and it looks like he is fully just bought into the Madge and gotten around it because he looks electric, absolutely electric. Cannot wait to see him in that full strength side. But yeah, look, it's just a trial. I get that, but I think the Broncos looked really good, really good.
Yep.
Titans. Now, the biggest concern with the Titans, yep, it is just a trial, but they actually fielded a really strong side, and defensively, like, they just didn't look there. And I don't know whether it may be a case that Desi Hasler likes to train people extremely hard up until like a certain week, and they've just been getting towed up all week, and that's why they looked flat. But yeah, unfortunately, they did not look great.
Yeah, the Cowboys put out no players, and I had my concerns about attitude. The Titans put out 70% of their players, and you have those concerns. So, yeah, I think I was a little bit higher on the Titans than you boys a couple of weeks ago, and this is alarming to say the least.
Like, they essentially got towed up by essentially reserve grade side.
And the way you perceive a team in a trial, like, it's so different for every club. If Melbourne come out with a near full strength roster, obviously didn't this week, but they do it next week and they get pumped, you kind of just like, it's Melbourne, it's a trial, they'll be right for round one, it was a bit of a blip. But the Titans, they don't have runs on the board. They don't have a track record of starting the season strong. In fact, I think when it was last season or the season before, they were 0 from 7 or something. So you're like, clear concerns starting the season. And with the squad they threw out, the effort areas were terrible. Their discipline was terrible. It was just, every time the Broncos would score, Titans would kick off and they'd just be piggyback. There were a lot of red flags there.
42 missed tackles and 9 line breaks. Oh. And if I'm being honest, the Broncos didn't really throw that much at them. Like in
through
attack.
the middle, largely.
Yeah, it wasn't like the Broncos were playing very Madge style footy where it was like build pressure, fatigue the middle, and then just inside balls to just try to create space. And so I just have, there's no way a Desi Hasler coach side rolls out that unless they're fatigued from a big preseason and that preseason hasn't ended yet. Because they looked like, yeah.
They looked like they didn't want to be there.
Yeah, I'm being honest. Like, just didn't look like they wanted to be there. Didn't like the contact. They didn't look happy. Like, usually, when you get to that, game, your squad is literally jumping out of its skin to play rugby league. Unfortunately for the Titans, they looked tired. They looked flat.
Yeah, there was a handful of games this weekend that I was genuinely excited to watch that team because it was pretty much their side. Titans were one of them, and it couldn't have been more disappointing.
And just some of that edge defense. Wow, we on their line. That's another thing. I thought the Broncos' defensive on their line was outstanding, whereas the Titans, it was just.
They had a few cracks at him. They didn't look like break him, did they? Like the Fafita was off a kick, I think. The group one laid on. Yeah, rebounded kick.
So yeah, they got one lucky try.
Yeah.
And then another try right towards the end, really.
Yeah.
And so, like, we could sit here. The tough thing is I can't go too hard on them because it's a trial. It's a trial. We don't know what's happening in the preseason. But at the same time, like, it's if this was a round one performance, I'd be like, that's terrible. But because it's a trial, it's still like, maybe there's more to the story than I'm seeing. The problem is that they just got dominated by a Q Cup side, essentially.
Yeah, off one trial, you go, all right, let it go through to the keeper. We'll forgive them. But it now puts a little bit of pressure on them for next week that you have to come out and show something. Because if you go into round one, or they've got the bye round one, round two in their case, and you've been belted twice, that poor, like, you just starting the season on the back foot, aren't you? So there's a bit of pressure on trial number 2 for them.
Well, they started last year 0-6 or something, 0-7.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't think Desi can afford to have another year like that.
And, when you talk about how they looked in attitude-wise, they play the Dolphins this weekend. Dolphins' attitude looked unreal.
Looked crazy. Okay, so in regards to individual performances, look, I think Brimo's just an outside back. I think, look, like, outside a genuine 7, I think it could work. I'm just not sure if they are going to go Campbell and him 7 and 6, and it seems like it's just like everything you read is pointing towards that. I'm just unsure whether he has the platform to be the running 6 that he would need to be. Like, he's going to have to organise at some stages if he has Campbell as the 7.
You could do it with him with Foran though.
Foran at his best, like injury-free, getting around the park, could probably get Brimo at 6. Because it's basically him at 6 with Foran is like, just do whatever Foran says, and then in attack, just make something happen. And that is Brimo's bread and butter. It's making stuff happen. I'm just a little bit worried him with Campbell. And granted, we haven't seen it yet, so I'm holding my full judgment for it. Just a little bit worried, though, those two together. I'm just unsure it's going to be too choppy. But Desi Asler, he knows rugby league better than me, so just a little bit of a note that I took.
Yeah, I can't rehash this again. Let's just wait and see, Will.
Wait and see.
I can't do this again.
Wait and see. In regards to some other boys and how they played, to be honest, it's hard to take that many positives out of the Titans side. To be honest, like, it was just one of those days. Anything, boys?
No.
Honestly, I
very
don't
tough.
think they. Yeah,
We would be, put it this way, we'd probably be sitting here saying exactly what we said in the season preview.
Yeah.
Because those questions are
Yeah.
still all there. Whereas when you look at the Broncos, the questions were, will they gel to Madge? And so far, it looks like that's happening. I think with some of these teams that got beaten by a lot, we're basically going, well, we still just have the questions that we had before preseason. We don't know whether they will or they won't. Whereas the teams that went well, where we are getting a bit of answers to questions, like, for example, the Para Eels, how are they reacting? What style of footy they're going to play? All that kind of stuff.
I'll tell you what. Just one thing with the Titans, like, if they put in another poor performance next week, they've got to bye week 1. Oh God, it's a long time to sit on 2 bang average trials. With 25 weeks of footy incoming with only 2 buys.
Talk about getting left behind the blocks, because that can happen.
Well, yeah. That was
Jeez.
the Tigers. That was us last year.
Yeah.
We had to wait, and we had 2 pretty ordinary trials.
Yeah.
Yuck. Alrighty, on to the Doggies v. the Tigers. Doggies 20-14. I tell you what,
Robbed.
you've been sitting over there quietly for 4 hours just for the wrong, waiting for it. The Bulldogs, with some of the best reserve grade in the competition, for the Tigers to only go down 20-14, I think this is a win-win. I thought the Tigers looked pretty good. The Bulldogs got the job done. I think both fans can be pretty happy with how this turned out.
Yeah, I agree. And performance-wise from both these teams, I don't take a heap out because they're just missing so many players. I thought they both showed up defensively in this one. I think you take a lot of positives for both sides, and I think you just look forward to next week when you'll have more players in these sides.
I'll take a positive, or actually more of a negative. Taft's hair, what's doing?
Huge negative.
Oh, God, that's a shit chop if I've ever seen one. But you know what? I love shit chops, so more of it. You guys know the scale. The shitter the chop, the better the bloke. That has always been the truth.
Outstanding bloke yesterday then.
Yeah, great bloke. Best bloke on the park. In regards to, we'll go to the Tigers first.
Yep.
Skelton, beast on the edge there.
Yep.
Getting through it. You know what I love to see? Fatape, Skelton over 100 metres, Fatape over 100 metres.
I thought Fatapo very good.
Alex Lobb, 151 metres. That's, we talked about their biggest concern last year in the season preview was metres made. It's good to see some young fellas getting up over that 120 metre, 100 metre mark. I think that's really good to see.
Yep, no, completely agree with that. They, I thought Fatape really, not only did he have a lot of metres in him, but some really good hands and, set up a couple of tries as well. Put Lobb down the wing as well for that little nice kick back inside for Heath Mason too. Interesting with Lockie Galvin. He played, obviously floated around a little bit, but on the right to start with, which suggests probably, even though he was on the left last year, Luai probably goes there when he comes.
There's one thing that we had this discussion a few weeks ago, and you brought it up, Campy, and I hadn't given it a heap of thought, but Jerome Luai being a left-footed kicker, Galvin being a right-footer, that probably makes your decision for you, doesn't it?
Yep.
And then you add into it just Luai just steps off his left, steps off his left, steps off his left.
Yep.
I think he has to play on the left
Yeah,
side.
I thought Gavin showed some good signs over there.
So I brought you round.
To what?
Wouldn't you swap them?
Now we would, yeah. You didn't bring us around.
I don't know if I ever wasn't around.
Oh, let's fucking get the tape. Fucking staring fucking daggers at me when I mention it. Campy, what are you talking about? Look, I do think, and this is not not even reflection of what I was saying earlier. But like the more you think about it, you go, you know what? Like you really do want to base this team around Luai and what's best for him.
Yep.
And one of his biggest weapons is that left foot.
Uh-huh.
It's just his natural instinct to go
yeah.
bang off left, bang off the left.
Yeah, and so if you were to take that literally his best asset away from, well, I don't know about literally, but you know, it's almost like taking GI's fend away from him.
Yep.
Granted, I'm not saying he's GI. Well, actually, people listening.
I think you were.
Flip it up.
So. Yeah, I think would you keep the edge back row the same though, or would you?
What, still pair him up with Fainu?
Would you keep or would you just keep them on the same edges that they were on last year?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they do that because they formed a pretty good combination there. I'm sure Luai and Fainu would do the same. You know, they'd combine pretty well as well. But
I wonder,
I reckon they probably will keep them the same. Fainu over there on the left and Seyfarth on the right.
Because the problem is it depends how Luai plays because we don't know how he's going to play because he plays so different at Penrith than he's going to play here. But if he keeps coming off his left, you probably don't want Fainu outside him because you want him getting the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
So it's like...
We've got, I suppose, two threats then. You got to be watching out for the step back inside, or does he give it off to Fainu?
Yeah, and then you just get Galvin to be the weapon on the other side.
Galvin was pretty good. Like, he did float around a little bit yesterday.
Well, he did.
He had a
He
try
did.
assist on that.
Yeah.
That was on the right side. Apologies.
Spent a lot of time on both edges, didn't he?
Yeah.
It's good to see.
So it'd be interesting. Yeah, but it looks like they'll probably set up with him just on the right, but maybe he'll still have a bit of a license to float around. I thought he was great yesterday again, though. Like, obviously a lot of stuff went through him, but the way that he was able to, manipulate his kicking game a little bit, particularly with some inexperienced wingers on the other side. There was one where he kicked quite early in the tackle count because they'd defended a few sets in a row. And then the next time they got to the fifth tackle, he ran it. And they're all they were way back waiting for the kick. And it led to that first long-range try. And he kind of played with that a little bit through the game, which I thought was quite impressive.
I'll tell you what, like to think this kid is still 19, 20,
Yeah.
and he's going into trials, like doing things like that, like playing with defences coming up, going back. Like, he plays so well that we forget how young this guy is.
As I said at the start of the show, when I had to pick the CBAs for the last year, I genuinely thought Galvin could be a 2026 option.
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable that now he's just an established first grader that you just have, you have expectations of him week to week now.
It's mental. It's
Crazy.
mental. Like if he doesn't come out and play 8 out of 10 every game this year, it'll be saying like disaster, it's, not working. That's how the standard that he's put himself at.
He could play SG ball this weekend if he wanted to.
So wild in the key position.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy for Galvin as well because, the fact that he had that try assist really early on just almost like takes pressure off his shoulders where people are waiting for him to, like, how is he going to play?
How's he going to back it up?
Yeah, how's he going to back it up? Whereas if he went through a couple of trials with no try assists, you stuck on, oh shit, like, am I still in that form? Whereas to come immediately out, was it first 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yep.
And just go bang, bang, like, the kid's special. The kid is so special.
Just on Fate Ape, his name came up before. He was at the Brisbane Tigers a couple of years ago. I really liked him up there, and he came down last year, and I think he got a little bit shell-shocked from first grade. I think defensively he struggled a little bit last year, and there was moments where I sort of thought, maybe he's not as good as I thought he was coming down from the Q Cup. But, mate, signs yesterday look like he's had a big pre-season.
Really good.
And it's exactly what they needed because that's one area where you look at, they are a little bit short on the outside backs.
They've got a lot between Stafford Toa, Nate and Fatape. They've got a lot of backline depth. But they for a few years now, they need a couple of them to really put their hand up and go, no, I'm a regular, not just am I a regular first grader, but I can impact games. I can have a match-winning try, because they've just all been on the precipice of being that player, but it's never happened. Like Charlie Staines was another one who was thrown in there. No one's put their hand up. And granted, it's been in teams that have struggled. Hopefully a better Tigers outfit this season will give them better opportunities. But between Naden and Fatape in particular on the weekend, really good signs.
If one of them can jump out and Adam Dewey can get back to his best, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Olam.
Yes, for sure. Who else did that for the Tigers for you guys?
I mentioned him earlier in the show, but I thought Kit Laualili came off the bench, played through the middle, ran for over 150 metres. I just thought he was every time he took the ball up, he was causing chaos and ran it hard. And that's been an area we've struggled in the last couple of years. So there was probably one or two times where he got the ball late in the tackle count and just ran it straight up. And, I'm sure with a guy like Jerome Luai out there or whatever, telling him what to do a little bit more, they'll be able to iron that out a bit. But I just thought there were some good signs from him. As I said, he's played 2 first-grade games so far, but he looked like, to me, one of the more impressive front rowers out there yesterday.
I think his name might have come up before, but Alex Lobb, who looked really good in reserve grade a couple of years ago. I think he came in and played first grade last year and he had a bit of a shocker.
Yeah.
Yep.
He didn't do too well. Yesterday, I thought he was really good.
Yeah.
17 runs, 150 metres, 57 post contact, 2 line breaks, 1 try assist, 4 tackle breaks. I still think he's got a little bit more to offer.
You're a big lob guy. Always have been a big lob guy.
Am I a big lob guy?
Yeah. Even the Dragons wing, all right?
Yeah, I don't think it was me that was huge on him.
It wasn't you? It might have been someone
But
else.
Supercoach wise, he got a lot of raps last year, and then he came in. He wasn't too impressive, but I think he's better than what he showed
Yeah,
last year.
and his little kick back inside yesterday was classy for Heath Mason for that first try.
You're becoming a lob guy.
Just back on Tim Johansson.
Yep.
So important that you have that kind of depth. Like if you have another front rower that comes in, and he debuted last year. I remember we spoke about how there was something about him. He played quite well.
Yeah, he's Swiss.
That helps too.
The flag's a big plus.
Oh my god. But yeah, like the 18 runs, 152 meters, 70 post contact, 23 tackles, only 0 miss. Like that's a good knock. That's a good knock, and that's exactly what you need. Like, yes, it is good to get Hunt and May to the club, but you need your younger guys putting pressure on them, coming off the bench. Like, look what happened to the Sharks with Hazelton. He's, like, exploded. You need something like that to happen to the Tigers if you are to push up the table. But, yeah, I thought it was good. Outside of that, boys, anyone else stand out for you?
No.
Those are the main ones, yeah.
To the doggies. I know he had a few errors, but Jonathan Sewer. I'm interested to see what how they would even fit him into the side. I know they've got quite a few wingers now, but 17 runs, 187 metres, 56 post contact, 3 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, 1 offload, 10 tackles. He looked the goods. Sewer.
Yeah, I don't think he can fit into the team realistically.
Yeah.
Like I think Blake Wilson's already going to miss out on the side,
Which is another gun.
which is another very good player.
But he's still a rookie though, so he's still going to have it.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
interesting to see how they develop him.
His time will come,
Yeah.
but it's what you want to see, boys. I thought stand out for me here, Saluka Fafita, who
Where did that come from?
my jury's been out for a long time on Saluka Fafita. I thought he was great in this one, and
40 tackles, 0 missed, and plus he ran 120 metres.
at the end of the day, if he is to get into this Canterbury side, all you need him to do is go nuts for 30 minutes a game. That's all you're asking for. If he can be that guy, that's enormous.
If he continues on this trajectory, it's just another tick for the Bulldogs system at the moment.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about a guy that bounced around a few other clubs, had all the physical attributes in the world that you'd want as a front rower, and it just never seemed to click. Mate, he was phenomenal yesterday.
Yeah, never quite clicked. Like when they got him over there, they were pretty confident, had pretty high aspirations for him, and I think just injury troubles as well. He's always had a few different things, which has limited game time, but he looked terrific. And the other one, boys,
Oh, Todd?
big Jack Todd.
My
How
God.
good was
Remember the
he?
name.
Literally remember the name. We got something special on our hands. He is
I
special.
think it was his first touch. He burst through for a try, and then he had the line break for another try. And
Tell me the last time you saw a front row with footwork like that.
yeah,
Like,
Stepping and
played big minutes as a lock in Cup last year.
Yep.
He looked great.
I tell you what, like, if the Bulldogs can get blokes like this that are a bit bigger, playing some good footy, all of a sudden that forward pack just becomes like, Jack, he was, that footwork, like, as I said, tell me a front rower that's moving like that. It's very rare. Like, I know Tarpon, you've got Tarpon in that, but now we're starting to talk about some of the best front rowers in the competition.
Well, there's him, and then another bloke went solid enough yesterday. But Harry Hayes, who's a big boy who spends a lot of time on the edge, he's a very mobile big
Yep.
boy as well. So
Yep.
I mean, you can see what you can see their plan, what they're building towards with that pack so much, can't you?
He was good. Bailey Haywood, good solid outing, 28 tackles, 0 misses. The report came out. It got, I guess, got shut down by Gus in regards to the Marnie situation. Interesting times at the Doggies in regards to, like, you know, they've got such good young depth. When you are a guy on a bigger contract and you're getting a bit older, he's not on money at all. sometimes these things can pop up where, you were the main guy, but then you've got a guy that's, let's say, Marnie is a 9 out of 10 at his best. And then you've got a Hayward who's a rookie and he's at like an 8 out of 10, but you're paying Marnie big bucks and Hayward's, so that pressure starts to build up. Now they've come out and poo-pooed and said it's not anything, but I don't know. It's interesting to watch, especially with Hayward continuing to play well.
I think it's definitely a spot to watch. I think just with the trend of nines nowadays that you're getting these two-prong attacks becoming very popular, and your two-prong attacks, they don't have, very few of them are $800,000 guys realistically.
Yeah. Be interesting to know what Reed actually is on, because that'll really dictate the pressure that he's under.
Yep.
And granted, I think if you're a Doggies fan, and I think most Dog fans love Reed. I think he's so important to that squad. But let's just remember when you did sign Reed. Yes, right now you might sit there and go, well, why are we paying Reed Marnie all this money? It's like, well, the club was on its knees and he came, and look where you are. So yes, it is easy for you now to be a bit frustrated. Oh, we could be using that money elsewhere. But it's like he came to the club when it was struggling. That's when he got the contract. But I do think when the renegotiation comes, I think that they'll probably put a bit of pressure on him and say, we've got these young guys coming through, unless we see a career best form from. If 2025 is career best, that changes things, because Reed Marnie at his best is close to Origin. But it is something to watch, I think. It
Definitely.
really is.
Yeah.
In regards to other guys standing out, guys, anyone else out for you guys?
Joseph O'Neill, I thought was pretty good, the halfback.
Yeah?
He looked pretty. Yeah, I didn't know too much about him coming into this game, but
Is Woods injured? Is Woods injured?
Don't think so. I just don't think they
Probably
wanted
playing
to
SG
being patient.
Ball,
throw
maybe
him
or
in
something.
there just yet. But yeah, I thought O'Neill looked, pretty solid for a bloke I didn't know too much about.
Yeah, Cassius Teo, the one we spoke about in the preview last week.
Wow.
He said there'd been so much hype around him at the Doggies this preseason. Came off the bench, and his first two touches was deft little tip-ons that worked all class. Try assist, both line break assists. He looked good.
He was at the Roosters for a couple of years ago and only moved over 2 years ago. He's a good player.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, look, I think it's a massive tick if you're Doggies fans. It's funny to see, was 3 or 4 years, let's say 3 years ago, where the club was an absolute shambles. Now, a very short 3 years later, and look at the depth they've got. It's just...
Woods is injured, hamstring.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
okay, because I thought at the very least they wouldn't give him the third trial, but I thought they might just give him this trial because you just kind of want to see where he's at. Not to suggest he needs to go out and kill it or anything, but he is the next guy I'm assuming that they want to be the main guy. So I was a bit surprised he wasn't there, but he's injured.
Yeah.
He's injured. Anyone else stand out for you boys at all?
Oh, good, mate.
All good. But look, super exciting. I think Jack Todd for me, that guy. You go back, watch that clip with that try, the second line break that he made. The way he moved, that's special. That is special. Now, granted, you've got to take care of all the other things like mental toughness, durability, all of that. But if you're a front rower and you can move like that, you got something special about you.
There was one other player, just to give a quick shout out to number 29, Jack Underhill. He re-signed this week. Apparently, he has been very, very impressive in this preseason. Didn't blow the world away in this trial, but one that they really like over there.
Sweet. Alrighty, before we get into the next one, don't forget, CBA drop next Monday at 6 p.m. I'm wearing the white and blue version. We've got a black and white version. We've got the hats. Guru's wearing one of the hats as well. Alrighty, Dragons defeat the Roosters 26-8. My biggest takeaway from this, I couldn't believe how passionate Flano was in the box. He was blowing up. I was like, geez, you can tell he's put pressure on himself to go better this year. Because usually even the most angry coaches in boxes are not doing that in trials, but clearly he expects excellence this year because he was going skits up there. Boys, what did we think of the Dragons?
I thought my team were really good, the Dragons.
Big year for you.
Yeah. I think I had them 9th or 10th when we did our thing the other day. I still feel confident that. I think they're going to do a lot better than what people are expecting. I thought Flano was really good in this game. And I love the signings. I like what they're building there. They got a couple more guys to add into this side, but they ticked a lot of boxes for me in this one. I'm really happy with what I saw.
Yeah, I thought it was good, solid outing. I think that I'm still, we know Flano's this good. We know he's this good, and we're talking about Kyle Flanagan. now I want to see him against in a round one. Can he be the main man? Because it seems like he's probably going to be the main man to
Yeah.
a degree, and so it's going to be the interesting thing for me.
He was fantastic last night, and I think that's it. Like, he's never been the main man, has he? He's from at the Roosters, at the Dogs. He was always solid. He was always sort of a fringy, quite young when he was at the Roosters. Went to the Dogs with a bit more pressure, but he was always sort of a fringy. Had some extended stints in the jersey. Never really made his own. We know what he did last year. He was outstanding, but he was absolutely a foil to Ben Hunt in that team. You'd see last night, he was the man, especially in attack. Like, every time they got into that attacking position, going down the left. The right edge, which was so dominant last year with Ben Hunt there, didn't see a lot of the better attacking ball. It was all left there. Val Holmes was on the left there, so Sully's gone to the right edge. Exciting to see Flano, because I think he's only about 26 or 27, come in sort of the prime of his career as a half, just to see what he can do. And the early signs are fantastic, aren't they?
Isn't he a funny footballer that, when you look through his career, like, I think he's a halfback. I've always said that. But he plays his best footy when he's wearing the 6 on his back. For whatever reason that is, I don't know if it just takes a bit of pressure off him or whatever it might be, but consistently plays his best footy when he's wearing the 6.
Yeah. And look, we always drum on about be patient with halves. And as I said, I want to see it against, an NRL side, round one. People are actually, fully locked in, video sessions and that. But you can't ask of much more of him. Like, a lot of pressure on his shoulders heading into this season for the Dragons because, he's a more experienced companion than Ilias. He's older. You'd have to assume he's the guy, the main guy. And so if the team doesn't go well, he'll be one of the first names that are called out and said, well, see, we told you, you're not the one to lead. You should always be second fiddle. You can't ask for much more than what he did on the weekend. You really can't. Yes, we need to see more against a full-strength side. I get all that. But from what we saw, put it this way, if me being a fan of the Broncos, if my 6 played like that, I'd be stoked.
And one thing we know, Charity Shield this weekend, we'll get 2 strong lineups for that. So
yep, absolutely.
Great opportunity.
So it's good to see Flano there. As I said, the questions we kind of had, like what style would they play? Who would be the main man? Seems like it's Flano. Seems like it is Flano.
I think so.
Definitely.
Which is, that answers that question. Well, that answers that question. In regards to some other performances, I thought the young fella, Sione Fainu, I thought he looked pretty good.
Mate, he looked good. I reckon that left edge for the Dragons, I think, obviously, I assume Tuipulotu will line up there. I reckon he's in for an enormous season.
Big Tui Pilotu.
Yeah, I think he had a little bit of a breakout last year, but I think this year he can have an outside Val Holmes. I think Gutho definitely favours the left-hand side. I think he's just going to get a lot of ball that edge, and I think Tuipulotu is going to have a very good season.
He's such an interesting watch, Tui Pilotu, because I've always rated that bloke, especially even when he was at Manly. Like, then you look at Flano with his history with outside backs. He has an ability to get the best out of him. It's going to be super interesting to see how he goes this year. What do we think of Gutho's input, Cookie's input, Holmes?
Honestly, it all looked exactly as I thought it would. They're one of those sides that they're just going to be a good 13 instead of 13 stars, where everyone's just going to chip in and do their little bit. It was sort of exactly what I expected to see from the Dragons.
Pretty seamless, wasn't it? Like Gutho, Cookie, they didn't stand out, but they didn't look overly clunky or anything. They slotted in nicely.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, no, completely agree. I think they didn't, set the world on fire, but they kind of came in and did their job, and it looked like they'd been together longer than a preseason. They look pretty handy to me. I think the Dragons, and I think they're probably going to go. I think I had them a little bit lower in the preseason preview show, but I'm probably with you, Roo. I think they look pretty good yesterday. Flanagan, some great touches there earlier. I had in my notes. He looked really good, and it's a good point you make about, for some reason, just that when he's got the 6 rather than the 7. For whatever reason, that seems to suit him a little bit. But I think those two combined pretty well in the halves. Thought there were some pretty good signs for him.
I think once they add Jacob Little to this side, that'll make a big difference as well.
What was the go there? Was he injured yesterday or just not?
I didn't realise that he wasn't playing until Damien Cook stayed on.
Yeah, and he's always had a lot of niggling little injuries. He's always had trouble with hamstrings, and every time he plays, he's got those massive big things on his thighs and hammies, and they're probably just thinking Charity Shield next week. That'll be a proper good hit out. I'm just waiting for that, which makes sense.
Yep.
I thought Luciano Leilua showed, sometimes with Leilua, especially early on in his career, it actually hasn't been like this for quite a while, but you can kind of tell if he's engaged with a season or not early on. Like, has he fully is he keen to play footy? Is he ripping and tearing? I thought his attitude looked good. He looked like really engaged, looked like he really wanted to be there. And then you've got Raymond Fatala Mariner, and then also you've got Su'a. All of a sudden, that back row rotation, I wouldn't say it's the best in the comp, but it's compared to other areas that they have, like their halves or where their forward pack, where you go, okay, it's a little bit of a weaker forward pack compared to other forwards pack. Their back row, it's up there with some of the better back rows.
They can throw their weight with any other back rowers in the competition.
And I don't think a lot of people are giving Dragons, they don't give Dragons a credit for that. They don't look at we always just go, oh yeah, the Dragons forward pack, it's probably not one of the better forward packs at the moment. They're still waiting for some young guys to come through, blah, blah. However, you look at that back row rotation, it's a pretty bloody good back row. Again, not the best one, but it can go toe-to-toe with the best ones, in my opinion.
Had some young guys come off the bench for the Dragons in this one, like Finau Latu and Jacob Holingahu, who I think over the next year or two, they'll be very, very relevant. They got some good juniors coming through the Dragons.
Do we think that Cookie will play quite a lot of 13, or do we think that it's going to be just a touch-and-go thing, how little is injury-wise?
I'm pretty confident he will.
Yeah?
Like, Cookie's way too good to be playing anything less than like 50 minutes. Jacob Little, ditto, needs to be playing decent minutes. He was fantastic last year, has been for a long time. So I sort of think it just writes itself. Cookie starts at 9, probably first 20, 25. Then Little comes on. I reckon Cook shifts to lock. I don't know the exact minutes Cook will play. Maybe it is 60 to 65, but I think that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
Get out of my brain, Timmy.
Hammy, who stood out for you, mate?
Also with the Dragons.
Yep.
I don't know if there's many more I can kind of point to there, to be honest. Yeah.
How did you find Cookie at the Dragons, mate?
Devastating, and that's all I'm going to say.
But yeah, good hit out for the Dragons. I thought what I like about Flano is, and that's Shane Flanagan, like, you know what he's going to give you. Very rarely does a Flano coach side come out and play. They might be inconsistent, but they're not going to be consistently bad. That's for sure. Now on to the Roosters. Look, disclaimer against, yep, it's a trial. Get all that. Quite underwhelming in my opinion, the Roosters. I know it's a trial. I know they've still got plenty of guys to come back in, but I was a bit surprised with how they played, in my opinion.
I wasn't overly surprised, to be honest with you. I think like we all sort of, I wasn't here last week when you guys spoke Roosters. I had them outside of my 8. I think they are going to be a little bit down this year, and you're right, mate. You just still got to throw Connor, Angus, Teddy, a lot of stars back into this side, Victor Radley, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's going to be a tough season for the Roosters. Their forward pack, I'm not totally convinced on. I think that Robbo's built a pack of guys that are good at a lot of things, but not many of them great at one singular position. The halves, I think it's going to be bit of a white knuckle and hold on until Sam Walker gets back. And even when he does, he's coming back from an ACL. We know that takes time. So, yeah, this is sort of what I expected from the Chooks.
With most Chook sides, though, like physically, they're usually quite dominant and aggressive. And I just didn't really see it that much last night. Even though I don't currently have them in my 8 because of the fact that they've got those injuries, I don't know. With a forward pack, like their forward pack is still... So this is what they roll out with. White at 8, Spencer Lenu, Nat Butcher, Wong. But for me personally, those guys that definitely should be stand out in a trial. And they didn't really, in my opinion.
Yeah, and is this going to be some of the JWH effect that we see without him being there? Like he's been the alpha in that side for so long, leading from the front. And, Spencer Lenu's a great player, but I think he's better off the bench than he is as a starting front row forward. And White, he's up and down. When he's up, he's great. When he's down, he can go missing. So I have my concerns for them this year.
Timmy, what do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, I think defensively, like the 26 points, I'm not too concerned about. There are 2 tries off like kick deflections and that early on in the game. The Flanagan try sort of cut them open a little bit, but the Dragons side was near enough full strength. The Roosters had a decent team, but there was a lot of cut players in there who won't be anywhere near there round 1. I just think their attack looked a little bit flat. They didn't look threatening at all, sort of, to me. Sandon Smith and Chad Townsend, not going to be super critical of them because it's their first proper hit
For
out
sure.
together.
Yeah. Sure.
But I would like to have seen a bit more, that's for sure. Sandon had one nice little thing, it was like a cut ball for an early try for Dom
That's some nice
Young.
touches, Sandon.
Yeah,
for
some
sure.
nice touches. I would like them to be a bit more threatening, but again, it is what it is. They were the weaker side in this going into it with the lineups.
Yeah. I'll just look at this, for example. Look at these forward packs. So you got White, Spencer Lenu, Nat Butcher. Granted, yeah, Lolu and Barton, relatively unknowns. And you got Wong against, and like the forward pack that they played, which is Couchman, Gula, Leilua, Sua, DeBellin. Like, I don't think that Dragons pack is that much better on paper.
Yeah, and I mean, they didn't start with Hayden Barton either. He only came on the last 10 minutes. So Wong, he shifted out to an edge. And then I can't remember who came in at 13. It might have been Va'a started in the front row and they moved White to 13. So they started with a first grade forward pack.
It's like a pretty good, and that's where I'm just like, what? I just thought that forward pack on paper is decent. It's decent.
Yeah.
It's probably on par with the Dragons one at the very least, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then, like
Maybe you could argue better. They've got Origin players in there potentially.
for sure. And you have a look at, even the back row for me. Wong started an edge, Nat Butcher started an edge. Like, Wong was playing in the front row at the end of last season.
I think Butcher went bench, and I think Va'a started on the edge with Focchetti.
But I start on the edge.
that's just how they were
I'm just
named.
reading.
Yeah.
No, that's not how they were named. So that's how the game started. I'm just reading on NRL.com, the team list.
But I played on an edge. I thought he played through the middle.
Yeah, I think that's how they were named for kickoff. I don't think they-
Wong played on the edge and Va'a played through the middle.
Yes. Yeah.
Because VAR's an out and out
Yeah.
front rower. One
He's
of the
not an edge. He's a middle. Yeah,
Huge.
yeah. And Wong played on the right edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, like VAR's, he's one of the best young props coming through. He played for under 19s Queensland, I'm pretty sure.
He's a very good player.
Bloody good player.
Yeah,
Actually played quite well.
He'll come off the bench for them this year,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, look, to be clear, again, trials, and they weren't terrible at all. I just, a little bit more. I thought I was going to see a little bit more. However, Robbo, I know he fixed the slow start last year, but he does have a tendency to start a little bit slow. Going to be super interested to see how they go next week, though.
Yeah.
Like, with all the boys back
Yeah.
in, I think, as we spoke to already, like Connor Watson, he's just become like the heart and soul of their team almost. Like, he is so important to them now. You pull him back in at 9. Yeah. Anyone else? I thought Nwanga Nituase, did they move him to fullback or 6?
He did go to fullback for
Fullback.
Fullback,
Yeah.
He's playing a bit of almost like a 6 at times. Interesting.
He's an athlete, man.
He's super
I love
athletic.
him. I thought both centers are really good. Obviously,
You saw the potential with Toya. Like, just
saw the
there was
potential.
little moments with his footwork and his strength in contact.
6 tackle breaks, 1 try assist, 1 line break assist, ran for 118 metres. It's just going to take time with Toya. But yeah, Mark, I think his ceiling is so high in the NRL.
Only thing is, I like him as a winger.
So do I.
Yeah.
He's quick, he's strong, he's tall.
Scoots out of his own end, good under the high ball. I know you can still do it at centre. I just think at the moment where he's at in his career, I like him on the
And
wing.
it's hard, isn't it? Because they
can't,
don't. They
though.
don't
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But like they don't need a winger.
I just think you probably waste some of his best attributes right now, at least, putting him at centre. And I think that he might have a solid year at centre, but I reckon he'd have a gun year on the wing.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
I'm with you.
But I don't think you can afford to not have him in there. He's
Yeah.
just too good. So
Oh, for sure. Like, I'd have him at centre because you look at
Defence will
Dom
be,
Young.
to state the obvious, will be the issue though. Like a few defensive lapses in this one, and understandable. He's come
Yeah.
from Union, but how long is it going to take him to get these reads right? I don't think in contact there'll be too much of a drama. He's a very strong big boy, but his reads and when that comes about.
Yeah.
what a spot to be in to, have Dom Young and Daniel Tupou. And you've, we haven't even said Pauga's name yet.
Yeah.
And he's a first grader week in, week
Yeah,
out for them.
true.
Billy Smith.
Billy Smith,
Billy
yeah.
Smith as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what team they pick this week.
Yeah.
The Roosters,
Yeah.
where Billy lands.
I'm stoked for the Roosters from a perspective of Sandon Smith. There were moments. He really did have moments of brilliance, like good cutout ball for one of his tries. And he actually, the play before, they'd already nearly scored, got not held up, but tackled close to line, went away, came back again, and he threw that cutout ball. Good signs that he's already, playing on the front foot. He's got that eye in where he can actually get some try assists. Like, I know he's a 6 and you should expect that, but, he still did it. So that's good signs in my opinion.
Interesting when you have a look at like the squad they picked last night of their extended bench. I think 7 of them are halves.
Yeah, wow.
Got a lot of guys there. They're just waiting for someone to
Yep.
jump up.
Alrighty. That is us done and dusted. Let's get into the face of music. Let's face a bit of music brought to you by our friends over at Sportsbet. Oh, we actually didn't get into the CBAs anyway. Already gone through it all.
So look, if you get this weekend's games up, obviously we've got about, is there 7 trials there over the weekend. In fact, 8. No markets yet. Too early in the week. Don't know who's been named. That'll obviously all come out tomorrow. But last week, 6 of the 8 games were settled by margins of 13 plus. So what I want everyone to do this week is just identify one game and a winner by 13 plus. That's what we'll do.
One game and a winner by 13.
One game and a 13 plus across the entire week. So Friday, we've got a double header at Leichhardt. Manly take on the Panthers. Then the Tigers take on the Eels. Saturday, 3 games. The Dragons have got the Rabbitohs in the Charity Shield. Then the Broncos take on the Dogs. This is a double header, Broncos, Dogs, and then Dolphins, Titans up at KO Stadium in Redcliffe.
Yep.
Then Sunday, we've got the Chooks versus the Knights and the Storm versus the Cowboys. So just one game,
Yep.
a winner,
Right.
and a 13 plus.
I'm going to go Broncos to beat the Bulldogs 13 plus. Let's go.
We're looking for one team to win 13 plus.
Correct.
Yeah? Okay. I'm going to take... I'll take Para of the Tigers.
Come on, Rude. Uncouth and rude.
The Tigers.
Take it personally.
I'll give you a bit of thinking time, Timmy. I'm going to jump in and take the Dolphins
13 plus.
13 plus against the Titans.
I'll take Melbourne.
The Panthers going to have their good players in or not?
I
No.
know, Tim, you're on your own, mate.
Hey, come on, mate.
Can't hold your hand for everything.
Panthers v Manly.
Jeez, this could backfire quickly. I'll go Manly 13 plus.
Okay.
Okay, beautiful.
There you go.
We'll lock them in. We'll get the prices up when they come through. But that's
smart,
Face the Music this week, last week of pre-season.
There you go. Face the Music brought to you by our friends at Sportsbet. As usual, thanks for all listening, and we'll go and fuck ourselves. Thank you.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.